This young man suddenly wakes up in a panic. Just a moment ago, he was stabbed in the heart by an enemy, and now he hears strange voices around him. Ha, our son is so good, not crying at all. Laughter and uncontainable happiness fill the air. The scene before him gradually becomes clear. He can see a young couple happily holding his hand. Why are these eyes so bright and beautiful? This child is truly a gift from God to it. What thought he must have misheard? Did they just say he is the child? Clearly, he is already a young man. In confusion, he instinctively starts to struggle. Then he realizes he can't even turn over. The young man in front of him suddenly lifts up and looks at him with pride. He says that he must become a wonderful child and follow in his footsteps in the business career. You will become a talented merchant, just like me. I am your father. Father. Rick has not even had the chance to remember the face of the person before he is pulled into the embrace of the woman beside. Aren't you going to say anything? You will become a great assassin. Come on, Lily. How can you let our youngest become an assassin? It is terrible. If he is a man, he should wield a spear. Rick feels dizzy as that couple starts arguing. Come on, I am the one who should be talking here. In this situation, although it is a bit hard to accept, after a while, you realize that you were reborn in the body of a baby named from the SSS family. The key point is that you were also reborn in the Anthian Empire, country that was your enemy in your past life. Your father in this life is a SSS, a wealthy count and a talented merchant. Your mother is Lily's beautiful and strong woman. From the first time you opened your eyes in this new form, Anne and Lily began arguing about whether their son would become a merchant or an assassin. That debate seems to happen every day. Rick did not find it too hard to understand. It seemed like he was the youngest child, so they wanted him to continue their legacy even more. Today, Count and Countess So brought their youngest son back to the castle after spending time caring for him at the hospital. Looking at the magnificent estate in front of him, Rick, despite being in a child's body, could not help but laugh heartily. It seems like the baby is really happy to be home. Look at how he is smiling. Lily almost gasped. It really is joy, because this time it seems like you were reincarnated in the right. If this is your home, then it will be easier for the military talent hidden in your body to have a chance to show itself. 2 months later, as Rick gradually got used to his identity as a SSS, he also started to babble and learn to speak. He became more familiar with his name as well. This is truly an interesting and strange experience, because during the wandering time in his past life, he had very little contact with children. A few of the kids you met are seriously injured, bandaged up, and crying because they have nowhere to go. Many are crying for their parents. Then they gradually became weak from hunger and left, leaving no trace behind. Compared to that brutal battle, it has now turned into a real paradise, and the SSS family is a warm and wealthy, even though it has been 2 months. Every time I think about not having to worry about food and clothing in this family, I feel incredibly lucky. While Lily is happily watching her son start to babble, barges into the room with a spear. It seems he has not given up on raising his son to be a merchant. It is understandable, since Awakens is the strongest 6th level merchant in this empire. Although he may seem a bit crazy and often gets scolded by his wife, and is a true hero known as the Green Whirlwind. Lily puts her son back in the crib and continues to scold her husband as usual. How can you bring something sharp like that into the baby's room? I just wanted to let him see the spear, I said, and no means no. A needs to have a prominent status, but is still afraid of his wife, because Lily's background is no joke. When she was young, she was the best assassin in the kingdom. They are both the best in their field, so everyone wants their youngest son to carry on their legacy. These arguments happen almost every day. Therefore, has become accustomed to that harmonious family scene. He also understands why his parents are particularly concerned about his future. That is because the 2 older sisters of SSS have chosen a path that has nothing to do with meth or assassin. Right now, you are the only hope to carry on your parents' legacy. Of which, Den's 2 older sisters also really like this little brother, especially Arabella, who has had magical talent since childhood and chose to become a sorceress as she grew up. By the age of 12, she was already a level 3 sorceress, since the highest level for a sorceress is level 9. Arabella became a prodigy by passing the beginner level at such a young age. Den's second sister, Ree, has taken the path of a summoner. She also shines brightly in her field, as she learned the summoning technique at the age of 7. Now, C can control 2 summoned beasts at the same time. First, Den thought Cole did not like, but in the end, she was still young, and that feeling was probably just a bit of jealousy when he was no longer the youngest in the family. It has been 2 months since Den returned from the hospital castle. After all that time together, she has become less shy around him than before, and she even wants to Den the summoning technique. Like, this family is indeed enthusiastic. Everyone wants to share their talents with Den. From the father, who is a level 6 merchant, the mother, who is a former assassin who tried to assassinate the king, to the eldest sister, who is a genius grand sorcerer, and the second sister, who is also a genius summoner. The SSS family truly is a perfect noble family, the ideal family that Den had longed for when he was still a child. Now that Den has what he yearned for in his past life, reality inadvertently raises a question for him. What does revenge mean in this life? Even though your death in the past was tragic, saying you will take revenge on those who defeated you is quite ridiculous. Now that he has become Den, he feels very happy every day, and saying he will take revenge on those who defeated him in his past life truly laugh. The assassin, mages, and summoners are so loud that it is chaos. But this makes Den believe that he truly has a home, quietly enjoys those peaceful days. Although it is very noisy, it is also very happy. Soon after, the first significant event in Den So's life arrived. The SSS family has a special ritual called the selection ceremony. When a child in the family turns 1 year old, they become the main character of this ritual. In front of the child, many objects will be laid out. People will predict the child's future based on the item they choose during the ceremony. Den has also turned 1 year old, and today is his birthday. The townsfolk are curious to see what their little master will choose, while the 2 young ladies are succeeding in the fields of mage and summoner. Lively discussions echo throughout the city, and everyone is looking forward to the selection ceremony. In the castle of Count Set, a large table covered with white silk is set up in the great hall. On it are items symbolizing various professions like mage, assassin, swords, and so on. The noble clan gathers here in large numbers, all wanting to witness the youngest heir of the SSS clan choose his future. If it were a normal child, in this situation, they might just see a lively celebration. For Ian, it is different. Even though he has a child's body, his soul is that of a warrior who has been through many battles, and he has even been defeated once. Under the expectant gazes of everyone, Ian only feels pressure. His father presents him with a spear named Long V. It is made from rare materials. When infused with mana, it becomes heavier and sharp. It is also the spear that has accompanied On for his entire life, and he hopes his son will choose it to inherit his heir's legacy. Meanwhile, his mother Lily brings a dagger named Nam. The material of the dagger combines all the elements in the world. It can hold and mix with various poisons to enhance its power. The two daughters of the SSS family have also joined the race to recruit for their own profession. Therefore, this time Arbella brings a spatial pouch that only wizards or those with magical talent can use. Cole brings a summoning seal that summoners use to call forth their summon. Izin's gaze darts around, feeling even more tense. He feels as if he can hear the thoughts of his family. This is truly troublesome. But with the identity of the young master, he can't avoid it. En begins to crawl forward under everyone's expect. He is very hesitant, unsure of what to choose, and has to rely on the expressions of his family to figure it out. But the strange thing is that when the lamp got closed, all four objects reacted and emitted a blinding golden light. The nobles in the hall started to whisper. They all believed that young Master Sar must be an all-powerful person to have such a reaction with all these objects. The lamp was also very pleased with this surprising phenomenon. In his previous life, he was very skilled on the battle, but it seems that in this life, that talent has been taken to another level. Dad, what should we do? Has anything like this happened before? Al asked anxiously. An shook his head. He had never seen anything like this himself. An looked at his wife, and Lei looked back at that moment. The couple rarely agreed on a decision. Then we will teach the boy all four of them. Arabella and Claire both exclaimed loud. Meanwhile, the one-year-old boy was beaming with joy. It seemed that this was the answer he most wanted from his parents. Just like that, the boy grew up amidst the overflowing hopes of the SSS family. Just as promised on his first birthday, all four of them taught him the best skills in their respect, just like today. And and his son were also busy practicing swordplay at the training ground. The boy's talent remained from his previous life, even flourishing more than before, evidenced by the fact that within just a few years, he had mastered all the sword technique that had once been taught. Kana Sogress also seemed very pleased with this son. The talent that the boy possessed far surpassed that of other children his age, even exceeding that of older children. After two finished sparring with each other, Akin and Han's subordinates came over, carrying a strange spear. This was the birthday gift for the 7-year-old son that Count Akin had worked hard for 2 years, crafted by a famous artisan in the capital. He originally wanted to present it at the official birthday party, but due to his competitiveness with his wife, unintentionally gave it to his son before Lily. Happy early birth, my dear. An's smile was filled with pride and affection, even though he had been in this new identity for 5 years. Each time like this, Zen silently thanked the heavens for giving him such a fortunate life. He immediately dropped the training spear and accepted the gift. Thank Dad. I will take good care of it. The quality of the spear is something you can assess just by looking at it. The body is jet black, securely combined with a sharp silver spearhead that is very aesthetically pleasing. The spear is also very light, making it even easier to handle. It seems he specifically had this spear forged to match his son's physique. Zen was so excited that he swung the spear around wild, his eyes shining with joy, completely forgetting about the son. Do you remember the difference between a spear and a sword? Assumption suddenly asked, then went to take his long spear from the rack. He pretended to think for a few seconds, but actually he remembered everything his father taught. The length of the spear helps the user opponents at bay. Its contact area is also small, which enhances the effectiveness of the attack. An nodded along with every word her son said, but before, he only taught him about the advantages of the spear. While once you reach a certain level, this weapon is much harder to use than a sword. This is the basic issue with a spear. To attack an opponent, you must maintain a minimum distance. But do not worry, every weapon has its own strengths and weaknesses. Even a sword, considered a perfect weapon, has its weaknesses in some cases. I remember. He was very excited. Over the years, parents had taught him a lot, compared to struggling to learn on his own in his past life, trading blood and injuries for experience. He still preferred the feeling of being guided by those who came before him, and needed to firmly spin the long spear in his hand. His father always let him learn theory alongside practice, so right after giving him the new spear, Akin wanted to demonstrate something very interesting for Den to see. With each rotation of 8, the long V-spear radiated a magical aura. Den knew this was not Akin's full power, but it was enough to overwhelm an opponent. After accumulating enough necessary magical power, he stepped forward strongly while thrusting the spear ahead. It was clearly just a thrust into the air, but An could create a shocking explosion. Den was left speechless in astonishment. Is this the power of a level 6 spearman? The reason why the space here is distorted that I have released the mana power in my body and stab at the same time. This is an optimal technique, concentrating mana core properties at one point. I have also heard my 2 older sisters talk about that humans can surpass their physical limit as the number of cores increases. Those limits are also expanded. In my previous life, I had 4 mana cores and was already quite strong. Now I can have 6 cores, so I secretly regret my past identity. If you had not been skewered by that spear, probably would have already reached Akin's level by now. While Den was lost in thought about his past life, Akin suddenly approached and firmly grasped his shoulder. Why do not you try using that new spear in your hand? Relax your mind, forget about what is bothering you, and just thrust the spear forward. An in front of him looks like a solid fortress to Den. Encouraged by his father, he began to grip the spear tightly in his hand. In his previous life, Akin also used a spear, but after realizing his talent for swordsmanship, he lost interest in this weapon. It was only used as a backup. However, after being reborn, it was An who reignited his passion for using the spear once again. Den took a deep breath and held the spear with both hands, closed his eyes, spread his legs apart. The stance he took was quite proper and made him very satisfied. He did not have too much hope that his son succeed on the first try, because even though you have great potential, it took a genius like a 7 years to successfully master that need. Yet, a true miracle has happened. The technique that had trained for over those 7 years was successfully formed on the very first try. Dad was left speechless, both surprised and delighted. How did you do that? I am really amazed. Father, when I thrust the spear, I concentrated my mana into one, then transferred it to the spearhead. When the mana touched the spearhead, cut off the flow. I was increasingly excited to hear that. Wait, you transferred mana into the spear and then cut off the flow. Did you create a mana core? I has already created a mana core early on, but you can tell Dad that you know how to create a core because you died and came back to life once. You can only say that you tried practicing while reading the book on how to open a mana core and got lucky to succeed on the first try. I needs to believe you complete, and of course is very happy. You can even create a mana core just by reading a book. It seems that he has given birth to a true genius. Since it was little, he had high hopes for this youngest son, but now he is certain that in the future, you will definitely become an outstanding warrior. On the official birthday of the Sogress castle was bustling. The nobles gathered early to raise their glasses to celebrate the 7th birthday of the genius youngest son of the saga. And this time, at the party, there was the appearance of someone I could never have expected, the Duke Abuma, who had sent him off to sell salt in his previous life. The relationship between Count Sogress and Duke but seems close. After greeting each other, An called his son over to properly introduce him to But. Upon seeing him again, memories from a past life came rushing back, as if it had just happened yesterday. Is this the son you always brag about? But stroked his beard, while seriously sizing up Den from top to bottom. His name is Den Gra, and it is an honor to meet you. Duke But replied formally, but inside, his anger was boiling over. Den's obedient demeanor pleased great. Then, another mess appeared. Den spotted a shiny pink-haired girl approach. It was Li, the youngest daughter of the Thaman family. After letting the kids greet each other, the two fathers began to huddle in a corner to chat. Late, the wife of the poet Mayan has been falling ill, which worries Duke But immensely. I could only offer him a fitting word, unable to do anything else. While chatting for a bit, but suddenly noticed that Den had vanished. He still had a few things to say to him as a sixth circle knight of the Anthene Empire, because he sensed the talent that Den possessed. But not only was he gone, but even his daughter Lala was nowhere to be found. The two fathers began scanning the area, finally discovered the two kids had sneaked out to the flower garden in the backyard. It seems the two kids are tired of this noisy party. In the flower garden, Lala could not hide her joyful expression at being with Den. I actually do not like going everywhere with my dad, but today, I am happy to. The girl really wanted to compliment, so he looked even more handsome under the moonlight. But to save face, she kept it to herself. Demon was polite in response. After chatting for a bit, Living Law began to wish for a peaceful life like Demon at the Cess Castle. Unlike her poetic family, nobles visited the Duke every day, and even royalty. Every time, Lula had to dress nicely to greet them out of propriety, but what she really wanted was to dress simply and go out to the fencing arena. Den exclaimed, and this seemingly delicate girl turned out to be skilled with a sword. Lilam wanted to prolong the conversation and asked Den what he usually liked to do. I guess I always look forward to practicing my swordsmanship the most. Den replied. First, Lala was surprised that Den had been training with such a heavy weapon since he was little, but she quickly remembered that Lady Stress was a level 6 swordsman. It is common for their family to pass down the lineage. Are you practicing hard because you want to join the academy? I am not training for that reason. Den shook his head. Why not? Isn't it natural to train to join the academy? Lila wondered. Well, I just want to practice so that when I get there, I can do even better. Den answered as if he was sure he would be accepted into the academy. Lila spoke a lot, seeming to admire Den for his confidence. Den also showed that he lived by the motto that failure is the mother of success. This made Lila admire him even more, as in her family of poetry, failure was considered shame, and she feared those words would appear in her life, making her feel that this little girl was quite chatty. You do not understand why the Duke's daughter seems so insecure when her situation is actually fine. Suddenly, Leela feels inspired to show you her swordsmanship. Even though it was late at night, Den reluctantly took Layla to the training yard in the castle. What surprised him was that Layla's swordsmanship was actually quite good, at least from Arg's perspective, who had spent a lifetime training with a sword in a past life. She was graceful in both attack, and her strikes were really well timed. However, after a short while, the atmosphere began to get chaotic. While Den was lost in thought, Lala had already showcased all her skills. The girl looked at Den with an eager expression. What do you think? It was great. Really impressive. Den replied. Really? Lila jumped up. Her eyes sparkled. Den was not usually very talkative, but suddenly he felt he should sincerely give her some advice. Den began to point out all the flaws he had observed in Lily earlier, starting from the third stand. She had been a half step too forward, causing the rhythm of the entire process to become chaotic. Lila's attitude changed in an instant, going from cheerful to clearly off, making him think he had upset, but unexpectedly up her sword again and repeated the moves from earlier. This time, it seemed the outcome was better. Lila was so happy that she rushed over to hug Den, continuously thanking him for helping her recognize her mistakes all this time. You are making it hard for me to breathe. Can you put that sword away? Den quickly pushed Layla away. Although they are just kids now, it is still better for boys and girls. This moment, the servant is searching the castle for the two of them. Den has to return to the main hall because it is time for the gift presentation for the main character. This year, Den's 7th birthday is even more fun because it is also the anniversary of him receiving his first mana core. Aiken and Lily present Den with a formal wooden box. He opens it to find a Gia high pin, something his two older sisters often wear. Be careful with it. This pin will be a testament to your honor and status. Just as Lily finishes, chorus of congratulations erupts from the audience. This is the first time he has received such praise. Even though he has not achieved anything special yet, he finds himself loving this status more and more. Just when everyone is having a good time, a loud bang suddenly erupts. The ceiling starts to shake, causing the guests to panic. They worry that someone has broken in or that someone wants to terrorize the birthday party of the young master. The tremor lasts for about 10 seconds, and even Den starts to worry and look around. But Count So still seems very calm. He thought it would be a peaceful day. Can you guess who it is? Denikin says as if he knows who is causing the trouble. All the guests turn their eyes to the ceiling. From the skylight above, a beautiful figure with shiny golden hair down. The person lands gracefully, ending all the shaking in the room. I check the clock. My sister is not late, is she? So it turns out to be Miss Arabella, and the commotion she just created was due to instant teleportation. This is a type of magic that only mages of level 5 and above can use. Arabella has successfully stolen the spotlight at her younger brother's party as the guests started complimenting her as a genius. Den has long been accustomed to the grand noise of his older sister, so when you say the author of the recent ruckus is her, you would not be too surprised. The room had just settled down for a few seconds when chaos erupted again, because through the window, they saw a whoop appearing in the sky, which is a large dragon species with very strong wings. This time, the guests immediately recognized the newcomer as Miss G. I suppose I arrived a bit late. G flung open the hall door and in. The guests' attention shifted from Arabella to Guj. They had heard that she was a genius summoner, but it is truly amazing that someone so young could dominate even we. Den's two older sisters were fully present, standing before their little brother, and they all said in unison, they did not just say that. Each of them pulled out a very large gift and insisted Den open them right. Dad felt a bit left out seeing this scene. He remembered that on his previous birth, his two daughters only gave him a single letter. Den opened the gift from his oldest sister, and inside was a ring. Is this a spatial bag? Dean was amazed. Exact. Arabella excitedly said she had designed this herself and asked her professor to use the highest level space magic created. So she was very tough. You know how difficult it is to apply space magic to an item. Yet she even specially paired this ring with the highest level magic for you. Give me your hand. Let me put it on for you. Arabella happily slid the ring onto Duen's thumb. She had specifically incorporated her brother's genetic code into this, so no one else could use it. The face of the ring was a high-level magic stone, radiating a gentle wave of mana. Even Mother Lily had to admire the gift that her eldest daughter gave to her brother. From now on, you just need to channel a bit of mana into the ring, and it will create a pocket dimension. You won't have to fuss with opening and closing your bag anymore. This is truly something very valuable. It is an item that only the wealthy can use on the battle, like noble commanders or powerful mates. So I never thought I would get to use something like in either this life or my past life. But right now, because you have an older sister who is a genius or you gotta have it. Moreover, this ring also adjusts its size as you grow up, so you can use it for life. Can't wait to channel mana into the ring, and that created a small explosion. Lily's parent, along with her two older sisters and the Thameen family nearby, were all amazed by this action of Yen. You opened the space even faster than your sister. You really are a genius. Arabella exclaimed excitedly. After opening the gift from the eldest sister, Zen continued with Ji's gift. Inside was an egg, with a question mark appearing on top. Ji leaned in and explained that this is not an ordinary egg, but a spirit beast. She had once tried to summon Decaren, and this appeared during one of those attempts. She was not sure what kind of beast be summoned, but everyone knew it was valuable. Xian lifted the egg in his hand, even afraid to breathe too hard. He had heard about this before. A spirit beast is different from a summoned beast. While they have some similarity, they are completely different, and a spirit beast, once summoned, can exist permanently in this world, which is the biggest difference from summoned beast. No one knows about it yet. Right. Only you know about it. So keep it a secret until it hatches. Okay, definitely. Even nodded vigorous. Fact. Even Cole did not know when this would hatch. You can only remind to transfer mana to the egg every day. Once in the morning and once in the evening, it can accept you as its master. What are you two whispering about for so long? Arabella yelled impatient at this point. Ji finally whispered in his younger brother's ear. They were all studying at the academy, but they were wasting their precious time coming back here to attend their younger brother's birth, and even prepared a very elaborate. Just these two things are enough to show how important their youngest sibling is. Atsinkan felt a bit offended seeing the two girls' gazes entirely focused on, cleared his throat a few times and said reproach. All right, my two princesses, I am very glad you returned even though you said you did not have time, but should not you greet your parent? Arabella then realized she had neglected her father. While focusing too much on her younger brother, she quickly smiled to appease him. The Countess Sogress was very indulgent with her children, so she did not blame them. The family of five was reunited in great joy and happiness. Amid the noisy laugh, Ian suddenly noticed Alvala hiding in the crowd. For some reason, at that moment, Ian felt she was oddly lonely. Ian's birthday party ended successfully. Then his father temporarily stayed in the Sar castle. The next morning, the Duke woke up very early and took a stroll around the ground. The bright appearance of Arabella the night made him ponder all night long. She is even more amazing than he expected. Arabella truly deserves the title of the best wizard in the academy, and because of this, Suman chose her to be his daughter-in-law, because his eldest son is also the most outstanding young swordsman in the academy. If there is a happy marriage between the Thumb family and Sos, it will create a strong force even the royal family would not dare to touch. At that point, no one could mess with the descendants of the Thammain family anymore. That is what the Duke desired, and so, he decided to bring up this engagement with An in today's conversation. Suddenly, the Duke heard a commotion coming from the training room. Curious about who was training so early in the morning, he headed in that direction. In the training room, the boy was practicing with a spear, risking his life, drenched in sweat soaking his shirt, since successfully opening the mana core. His attack power had increased significantly. Added to that, with An guiding him since child, the boy seemed to be developing his spear skills more and more. The Duke peered through the door, only daring to sneak a glance. The scene of the boy training so intensely truly surprised, because whether in movement or concentration, he was nothing like a 7-year-old at all. Even the simple thrusts appeared so skillful that even soldiers who had been through countless battles could not execute them as perfect. The Duke had heard rumors the youngest son of Count Sogress had already shown remarkable talent at just 1 year old, but up until now, he only considered those to be idle words and never really believed them. Seeing this scene today, he realized that people were not lying at all. Den is still training very serious, while Duke is carefully observing every move he makes. Suddenly, he was a bit taken aback because he noticed that Den's stance and movements quite similar to that of a swordsman. The important thing is that movement feels incredibly familiar, but temporarily could not remember where he had seen it before. Could it be that Den has already learned swordplay at such a young age? He murmured, and finally, Den's actions came to a halt. Even though his eyes had never looked in But's direct, he had actually noticed someone standing there for quite a while. Even though I do not know who you are, it is best if you show yourself instead of hiding there. Being discovered and addressed like this by a kid made Duke but a little uneasy. Sorry, I did not mean to spy on you, Duke. Denthu hurriedly ran over. Although he looked just like a child, could not shake the feeling that he was no ordinary kid, especially with those sharp eyes that clearly conveyed, I was so caught up in watching your beautiful training this morning that I forgot to greet. Please forgive me, but said, sure, I forgive you, just calmly responding. Beat laughed, feeling that this kid had quite some gut. Then he noticed Ian had been training for a long time at a very high intensity, yet now your body is not trembling at all, and your breathing is quite stable. Thinking back to when I was 7 like you, I could not even open the mana core yet. Your recent thrust was excellent. You have definitely inherited a Seacullen's talent. By the way, that spear you are holding. Yep. Someone told me that my father put a lot of effort into preparing this new spear for me. I am very grateful that you recognized it. Ian politely bowed his head in response, and Bit smiled with satisfaction. Not only were Yen's martial skills good, but his manners also stood out compared to other 7-year-olds. The Duke was quite pleased with this kid. In his mind, he was already considering another marriage alliance between the two families, that of Zen and his youngest daughter, of Law. Thinking that, Bit smoothly brought up a Lidlau in front of Zen, mentioning that she was also training with a sword, and after joining the academy, they could become good. I will definitely treat her well. Den is smiling bright. Beat is starting to really like this kid's straightforward personality. Seeing that the conversation had dragged on, he had planned to leave and give the space back to the kid. However, just as he was about to step away, could not hold back his curiosity and turned back to ask, I just wonder, have you ever practiced sword fighting before? Its tone was light, but it made Den feel uneasy. Could he have noticed Kid's habit when he was the swordsman Rick? Yeah. Surprisingly, he recognized it just from a brief glance, but Den was not too worried. How could Beat think that someone who sacrificed themselves under his sword could be reincarnated as a child? child. Den replied calmly, I have only read a few books on basic swordsmanship, but I have never practiced sword fighting. I see. Felt that Den did not seem to be lying. But if that is the case, it was really strange, because he swore he had felt something like pure battle spirit in every movement of it, but in the end, chose to set that thought aside, because to him, after all, Den was just a kid. Then the two really said goodbye to each other. Dad was also preparing to leave the SSS castle to return home in the capital. Before leaving, B reminded Den that if he ever came to the capital, he should remember to find him. It was not an insincere invitation. It was because he particularly liked it. Beat's figure gradually faded. Den broke into a strange smile. This feeling is really interesting. You are not sure if the pen remembers the swordsman Rick who was defeated by you, but it seems like you have found your target. It is to defeat the one who once defeated you. Just thinking about that is enough to make your blood boil. If you take your time to prepare step by step, you will definitely make that arrogant guy submit to your weapon one day. Black continues to train without noticing the time until his close servant speaks up to remind, young master, it is time to go home. Have you been waiting for me this whole time? It is my duty to quietly meet all your requests. I'm just handed Den a towel to wipe his sweat while speaking. Den feels that this guy is even more suited to be an assassin than he is. He has been waiting for you this whole time, and you did not even notice. According to M, everyone in the SSS castle is very busy right now, because the next banquet will soon take place in the castle. Still part of the series of celebration Den's 7th birthday, and many nobles have already gathered castle. As for his two older sisters, they have a midterm exam coming up, so they opened the teleport gate to return to the academy without having the chance to say goodbye to Den. He obediently followed M back to the room to wash up and change into a more suitable outfit. After that, Den joined his parent guest. Although this did not take much effort to training, it made him feel even more exhausted. His social schedule is even more packed than usual, because it is his birthday. As soon as he has a little free time, he will sneak out to the garden to rest for a bit. While admiring the flowers, he suddenly remembers something Arbella once told him, that in nature, flowers contain a lot of mana. With some time on his hand, he sits down to analyze the mana of the roses in front of him. Den closed his eye, focused his mind, and felt. Recently, alongside practicing swordsmanship, he also tried to train in magic and summoning spell, but there was no significant progress. That is why Den is still unsure about which field to concentrate on. Sometimes, being too talented can be troublesome. Putting those worries aside, Den continued to feel the mana of the rose. It was surprising that even a small flower contained such a powerful, fierce flow of mana. Den had heard Arabella say that if someone could sense the mana in nature and turn it into their own mana, then that mana would settle in their body and become a layer of magic. Den could not only sense the mana of the rose garden, but his body was almost automatically absorbing their mana. Perhaps this was a significant breakthrough in Den's study of magic. Previously, he could only sense mana very vague, but now he was increasingly sensing it more clearly. This process was going very well, but suddenly the flow of mana from the garden into Den's body was interrupted. He felt like he had tripped, which was incredibly before Den could understand what was happening. He heard two children's voices nearby. This is so boring. As soon as we got here, Dad was busy talking to other nobles. He has sidelined us. After showing our faces to everyone, we will just go back to our room like before. Is that okay with you? You are acting like it is our birthday or something. Who cares? Do you think the young master of the SSS family would care about? Turns out the flow of mana is interrupted because the two kids do not realize they are stepping on someone's rose garden. They seem to be lost. After wandering around for a while, they spotted Zien standing alone in the flower garden. Hey you. The older brother spoke up. That outfit makes you look like a servant, does not it? But whatever. Anyone can do it. Just hurry up and take me to the exit. He looked extremely arrogant. As soon as he saw Den, he rushed over, telling Den to get out of the rose garden. But these two were angry, just because he dared to shout in their face when they stepped on a few flowers, small but with a big mouth. Do you know who I am? Den did not care whose child this was. He only cared that these two idiots not take the wide path and insisted on trampling the rose bushes in the garden. He stood confident, even though he was much smaller than those two kids. The older brother thought Den was just a servant, so when he saw Den acting so arrogant, he rushed over and grabbed Den by the collar, starting to threaten. He claimed to be the son of Count Tyron, a distinguished guest of the castle today. The name Tyron left everyone stunned. Few seconds. He was the one Den captured in a past life after losing a disastrous battle on the battlefield. Tyron was not liked by the people because of his unpleasant personality. Meeting the old man's son today made him acknowledge one thing: like father, like son. Even in the southern countryside, you must have heard of the Tyron family, right? They are quite famous in the capital. My family can make someone like you disappear without a trace, so watch your word. The guy grabbed his collar and raised his, looking nothing like someone who was just trying to scare. Seeing that the opponent wanted to physically confront him, Zen knew that talking seriously with him was pointless. If negotiation was not an option, then the only way left was to use, but Zen was smaller than, so he thought of a plan. Zane tilted his head back to gather momentum, then slammed his forehead hard into the opponent's face. The hit was so strong that it made that older brother stagger backward and fall flat on his back, blood starting to pour from his nose. His younger brother was also very shocked. To them, Zen was just a servant, so who would have expected a servant to act so bold? I will take your life, you damn servant, he yelled, but Zane just felt like he was hearing a joke. What? You think you can take my life? Then give it a try. Even though the guy's nose was still bleeding profusely, he still rushed forward reckless because he was intimidated by Zine. It is just a shame he did not know he had a hornet's nest. So even though he was small, he was quick on his feet. Moreover, his spirit belonged to an experienced swordsman, so he definitely would not let himself be outmatched by this knave kid. Based on the opponent's footstep, it was easy to tell he was not someone who usually used weapons, so he was probably a mage or summoner. One side continued to attack, while the other fluidly defended. The speed of the boy is as fast as a squirrel, making it impossible for his opponent to catch up with his movement. As for the boy, after dodging more than a dozen punches from that stupid guy, he was also a bit tired of just dodging like this. The boy remembered the flow of magic from the flower garden he saw earlier. What if he could control that magic with his will? Could he transform it into a physical form? This thought in mind, the boy immediately began to experiment. His left hand glowed. That was truly the power of mana. The boy raised his hand and struck the air, but that strike, infused with strong mana, hit his opponent's chest, sending him flying nearly 10 meters away. His younger brother, seeing his older brother being thrown back, hurried over, not caring about his brother's injury. After all, he brought this upon himself. He only regretted that the rose garden had been completely destroyed. The older son of the Tyron family struggled to push himself up from the ground. The anger within him erupted even more fierce. You bastard, he shouted. You can use magic. Who the hell are you? Seeing fearing things getting out of hand. His younger brother intervened. The kid did not want things to get worse, but the eldest son of the tyrant family was just as irritable as his father. After being hurt by the boy, he could not take it anymore and staggered to his feet. "Get out of the way. I'm going to take that bastard's life." Then he tilted his head back and shouted, "Hear my call." Finally, it became clear that the eldest son of Count Tyron was a summoner. At his command, Fierce Wolf appeared, along with the growl of the wolf. His crisp laughter rang out. "This is the Jin and Poo I summoned. You are going to regret messing with this drawn tyrant." Jinpu, "Tear it apart for me." Den nodded. "Turns out his name is Daigen. If he does not introduce himself, you will just have calling him an idiot. The drone summoned is just an ordinary wolf, yet he thinks he can act tough in the house of the genius Clawster." The summoner was able to summon a dragon at just 16 years old. The wolf threw its head back and let out a long howl, then charged at Den to attack. You stood still. Not that you did not know what to do, but you had already thought of a countermeasure. But the reality was that before Den could even make a move, the wolf suddenly stopped. Then it slowly approached you and started wagging its tail. 3 people at the scene all looked surprised. The wolf no longer listened to Dai. Instead, it was trying to win you over. You reached out to pet its head, and it seemed Jinpu was really enjoying it, so you swore you had not even done anything yet. Just thinking back now, it seems the summoned beast had called were also quite friendly with you. At that time, you simply thought it was because you shared the same bloodline with. But in this situation, you had nothing to do with that annoying guy Daigen. Den felt that it might be due to his high favorability, or that the son of the Tyrant family had such low favorability the summoned beast turned against him. Daigen could not accept this truth, but now that even the summoned beast gone, he truly could not do anything else. Moreover, his younger brother had already been scared to the point of wetting his pants. This situation was too embarrassing for a noble. Daigen could not just pretend he did not see in fighting. List the bathroom on the first floor of the main building. Hurry up. As he said this, Daigen grabbed his brother Dina's hand and pulled him away, still mumbling threats about coming back to settle the score. Den stood, unsure of how to deal with this silly dog. After this unintended fight, you almost understood how to connect with the summoned beast. The process was actually simpler than you thought. Den thought just like Claire had taught him. Plus, the faint connection between DG and Jen, using his magic to carefully overwrite that master-servant relationship, allowed Jinpu to quickly connect. This is truly something unexpected when you have no connection to the summoning technique. Yet just because you have a high affinity, you can summon a beast. While Den was enjoying the feeling of being in a new position as a summoner, he heard a middle-aged man's voice. "Is that the kid who bullied you?" Den turned around. Sure enough, Drone was back to settle the score with, but he played the snitch card, bringing Count Tyron along. He was still as big and clumsy as Den remembered. This idiot is making a big deal out of it again, he thought to himself. Meanwhile, Drone was rambling on about Den's. Clearly, he was the one who started it, but he told his dad that Den was the one bullying and Dena's little brother. Then he forced the cancellation of the connection between him and Jen, and Count Tyron was just a foolish guy. In that situation, could not tell right from wrong. He could only listen to one side from his son. "His name is Moget Tyron, the head of the great Tyron family. You are the kid who made my son look like this and stole his summoned beast." "That is right." Den was not scared at all in reply. In fact, he was a bit distracted by the opponent's oversight. Looking close, Tyron was even fatter than when Den took him prisoner. It seems he has been living a boring, peaceful life all these years. Moget stepped forward a few, rudely pointing his finger at Den. "As a guest, possible, I would let it go, but this is something that cannot be ignored. Why is a kid like you here all alone? Hurry up and tell me who you are." Den sighed. He did not intend to show off, but since the other person pressed, he had to flex a little to scare them. "I am the youngest son of Awakens, the Lord of the South, and the current head of the Sawgrass Count family." The Tyrant father and son were shaken by this state, especially Daigen. How could he imagine that the kid he had just beaten and scolded was actually the young master of this castle? The atmosphere seemed to freeze, and the situation had turned, so they wanted to take this opportunity to pressure the Tyrant family and use it as an excuse to demand mining rights. The determined look on his face turned haughty. Grit his teeth. This arrogant kid, grinding his teeth, thought to himself, "I am not here in this remote southern area just to wish you a happy birthday." Even though he was very afraid of affecting the relationship between the two families, he did not want to bow down to a 7-year-old like Den. So Moget pulled his eldest son over and demanded an explanation for injuring a valued guest at his birthday and stealing his summoned beast. "I will talk to Count Says and demand he take responsibility," Mogat threatened. And of course he was not scared at all, especially since Mogat was a defeated foe under my hands in a past life. "I need an apology." "Come and say it." "What? Sorry, that is so lame." Mogat put on a demeanor as if he had just heard a joke. Den did not deny that he had hit Daigon, causing him to get hurt, but his actions were just self. Furthermore, Den did not steal his summon. Clearly, Jinep willingly followed him. Mog fell silent. He just remembered that So's daughter was a genius summoner. He was sure that she had taught Den a few tricks to sever the bond between her son and the summoned, and just considered Den's self-defense as justified. But Mogat still felt that he was too arrogant for his disrespectful attitude towards adults. Seeing that Den did not seem cooperative, Mogus decided not to talk to him anymore. Instead, he was looking forward to making things count. Just as he mentioned Kaka had already arrived. It seems that the servant reported the commotion in the flower garden, which is why On came. Following him was the Duke of Poetry, so it was thought he had taken his daughter back to the capital. But since he was still at the castle today, something important must have happened. Seeing Aiken appear, both father and son Mogat began to tremble. Count On was someone who cared deep for his family, but he was not the type to show favoritism. Therefore, Ain still gave Daigen a chance to recount the recent situation once again. Of course, when that jerk retold it, he added his own embellish, so it was surprising to see him lie with such a straight. He was sure that in the future, Digron would not fare any better than his father. After Digron finished whining, Mogas also started to add his own embellish. He believes that Ain needs to raise his son carefully, because stealing someone else's summoned beast is wrong. Count Stress is a fair and level-headed person, so he can't just listen to one-sided accusation. On wants to hear the story through the liar's word, then evaluate the whole situation before drawing a conclusion on this matter. Of course, if he is worried about my decision, I will suggest that the Duke of the Poetry region give his opinion. Can be added. If you need me, then go ahead and decide that way. This is not what Mogat wants. Thinks that the poet Duke's intervention will only complicate things more. He begins to have a bad feeling about that men will eventually run out of argument and be the one who has to apologize. So he starts recounting the details of what just happened. In the story that Drone just told, there are some truth, but he does not mention that the origin of the problem was him trampling Stress's flower garden, including the fact that he angrily grabbed Den's collar, along with the insults and disdain he showed towards Core. It also includes includes the fact that when summoning that wolf Jinyu, he ordered it to take your life. As for why Jinyu left Daigen, Din is also not clear about that. You just insist that you did not steal the summoned beast. Perhaps wolf saw your kindness and Digron's cruelty, which is why it decided to change master. Den speaks very slowly but also very clearly, without discussing whether what you said is true or not. The writer is very surprised that a 7-year-old like you can express yourself fluently from start to finish like that. Quite different from the stuttering demeanor of Tyron's son earlier. Mog replied sharply. There is no way a non-summoner could have a summoned beast, right? That kid must have used some secret skill. It is because she has a natural affinity with the summoned beast. A summoned beast that is not close to its master will accept someone like her as its owner. Mog feels that what you just said is just nonsense, and she also finds this a bit hard to believe. Clara, the Duke asks you to prove this with the summoned beast. You can actually summon it. That proves you can summon even if you are not a summoner. Hearing this, Daigen's face turned pale, because he can't summon Genba. Of course, he can't summon it. Daigen accuses you of stealing his summoned beast, but in reality, followed you on its own, and you have completely severed its bond with Dad. Then I am going to start the summoning now. But to do that, it seems I need the summoning sigil possessed. Hearing this, Daigen easily jumped up. I can't believe you want my summoning sigil. What nonsense are you talking? Each summoner has a unique sigil, and even if others know it, it won't work. Based on what you said, even if that kid uses your sigil, it won't have any. Well, trying a little won't hurt. Aiken's words are very calm, carry a hint of threat. He was not wrong at all. So Tyron and his son could not refute that. Although they did not want, under the pressure from the adult, Digron ultimately had to compromise. He then presented his summoning sigil. This is the most unique summoning sigil that a summoner carved or awakening. Therefore, no one else can use it. However, with Black, it was different. Digron's wolf Jinyu was enveloped in his magic. This unique sigil was merely a means for it to respond to his call. After a moment of mental focus, Black indeed successfully summoned it. Much to everyone's astonishment, Tyron and his son were left gaping in shock, repeatedly mumbling, "No way. That is amazing." He said the boy has never studied summoning magic. Penap, unsure of what had happened since Black had successfully summoned Gem, making justice seem to lean toward him. The Count requested an appropriate explanation from the opposing father and son. Count Mogat knew he was at a loss for words, so he had to set aside the matter of summoning beast. Seemed we had misunderstood about the summoning beast being stolen by his son, but my son had no intention of taking Black's life. Quickly nodded like he was chopping wood, saying that he only wanted to scare Black a little, not to endanger his life. The Count of So and Duke the Mun did not believe the words of this father and son duo. But anyway, at today's bank, the Tyron family was a distinguished, so they temporarily found themselves in a dilemma, unsure of how to resolve the situation. And just then, the girl Lala appeared. He is lying. Her determined stance and tone do not match her small frame at all. Walked over, politely greeting Anne and Tyron's father. This was also the first time Mogat saw the Duke's daughter. Unfortunately, during their first meeting, this little girl bluntly called out his son. Lolly stepped in front of An and started explaining her earlier abrupt remark. In fact, she had accidentally overheard the conversation, or more precisely, the argument between Zai Yen and Digron while strolling in the flower garden. Hearing her say that jerk was so scared he was sweating bullets when he should have had the advantage. But after Lo recounted the entire story she heard, Digron's defenses completely crumbled. In the end, he had to bow his head low and apologize to Count An. It was not with a very willing mindset. After apologizing to Count Sagret, Digron also had to apologize to the young master of the So family. After all, this was a grudge he had caused against him. Standing in front of a kid who was as tall as 3 stalks of garlic, Daigen really did not want to apologize at all, but he still had to force himself to say the 3 words, "I am sorry." Everyone here, even a child like Lila, understood it was not really an apology. It was just that Digron was accused by a third-party witness, so he had no other choice. Because of that, An was not really satisfied with this resolution and felt a similar resentment as his father. But based on your experience, instead of stubbornly handling the situation, it would be better for you to show generosity here. Fine, I accept your apology. When he opened his mouth, he spoke with an imposing tone, receiving forgiveness from Den. The 2 Tyron family members sighed in relief. The Ses family is the most powerful in the south, not easy to provoke. Den really wants to pursue this matter to the end. The Tyron family might face a storm, but nodded, as if he had guessed that Den would do that from the beginning. He knew you were very special. Clearly, Den could stubbornly throw a tantrum like a typical 7-year-old, because the fault clearly lies with the other side, but you generously forgave him like an adult. Seeing her son understanding like that, Titsune Stress was very pleased. He also respected his child's decision, but just thinking about that bastard trying to kill his beloved son, the summoned beast, made Aiken's anger rise again. That guy pushed him. He could not just let this go easily. Even though it was late, Aiken bluntly kicked the Tyron family out of his castle. This was clearly a huge insult to Mogat. After all, he had made the effort to travel from the capital to here, and of course, not just to celebrate Den's birth. If he got kicked out now, everything would be for nothing. Mogat had to stay at the Stress Castle at least not to get kicked out right now. Thinking of that, the guy threw away all his dignity and pride, lunged forward, and grabbed his hand to apologize. The Count of Tyron also promised to do anything Aiken asked, but unfortunately, powerful Stress's family did not need anything from the Tyron family. Anne's father's attitude was extremely cold. Lily's mother were here. Her expression would not be any better. Who told the son of Mugach to mess with their precious son? I will soon send soldiers to his room. Swatted the hand away angrily and declared, then turned back to the pen. Your Grace. Penthomian nodded, then led Lai along. The 4 of them left together. He glanced back and saw Dron being fiercely scolded by his father. He felt no pity at all, only that both father and son deserved. They were the ones who caused trouble, so this was just reaping what they sowed. However, he just did not expect one thing, that who was always laughing and often scolded by his wife, could be so terrifying when angry. On the way back to the room, Oof could not help curious and asked about the incident earlier. His daughter Lala had told him that he could knock Daigen away with a spell. This was truly unprecedented in the history of the Enthean Empire, and even in other kingdoms. When a child appeared who could wield a spear, knew summoning magic, and now could use spells, and could not hide his satisfied smile. To be honest, ever since his first birth, he has witnessed all 4 objects responding to him. But as he grew a little older, gradually revealed his abilities in many areas. He was still surprised. The important thing is that talent is one thing, but your calm demeanor is another that caught my attention. Normally, when kids fight, they get really tense and are determined to come out on top, but it was not like that with him. Because of his behavior, I am even more certain that he will grow up to be a great man. It is still too early to say anything. any. He patted his head and humbly replied, "We will have to wait until the kid really grows up to know for sure." That said, he also had to thank the girl a lot. If she had not shown up today and testified, things might have gone a different way. I feel that this relationship is quite harmonious, so I gently brought up the idea of an arranged marriage. This blunt attitude of mine startled Count Akan. He only had one son, so marriage had to be handled carefully. Moreover, the boy is only 7 years old. Talking about marriage seems a bit too early, so Akan started to change the subject to avoid this issue. "Oh no, the dinner party is about to start. I need to head out to prepare." After saying that, On took off quickly like the wind. Duke but did not expect him to react this way. After reminding his daughter to head back slowly he also hurried after Round. "Hey, wait a minute, let us talk for a bit." The pen chased after Round while calling out. The two adults had left, leaving only the two children. Meanwhile, Lella's face turned red from what her father just said. She had to find something to say to break the awkward silence. Lovin brought up the issue of Drone's beast summoning to ask. She found it very confusing that Genpu had ignored her master to listen. While in the capital, Leela had witnessed many battles between famous summoners, but he had never encountered a situation like this. Den was reluctant to answer back. He did not know how to respond, so he could only mumble a few words and brush the topic aside. "What is going on? You are hiding something, not you. That is really unfair. I helped you early." Leela pouted as she said it. "Unfair? I have helped you before too. Didn't I point out your mistake when you were practicing swordplay?" Leela chuckled as she recalled that. She felt that what Den said made sense, so she did not insist on him explaining the beast summoning anymore. He had to admit that La De La had helped him a lot this time. "But about the Jinyu, that is something you really do not know. So let us consider that we have exchanged favors once, and later we can still help each other out," you said. Hearing you say that, Lala was very excited, but she wanted Ziyen to help her right now. Seeing her eager expression, it looked like she was about to come up with some weird request. And sure enough, Lolwinla later asked you to teach her how to use the mana strike like you did to knock Grown away earlier. The reason was simple. Even though Lolo is a swordswoman, she still wants to be more skilled, and importantly, she wants to open at least 2 mana cores before joining the academy. So she does not understand. Even though your soul is that of a grown man, your age is still quite young. Of Law, on the other hand, has both a body and a soul of a 7-year-old child. So why should she be in such a hurry? Noticing the confusion in Zine's eye, Lolwinla explained that she wanted to become skilled to make her mother happy. "You know, my mom loves me very much. She would definitely be very happy if he became more skilled." Yin fell silent. It seemed he understood the issue. In their first meeting the day before, he had also heard his father at sea mention Countess from the southern region was seriously ill and might pass away at any moment. If that is then Den can't refuse Leela's request. After getting your approval, Lilo was so happy that she almost jumped for joy. "Really? Then let us get started tomorrow. I will be here until then. Or do you want to start tonight?" "Alright, whatever works. Creating a mana strike is not hard once you understand the flow of mana." Lala's excited demeanor really made Den feel overwhelmed. While the two kids had not returned yet, the dinner party had already begun. Den's birthday party dragged on because there were too many guests coming from all over the kingdom, so they could not accommodate everyone in one day. But no matter who the guests were, they definitely loved to gossip. Indeed, the topic of conversation at the dinner party was mostly about Count Tyrant being expelled from the castle. They even managed to catch up on how Grown Tyrant caused trouble with the young Master Den and got taught a lesson. Honestly, it is embarrassing that they traveled all the way just to cause such a stir. Also, have you heard the rumor that the young Master Den is an extraordinary summoner like his older sister? The guests began to murmur in excitement at this news. They already knew Den had a talent for using charm. He is also skilled in summoning. Then the Sres family has indeed found a bright gem. The rumors did not stop there. The guests even caught wind of how Den used magic to drive Grown away. Although no one can verify the authenticity of the rumor, most people have assessed him as an exceptional talent, skilled in many fields. Just as Den returned from the party, an older man approached him to strike conversation. This man introduced himself as Baron Open and asked Den if he knew anything about his eastern territory. "I know a little bit, Sir Baron." Den nodded respectfully in reply. "I have heard that it is famous grilled salmon and sapphire stone." "Ha, you are quite a bright young man." Baron Open burst out laughing. "Our Open family is salmon and sapphire are the best on this continent." Of course, he did not come just to brag about his hometown delicacy. The Open family, like the Thermian family, has their eyes on Den because of his extraordinary talent, and he came to chat to introduce his daughter to Den, Miss Sivio. Den clearly seemed a bit and he felt even more awkward when Sivia suddenly approached and whispered to ask he was the future heir of the Sres family. After all, Den was the only son in his family. This was quite easy to get, but in this situation, it would be better to remain humble. "Right, I do not really know about that. Come on, do not play coy with I have heard you are quite talented in many fields." Saying this, she excitedly grabbed Den's hand. "Please take care of After all, in the future, it is quite possible that we could become family." Den was thrown off by her reaction. What is going on in this day and age? It is not just the nobles hinting at wanting to form a connection with Onsra. Even kids are being this straightforward now. What makes it worse for Den is that Lela shows up right then and chooses to capture the moment of him shaking hands with Sinvia. Sinvia recognized Lady Lela, daughter of the Duke, immediately and took the initiative and introduced herself. Lela responded to, but while she smiled and chatted on the outside, she was quietly evaluating the other girl inside. Caught between the two little ladies, he could sense the familiar tension among them. Just like how big sister Arabella and second sister Claire often tease each other at home, girls really are the scariest creatures in the world. To assert that she had already claimed it, Lela grabbed his arm. "Sorry, but I need to borrow Den for a bit. We have an appointment." "Right." Lela's demeanor at that moment truly terrified Den. He nodded like he was chopping wood, scared of upsetting. "It seems like these lionesses are even scarier than the enemy on the battle." He said he had to apologize to Miss Sinvia, that they would talk later. Sinvia's face clearly showed disappointment, but to maintain the poise of a noble lady, she did not dare show that she was too upset for long. Lela pulled Den into a corner and bluntly asked if Sinvia was there to discuss the engagement. Den quickly shook his head, explaining that they were just greeting each other. That is when Lovelaw's facial muscles relaxed and her expression brightened a bit. The Yin promised to teach Lila how to create magic spells, so he took the find a secret corner in the castle that no one bothered to look at. Although it looked gloomy, the Yin liked it very much because here, they would not be disturbed by anyone. Lela stepped in and began to glance around. "This is amazing. I did not think there would be a place like this in the Count's castle. It seems like no one will know what we are going to do here." "Right, that is right. This is the perfect place to practice." Speaking of which, Izin goes straight straight to the main topic. You need to know if Lila has ever felt magic before. She thinks for a moment, and then answers a bit hesitant. It is not enough to create a mana core, but I have tried to absorb mana by breathing in. Ian pondered. So this girl has not entered the awakening stage yet. You learned early on the battle in your past life. Ian thought the Duke would teach his daughter, but it turns out she is like a blank slate now. That is the case. Ian has to teach her from the very basics. She needs to feel the mana that she is absorbed into her body. To do this, the most important thing is to visualize. Close your eye and imagine that mana is flowing through your body. This is not hard for Izan, and he is sure it won't be difficult for the Duke's daughter either. After all, a child of noble lineage should resemble their parents in some way. With such a talented father, how could his daughter be useful? Lila focuses on following Ian's instructions, but after a while of silence, she can only sigh heavily and say it seems like it is not working. I did not expect you to succeed right away. I told you to focus and try again, but I did not realize that this place I thought no one cared about would catch the attention of the owner of Ala Yuzli. I do not know when it happened, but An was carefully tucked away in a corner, observing. Even though his son is still young, he already knows how to teach others. This is enough to make a father like him feel very proud. And An was not the only one sneaking around here, because the pen appeared behind him suddenly. What is he doing here? Oh my, your grace, you nearly gave me a heart attack. It is not that surprising. But why are you here? Is there a couple secretly dating late at night? Pen just casually asked, but actually already knew everything. He also criticized his old friend for having no talent for hiding. Even though his wife is the most famous former assassin in the dynasty, the owner of the castle is sneaking around spying on other people's business. They will speak ill of. What are you sneaking around for? Old friend, I need this area. I am just following my son. Pen exclaimed that coincidentally. He was also here because he was tailing his daughter. A still felt quite off after the pen mentioned the marriage between the two families. Well, we are already here. The two leaned in together to see what the kids were doing. They were still focused on teaching Lila to sense magic, completely unaware of the two parents. While you raised your hand high, Lola suddenly noticed the ring on your index finger. Do you have a space bag? Yeah. My sister made it for me and gave it to me as a birthday gift 2 days ago. Lola gasped in surprise, feeling a bit envious of Xian in this regard, because after joining the academy, her brothers stopped paying attention to her. Ian nodded while taking out a full-length mirror from the storage, which left Lila puzzled. You explained that visualizing something in your head is easier when looking in the mirror, instead of just using your imagination. La giggled, then took the initiative to step in front of the mirror and try again. The girl at home is not usually this open, it suddenly said, with a tone that was both happy and bittersweet. Xian found it confusing. Was something going on? I clearly see the girl as a bright child. The face of Duke Butt was now clouded. Indeed, from the outside, everyone thinks like a, but even her father is not sure about the girl's inner. After her brothers left home to attend the academy, Duchess the Mean fell ill and was bedridden, leaving her with less time to be with her than before. This made Alala more and more withdrawn and to open up to others. The more Beach spoke, the sadder he seemed. An did not know how to comment, only able to listen silently as he continued his story. When I raised the boy, I paid a lot of attention to them, and as they grew up, they became spoiled. But do not lumply lion with the little one will be hurt. It seems like the pen is subtly hinting that An does not want to intermarry out of concern. Lilo might be like brother, but hearing the pen complain like that, he slowly feels he should evaluate the girl in a different light. By the way, An is about to send his son to the academy in the cap, and the pen has proactively offered him to stay in his mansion instead of the school dormitories. While the two were talking over here, Lila has successfully sensed the mana in her body. Seeing her happy expression, it looks like she is preparing to leap into his arms once again. Meanwhile, An has also made a decision in response to the Duke's invitation. I will let my son decide for himself, just as I let Arabella and Claire decide their own life. However, he wants to go to the capital. I will definitely do as you say. It would be great if you came by there. Please. I am not going to argue with you all day like this. I give it. While the two kids are overjoyed because Lila has successfully sensed magic, the two fathers are here bickering, and the whole scene has been witnessed by Lily Stress. They disappeared from the middle of the dinner party, which is why she had to search everywhere like this. Duong Duong is a duke and the most powerful earl in the south, yet he sneaks around spying on two kids his age. Lily feels embarrassed for her husband, but anyway, comes from a love for their children, so she decides to pretend she has not seen any to save face for them. After helping Lila take her first steps in mastering magic, Den and she finally returned home. While An and But were arguing, Den actually heard everything but stayed silent. It seems they have quietly left now. On the empty road back to the main hall, Lila seemed to have a lot of questions, but the question she wanted to ask the most was whether Den planned to join the academy, where all the talents of the empire gather, and she really wanted to accompany him there. But Den was still a bit uncertain. He did not know if he really needed to go there, while he could completely train on his own to become stronger. You idiot. Lila suddenly raised her voice. Studying is not everything. It is a place to form noble club. You have to go if you want to build relationships from a young age. Den secretly laughed. Seems that being born into a noble family made a child her age understand how the world worked quite early. How could Den not know about building power as she mentioned? It is just that he has not found the interest to study at the academy and does not want to force himself. In fact, in the library of the Stress Castle, there are still piles of books he has not finished reading. Parents who are top in their field still have plenty they want to teach. That makes him feel like he does not necessarily need to go to the academy. That is true. But do not you want to play with other kids? I heard that all your older sisters have joined the academy already. Lila continued to use all kinds of excuses to plead and whine. It was the first time he had met such a persistent girl, so he replied, alright, I will seriously consider whether to go study there or not, so you have to let me know if you want to go, she said. Okay. Den sighed heavily in response. Luckily, the Tums only stayed at the castle for a short while, otherwise he would be tortured daily by Lala's endless questions. She insisted that he visit her home when he came to the capital to see her practice magic, and to repay him for teaching her how to feel magic. Lalo wanted to fulfill one of his requests before leaving the castle to return to the capital, but Den just shook his head, saying he would state his request when he got to the capital. This statement felt to Lala like a promise that he would definitely come looking for her. That whole evening, Lila could not sleep due to excitement. The next morning, two carriages took the father and son, Dong Min and Don Tai Tung, back home, leaving very early. Den watched the two carriages leave while tightly holding something in his hand. This was a gift from the Duke, given to him for his birth. Just by looking at it, Den could tell it was very expensive. When he gave it to Den, the Duke also told him about his family's emblem. It represented revenge, the sword, and the blacksmith, because the ancestors of the Thummian family were great black. Thanks to it, the Thummian family had the best forge on the entire. All the weapons created by the Thummian family had led this thing in Den's hand looks like a command token. Pen said that later. You go to the poet's forge and show the blacksmith. They will make you a weapon according to your wish. That symbol is used to identify the honorable and skilled individuals poet's family value. It is so precious that even royalty won't possess it. So when the pen handed it to Den, his parents seemed very shocked. Even though in a past life he was the one who ended Den, whether in this life or the last, Den could clearly feel that the Duke of Pen was someone who appreciated talented individuals. Den watched their figures leave, especially Lu, feeling very sad. Lily's mother also noticed that. After all, Lilo was Den's first. Even though she talked a lot, when it came time to say goodbye, he still felt very sad. When you get to the capital, you will see the girl again. Cheer up and try to look better so she will be shocked. She comforted Den, saying that he had actually thought about it a lot last night. In this life, Den was lucky to be born in the SSS castle. Parents were also very good, very strong, but Den could not stay here forever, and he decided to go to the capital to study and to meet Leela again. As for the Duke of Pen, after getting into the carriage, he remained silent. Since meeting Den, he has always been enveloped by a strange feeling, because every time he met that boy, the Pen unconsciously remembered the young warrior named Rick, whom he had defeated on the battlefield years ago. Even though the two came from rival empire and a fight to the death was inevitable after that battle, B still felt regret, because Rick should have had a brighter future. This made him long to see the egg grow up. After the Duke's son left, he returned to his normal life, listening to his sister, who every day was channeling mana into that demon egg, but it still had not hatched, making him very anxious. Although he was not a summoner, if he channeled mana to the egg every day, he would also be marked as its master when it opened. After that, control the demon forever, something that regular summoner, ordinary summoned beasts could not do. So he was very confident in the quality of his mana. However, it seemed there were still many conditions that had not been met. He heard that some eggs never hatched because the summoner did not meet those requirements. If he really fell into that situation, he would not know what to do. Therefore, he continued to channel mana to that egg persistently. During that process, Din also tried to change the flow and strength of the mana, but still did not see any reaction. It seems you can't rush to succeed overnight. After channeling enough mana for it, put it back in its place. Just then, Herman had arrived and knocked on the door. Just as he was about to go open the door, he heard the sound of Lassie Safsi from that egg. Young master, did I just hear? Herman opened the door and walked into the room, seeing Den seriously examining the demon egg. But after looking around for a while, he did not see anything different. Could it be that he was just getting his hopes up? Den sighed heavily, once again placing the egg back in its spot before following Herman to the training yard. Late, you have not been focusing solely on business anymore. You have started practicing swordsmanship. Feeling from your past life is still there. So Den adapts to this weapon very to the point where M stands on the side, continuously clapping and kind. You are truly a versatile genius. Every time you learn to use a new weapon, you feel very happy. Since you are old enough to go to the training ground, Den still has not dared to hold a sword because he is afraid that his father will watch him and notice something unusual. Luckily, after all this time, his skills have not faded. The series of celebrations for Den's 7th birthday has ended. Even the host is exhausted, but he has also gained quite a bit from those parties. On can confirm that many nobles are turning their attention to the south. Almost all of them want to build a good relationship with the Stress family. This is quite understandable, because after the war ended, the southern part of the empire, with its good climate and abundant minerals, is a place that every noble desires. However, this time their interest in the territory may not compare to the amount of attention Den should receive. The conflict between him and the eldest son of the Tyrant family was unexpected, and he did not think his son calmly handle the situation in front of adults, even confidently showcasing his magical and summoning talents. Den's premature maturity makes him both happy and worried. Sometimes he just wishes Den could act more like a child to match his age. A glances at the clock, then looks at the spear that has been with him all his life. Today he wants his son to try wielding it and see how it goes. Thinking that, Ken brought Long V to the training ground. He saw his son deeply absorbed in practicing swordsmanship, and that left him quite. Why did Zen suddenly choose to use a sword instead of a spear like always? This question kept gnawing at Aiken's mind, furrowing his brows tight. He then assumed that Ban had said something to Zane before they parted ways. Otherwise, why would he be here practicing swordsmanship after spending all those years training to become a spearman? What is more important? When watching Zen wield the sword, Ken noticed he seemed quite experienced with this weapon. The strength he was displaying was something even some lifelong sword practitioner could not replicate. Could his son really have swordsmanship abilities too? Despite having many doubts, Ken decided to patiently wait instead of interrupting his son's training. He waited until Zen finished before speaking up. I have been watching you for a while now. When did you start learning swordsmanship? Aiken's gaze seemed to pierce through Win's disguise and looked directly into the heart of warrior Rick. He decided not to hide anymore and said directly, actually, I have not really learned it. He even considered whether to tell his father that he was a reincarnated being, but before he could make a decision, Ken asked, is that so? It is really a talent, spearman, mate, assassin, summoner, and now swords. If it were anyone else, I would never believe that a child possessed talent in all these fields. Seems that letting dad think this way is good, so Zen decided not to say anything more, which implicitly confirmed his question. Seeing him just silent, On asked again, Giant, are you curious about this world? I mean the world outside these walls. That is right, for he only wanted to keep his son close to him and his wife. However, every day he witnessed more and more of the boy's talent, and On felt that the stress territory was too small for him to develop talents. If he kept him here, it would probably be a loss for him. Zen felt a bit sad, as if dad had realized that he could not him forever, as, even though he wanted to soar high, he did not want to leave his parents or the family he had never experienced in his past life. Dear dad, I want to go out and explore. Zen took a deep breath and replied clearly. In response to him was On's gentle smile. That is good, but now we need to prepare you well before you step out into the world. Although there is a bit of regret, I will definitely go along with my son's wishes. After that, he took out the legendary long spear. It has been quite a while since Dean last saw it. This is what resonated with him on his first birthday. Tsinghan let Zen try holding it. This is the first time he actually held the long spear in his hand. Power surged through the spear, making Zen unable to hide his excitement. That was also An's mood when he saw the spear react even more violently than on Zen's first birth. That time, the guests thought the spear reacted because it was nearby. But right now, looking at my son with Long V reacting strongly in his hand, Atian is sure that he needs to let his talent shine the brightest on this continent. When Atsingen placed a hand on his shoulder, and affectionately called. One day this spear will be yours. Before that day comes, be strong enough to hold it with all your pride. Receiving Aiken's great expectation, Ian also promised to diligently follow his teachings and give it his all. Threw his head back and laughed loud. It was hard to find words to express his pride in his son at that moment. Then, on began his days of training to get accustomed to the greatest spear of the con. That night, Ian lay in bed, resting his hands on his forehead, deep in thought. He had always been curious about the world out there, even during the days he struggled on the battlefield in his past life. Back then, all he knew was war, cleaning up, maintaining weapons, and eating bland food. The only way to escape was for the war to end, or to die on the battlefield. And Zane escaped that reality in the second way. After being given a new life, he mostly stayed in the SSS castle. Could not even imagine what life outside the battlefield would be like. For the past 7 years, Zane had unconsciously relied heavily on his father An and mother Lily, and as he was about to leave that embrace, he felt a sense of fusion. Asinkan did not know how his talent would be used, how the world would accept him, or what he could do in this world. But you have the chance to go anywhere and do anything. For you were still unsure whether to stay and greedily enjoy the warmth of family or not. But the next day, An's encouragement changed your mind. Alright, step out and explore the world outside. Den unconsciously said aloud, so you have made your decision. Another voice suddenly echoed in the room. Den jumped up, not knowing when Lily Sress come in. When did you come in? I was so deep in thought that I did not even hear you knock. Lily Sress was gentle and soothing like a flowing stream. The love of a mother was something Den always yearned for in his past life. So standing in front of her, Den felt like he was the most childlike. He knew she could not bear to be apart from him. Denlini said, you feel really guilty towards mom because before you, two sisters had already gone to the capital study, so you do not need to apologize. Right. Lily sat down gently, hugging her son. Your mother understands you. I know how talented you are. Lily knew that even now, if he did not want to leave, the world would still be calling for him later. She had hoped her youngest son could stay with her a little longer. But if the small territory of Srek could not hold on to his talent anymore, then Lily did not want to be a selfish mother. Above all, she wanted her son to go to the places he wanted to go and do the things he wanted to do. Even if I leave this house, I promise I will come back to visit you often and tell you about what I see in the world out. Thank you. Then it seems like we need to prepare some things to take you out into the outside world like your father did. Lily does not look shy anymore. Instead, she seems excited. What? Excuse me. I was about to say something when I got interrupted. Lily says she wants to teach you how to scout and how to set and avoid traps. She used to want to teach you slowly and gently, but now it seems we need to speed things up to get ready for Den to go to the capital. Watching mom ramble on, Den suddenly felt cold sweat dripping down his forehead. It looks like in the coming day, he will have to work twice as hard to learn all the special lessons. If those two this up, he might wear himself out before even stepping into the outside world. Regardless, mom will teach him so many things. I will do my best. Den knows that these lessons are not just ordinary lessons. They are the love of his parents. And if you want to go out and explore the world, you really need to prepare well. Den is ready for those exhausting days of studying with his parents. Despite feeling shy, Den stayed in the territory until the next year because there was so much to learn. For those 7 years, the SSS territory remained very peaceful. When the war broke out, it was already more peaceful than many other regions. But in recent years, thanks to the Count, this land has become even more serene, even to the point where people feel this era of peace will last forever. As he grew up, Din's fame spread far and wide among the people in the territory. He was especially famous among the young girls. For example, today when to stop by a shop in town to buy some, the shop owner's daughter fainted from shock at the sight of the young master. Rumors spread throughout the territory that he was getting more handsome as he grew up, even more so than the Count, his father. When he was young, though only 14, he was as tall as the Count, and outsiders might think he was already an adult. His features were very sharp. Many young women in the city did not hesitate to become love-struck hunters just to catch the young master's eye, so they were too busy to pay attention to the gossip about themselves. Today, he was struggling in the forest on the outskirts of the territory. This is the end of the world forest, filled with ancient magic, and Lily Sress had given her son a task to get out of this forest. He had to use all the knowledge he had, including wind direction, sunlight, and understanding the various monsters in the woods. There are only 3 hours left until sunset. That is also the deadline that Lily set for her son. Aunt deadline is even stricter than my boss. It is, and I keep running, then jumping back and forth on the large branches. Your mom is a strict teacher, so after teaching you, she does not hesitate to throw you into this dangerous forest. And one of the most important things for any assassin is not to let the enemy catch you. For a certain time, Den has to avoid the nets and traps set by his mother, while also trying to escape from the monsters lurking in the forest. Den chooses a favorable standing position and takes a deep breath. What he inhales is not just air but also the mana of the forest. The air mana is held in his lungs for a moment before he exhales. This will help Den conceal himself and blend into the scenery in front of them. Positions of the hidden traps will also appear unexpected, just like now. Den can see thin, almost transparent threads everywhere. Although they look fragile, they are extremely sharp, and if he accidentally touches, the traps will be activated immediately. This is the most basic mechanism of trip, but it is also the most dangerous. Luckily, Den has learned how to disable these types of trip traps. Just as he rolls up his sleeves to get to work, a swarm of monsters appears. It is a swarm of monsters shaped like rats but with sharp horns, claws, and teeth that look extremely fierce. Den does not know why they are appearing, only that they are rushing towards him at a terrifying speed. Den originally planned to deal with them all at once, but during the fight, he might hit those traps, which would be extremely dangerous. No other choice. He has to choose to run away to temporarily avoid danger. Those are quickly chasing after us. There are so many of them, and they get even more aggressive when they start to flee. It is just that the IQ of these monsters is not very high. While running, they definitely do not pay attention to traps like that. A whole herd of rel charging in like that makes it hard to avoid getting tangled in those thin wires, and as soon as they touch them, the traps get activated from the high tree. Sharp and thin spears are launched down, continuously piercing into their body. The situation quickly turns chaotic. Because of this, the res fall into the traps even more and end up dying in greater numbers, so we can use those traps to deal with them without any effort. You turn to check the situation and see that most of the Rajal monsters have been wiped out, leaving only one behind. Its eyes are bright red, like a raging fire that can't be extinguished, and the mouse rushes toward the light at a speed the naked eye can't even follow. Black quickly dodges to the side, fortunately avoiding its bite. You have to admit, the speed of this creature is incredibly fast. After missing its bite, the monster gets even angry, and its gaze looks like it wants to devour the light hole. It opens its mouth and spits out something that looks like a fire. You can't see clearly what that is, but as long as it is something that comes out of a monster's mouth, it must be dangerous. The spear in Black's hand spins rapidly, creating a wide enough shield to block Roger's attack. However, you can't waste time here. There is less than 3 hours left to escape. Initially, I did not want to confront direct as I was afraid of falling into a trap. Facing that monster that is hell-bent on taking my life, I really had no choice but to raise my weapon. The long spear in my hand traced a beautiful arc, successfully slicing the foolish guy in half. Luckily, during the fight, I did not hit any tripwire, so I could not afford to delay for another minute. After taking down the I ran like crazy toward the direction I had scouted. Before the sun set, I finally collapsed at the edge of the forest, panting heavily. But just as my breathing had not stabilized yet, I felt a surge of mana vibrating very close. I cursed under my breath and got up with my spear. I thought that while I was off guard, the enemy would continue to approach. Fortunately, the one who appeared in front of me was Lily. She was very pleased with her son's recent escape. His total time to overcome the challenge was even faster than hers back in the day. Have you been watching me all this time? Of course. I can't just leave you alone. Lily approached me. Although she knew her son's abilities better than anyone, as a mother, she still could not let him face everything alone. And throughout that observation, the truth was she could not find a single mistake. He had done better than she imagined, and Lily was so happy that she pinching her son's cheeks. If you keep this up, you will end up becoming a target for Zongmu, my son. Then, from her pocket, Lily took out something and handed it to Den. That is what your grandmother has always given to you since Black was still in diapers. It is the dagger linked to her title as the best assassin in the kingdom, and it was placed next to An's spear during Black's first birthday. Black is amazed. Am I really getting this? This dagger is really nice, and it is just as famous as Lily's reputation. That is why it is even more precious. Black can't believe he received this priceless gift just 14 years old. After all, I do not use it anymore. This dagger is made from a mysterious material that absorbs the elements of everything. It can hold all kinds of poisons within its blade. Just one cut from it, and the enemy would have a hard time surviving. This is truly a wonderful weapon, and if Lily gave it to you, then you can guess that I have taught you everything you need to know. The combat training is over. As the two of them were preparing to return to the mansion, they heard a very loud scream. Following the direction of the scream, they rushed to save someone. The man was taken to the guest tower in the castle. When he woke up, he was still in shock. I remember eating mushrooms in the forest, he mumbled, and just as he finished, the door opened. Night B brought in a tea. You are awake. You are still in the process of detox, so do not move. Quick, detox. Who are you? So you saved me. Turns out this man mistakenly ate a poisonous red mushroom earlier. If it were not fate, and if Zen and my mom were not nearby, he would probably have joined his ancestors by now. Zen handed him a cup of tea, while discreetly observing him a bit more. He was not in a hurry to ask for the man's identity, but he had seen the emblem of the Nixon magic tower on his belt, so this guy was definitely not an ordinary person. The man finished his tea and handed it back to Zen. Then he thanked him and asked where this place was. This is the tower of the Count Tsar, Zen replied, and the man held his forehead. He seemed to be in a difficult situation. He had originally gotten lost heading south, but he never expected to end up in the Circe territory, eat a poisonous mushroom, finally show up in the Count's castle. You just rest. I have already informed my dad. He will come to see you soon. Your dad. So you are. Zen nodded, confirming his suspicion was correct. That old wizard seemed very excited upon realizing that he was the youngest son, because he was the younger brother of Arabella's, the young magical prodigy that all magic towers being an eye on. You do look a lot like your sister. But how did you find me? The man asked again. It was just a coincidence. I was practicing with my mom in the forest. The old wizard gasped loud. Thought he missed her. Crazy forest was so tricky that even an 8th level wizard like him lost. Yet the unstable mana flow in the forest has prevented him from casting spells heavy enough to crush his body down. And yet, a young teenager like Zen chooses it as a training ground. Noticing the confusion in his opponent's eyes, Zen explained that the forest was his family's property and was even more dangerous for outside. Moreover, the mana circulating in the forest is different from the mana that contemporary mages usually use. Therefore, it is best for mages not to come. They do not want to face consequences. This man has encountered monsters, fallen into traps, been affected by reversed mana, and even eaten poisonous mush. Truly a painful combo. Hearing Zen say that, he could only mumble a single phrase. Luckily, he has not the bucket yet. But that is not the main. The main point is that the forest is so dangerous. Yet Dean looks so young and is training there. Just how strong must he be? The antidote I have was made by you. The old man asked, half in disbelief. That is right. He was shocked once again. How could a teenager like Zen concoct an antidote that requires extensive knowledge, precise brewing skill? In that moment, he felt that the Sez family must snatched up all the good traits in the world. His father is the greatest 6th level merchant in the empire, and his mother is the most renowned former assassin. Both of my daughters are geniuses in their own field, and my youngest son, who has not shown his face yet, is even more impressive. This were a time of war. He believes that the Sess's family could become the most powerful noble family in the ancient empire, even overshadowing the royal family. Anyway, this time saving the old wizard's life. He thinks he should repay those favors, but before thinking about death, the man decides to introduce himself first. His name is Sudringa. Not long ago he was the master of the non-magical tower. If you want any, just let me know, and I will use it to repay you for saving my life. I have everything in this world, except for the things I do not have. Although Gus speaks a bit awkward, it is still clear he is referring to the pocket dimension. There are many wizards who can live without a home by placing everything in a pocket dimension. Really? Den replied with a rather indifferent demeanor. Gus seemed surprised by the calmness that was almost unsettling. The identity of the master of a magical tower is not something to be taken lightly. If it were someone else, they would definitely be very surprised or show him some response on hearing that. But Den remained almost as if to say, is that all there is to it? Gus was not satisfied and continued to strut and wave his hands in front of Den, trying to emphasize that his presence was not ordinary. You will be hard-pressed to encounter someone like me again in your life. No need to be modest. If you want anything, just let me know. The night fell silent. Gus is happy because he thinks this attitude shows that you want something from him. However, he was deflated once again because right after that, he said, I will take some time to think about what I want and then tell you later. Gus was furious. What kind of divine being is this kid? Why not care about that too? Of course, Black is not too eager about it, because when it comes to the storage space of a wizard, you received it from Arabella 7 years ago. Teacher Gus had no more issues and told him to lie down and rest. For me, I took the empty teacup outside. The sound sound of the door slamming was like a hammer striking Gus's mood. He was stunned for a few seconds, then smiled wryly. His age. This was the first time he met someone who did not even notice him, and it was a kid at that. Gus typically has a fast recovery speed. He intended to stay in this castle for just a couple of days. Given the current situation, Gus planned to stick around a bit longer to investigate this interesting kid. The next day, he told Han about a high-level wizard staying at his house. Upon hearing that he was the former master of the Nikan Tower and an 8th level wizard, Han seemed very excited. Exactly. This is the kind of normal reaction Gus hoped for when he revealed his identity. It is just a shame that Han was too calm. Even when such a powerful character owes you a favor, and you could ask for anything, you still maintain that calm. By the way, Amun says Gus is a supreme powerful character because the magical towers function as independent territories of this continent. They are like nation, and the masters of the towers are the kings of nothing. In fact, I did not think the old man I casually saved in the woods was such a big shot. I just wonder what a master of a magical tower like him is doing wandering in the woods. I am curious. Moreover, the forest he got lost in is not an ordinary forest. The sorcerers all see it as a forbidden area for reasons that Den explained to Gus earlier. Seems this old man is quite lucky to have survived after encountering such a mess of danger. Den practices swordplay carelessly, but in reality, Hamui hears right now. There is a problem that concerns me more than that old man Gus. All the swords in the training yard are too short and light, no longer suitable for me. It seems I have grown too fat, and these ordinary weapons can't satisfy me anymore. Herman replied that he would prepare a longsword for me to practice tomorrow. Speaking of weapons, I suddenly remember the pen and the badge he gave me 7 years ago. Time flies so fast, and Den still has not had the chance to use it to exchange for a weapon of his own. It seems like today you have been training really hard. The host of the SSS house suddenly appeared at the training ground today and had some errands to take care of early, and he returned sooner than expected. One reason he rushed home was the appearance of the former owner of the magic tower, Nixon. Khan simply thought that maybe he could help Arbella, like becoming her mentor or something, so he hurried home to entertain the guest. In fact, Den had also thought about this when he heard Gus reveal his identity, but he was not sure if the guy could handle his sister's temperament. Throughout her years at the academy, there had been quite a few trouble. For example, Arabella once punched a senior just because he kept pursuing her. Anyway, at least she saved another life. You are doing great. Denakin patted him on the shoulder, pulling Den out of thoughts about his sister's nose break. Not everyone can do what you did. What you accomplished really made your father proud. So he left the training ground, following his father back inside. On the way to the room, and kept complaining because these days, meeting his daughter was harder than reaching the sky. Allah had just finished a semester and was considering which magic tower to join. Allah had just received an invitation to a meeting from her professor as a teaching assistant. Both of Den's sisters were achieving impressive accomplishments in their field. Therefore, his parents were even more expectant of their youngest son. They are very eager to know how the world will treat a talented child like their son. Just thinking about him making a pen is enough to make his father laugh until next year. Keen proudly says that every time his father mentions the Duke, he instinctively remembers the battle between him and that man from years ago. Even though he is reincarnated, he has long forgotten the rivalry from that battle, only left with the desire to duel with him in swordsmanship once again someday. Thinking of pens also reminds him of Lala. He wonders how her life is now. The last time he received a letter from her was a year ago. A few days later, Gus's body still has not fully recovered. The flow of mana within him is still not completely pure due to the poisoning. This prevents Gus from using magic. Still, he does not want to stay locked in his room any longer. So no matter how much the person in charge of Gus's health advises him, he rushes outside anyway. A few hours later, the maids in the SSS castle begin to gather and discuss. They have all heard about a great magician temporarily staying in the castle to recover, but the way Gus acts makes them feel like he has gone mad. After going up and down the stairs of the castle dozens of times, Gus then sits and admires the flowers in the backyard for several hours. This worries them greatly for the future of their young lady, Arabella. She is also expected to become the strongest young mage of the next generation. Of course, Gus is not crazy. He is only attracted to the flower garden in the backyard of the SSS house. At the same time, he is very curious about which artist created it. Not only is it stunningly beautiful, but each flower in the garden also radiates an ordinary amount of mana. I stopped by to see how he was doing, but I did not find him anywhere. So he is here. A pair of leather shoes stopped right behind Gus, none other than Den. At this moment, his attention finally shifted away from that dazzling flower garden. You thought I slipped away, did not you? Someone told me I had to stay here until I fully recovered, but being stuck in a room all the time is so boring. However, Gus can't deny that resting in the SSS castle is very recovery. Now you understand why the nobles love coming to the south during the vacation season. The climate here is described as wonderful, and that does not even cover it all. This place is indeed amazing. Can't help but agree. I am a bit sad to be leaving so soon. What? Are you about to leave? Where are you planning to go? It is not too far. I am going to the capital. Gus made a sound of acknowledgement. Hearing Den say that, he understands you are joining the academy now. After all, the SSS family is a prestigious lineage. Both of your sisters are very talented and famous at school. Every time he thinks of Gus wonders how skilled this guy must be to have such outstanding sisters. Out of curiosity, Gus tried to investigate the opponent, and the result was that he saw a girl with dense mana covering her entire body. The amount of mana around her heart was so concentrated, Gus had never seen anything like before. Put it simply, considered talented peers as a stream. Then you are a waterfall. This shocking discovery made it impossible for Gus to take his eyes off the girl. Normally, someone with a large amount of mana would find it very difficult to control it steadily, potentially causing mana to burst out. Yet the girl's mana was so vast, but she controlled it so wonderfully that if Gus had not actively probed, he would have never known. Seeing the opponent staring at him, Gus finally could not hold back and spoke up. Do you feel that probing someone's mana without their permission is quite rude? Feeling like a kid had seen through him, Gus felt a bit embarrassed and could only scratch his head and laugh it off. Did you notice? It seems you have some skills after all. About that, I apologize. I was just a bit too curious and did not think it. Although he tried to appear calm on the outside, Gus was very panicked inside. Indeed, the concentrated mana in the girl's body was something he had never seen in his whole life, and if he had not felt it himself, Gus would definitely not believe it was real. The existence of a person with such enormous mana was truly surreal. Siren Gus thought to himself, fusion. Wait a minute, why can't I see any magical layer with that density? I should be able to see a magical layer. Face shifted from confusion to fear. Siren Gus was extremely shocked when he realized. Could it be that the kid has 2 mana? Without hesitation, Siren Gus hurriedly asked, how did you create the mana core? Den looked at his expression and could not help but wonder. Is there a problem? Siren Gus growled in a low voice. Core. There is. You have such a crazy amount of mana, and you still want to wield a spear. He was skeptical, and he also possessed a type of magic that only needed a core without requiring an increase in magic. Do you want to give up this greatest talent ever? Wide-Eye asked back. So can't you just use both? Siren Gus's eyebrows seemed to want to stick together. He was scratching his head in frustration. This is so annoying. Where should I start explaining this? Siren Gus had no other choice but to ask. Do you know why the lifespan of a magic swordsman is so short? They are powerful because they possess both a mana core and a magic layer, but they hinder each other, leading to problems when they collide. That is the law of nature. The mana compressed in the core is transmitted into the magic layer, so the magic layer can't withstand the collision and will explode. It was very confusing. Well, I have done quite a bit of research myself, but is this really feasible? Siren Gus said with frustration. What a waste of talent. Such a waste. In the beautiful flower garden, Duongim Tuk asked, can't you use magic without the magic layer? Siren Gus snapped his fingers and explained. It is not that you can't, but without the refinement of the magic layer, how can you use spells that require pure magic? He added. Besides, it is not like no one has thought like before, but most of them we know fail. Den slightly pursed his lips, placing a hand on his chest to show determination. Then I will give it a try. Siren Gus was surprised to see that. What? Den raised both hands, trying to explain. I have not tried it before, but it seems feasible. Siren Gus was inwardly furious, cursing that crazy kid. What is he talking about? Den lowered his voice. If I rearrange the magic code. You decisively waved your hand, bring out a bright blue artifact, a strong and abundant aura bursting forth. It then transformed into a large flame before the incredulous eyes of Siren Gus. You smiled satisfactorily. Did it really work? But it is just basic level 1 magic. Siren Gus shouted in shock. What is that? How is that possible? He silently speculated. This child has no magical tier at all. How can they use magic? He said this hesitant, unable to believe it. You should only be able to use magic through refining the magical tier. Yet you still need to concentrate to create a thin barrier. You expressed your own judgment. My sister Arbella says my affinity for magic is very high. Maybe that is why. Siren Gus sighed. Even so, his tension was evident in his eye. This is what common folks describe when talking about talent can't be replicated. This so-called innate talent. Den looked at the barrier and thought to himself, it really works. So magic can be used without a magical tier. Now I understand. Siren Gus's legs shook uncontrollably. The innate mana affinity. His whole body felt frozen in shock, and it was pure mana thicker than anyone in this world. Does this person really exist? Den was still observing intently. This moment, Siren Gus suddenly made a proposal. Do you want to be my disciple? A loud scream echoed through the vast palace. Wait a minute. Both of them were walking awkwardly down the hallway. Manhwa. Siren Gus continued to explain. I mean, it is a shame to overlook someone with your incredible talent. Den seemed to have lost all patience, while the other man was curious. You know how to use level 2 magic, right? Clearly annoyed. I do not know that code, so I can't. Siren Gus took the opportunity to laugh heartily. How wonderful. You become my apprentice. I will teach you level 8 magic right away. Den firmly refused. I won't take that. Siren Gus was so furious that his eyes rolled back. Veins on his forehead bulged, and he growled incomprehensible. Just then, footsteps approached. Akin laughed loud. I did not think you would get so close to my son. Den politely acknowledged and gently asked his son, what were you two discussing? Den hesitantly replied, he keeps insisting I become his apprentice, and I refuse. Apprentice. Siren Gus scratched his head and reluctantly said, Count said, your son has the talent of a great magician. Was pleased. Ah, really? Siren Gus did not hesitate to slap Den on the shoulder a few times, perhaps even greater than you can imagine. He even succeeded in using chain magic without needing any magic level. Ken was shocked to hear that. No need for a magic level. Is that true? Den was sweating profuse, stammering his response. Father, Akin recalled quite clearly that he had no basic knowledge of magic at all. Siren Gus quickly added, so that makes the boy's talent even more impressive. The two men are grinning from ear to ear. Indeed, they are the true masters of the magical tower. I can see my son's talent right away. It is not just simple talent. Your son is a genius. Kid could even become a rare magic swordsman. Imagine the scene of him clad in iron armor, sword in hand, charging onto the battle, shouting a line like an announcer. A sword is better than a spear. Thinking about this, his face dark, he frowned, coldly asking the magic sword, feeling a chill run down his spine. You should not say that in front of his father. Siren Gus still did not notice anything unusual, chuckling to himself. Right, it is the magic swords, finally showing some interest. Right, if he becomes my disciple, I will take full responsibility. I will make that kid the strongest magic swordsman in the empire. Just a second later, he suddenly choked on his word. What the hell? Why do I feel this? I shouted furious. Can't become a magic swordsman. Siren Gus stubbornly argued back. But why not? A swordsman with magic. Don't you see that kid is particularly suited for it? Lost his composure, inadvertently revealing, my son will not become a magic swordsman, but will instead become a magic merchant. Siren Gus was startled and panicked, wondering what that meant. Is that a problem? Kid fell into a state of helplessness, unable to say anything more. His face turned as red as a tomato. Siren Gus stood confused in the middle. Why is everyone in this house so similar? For a wizard to become a disciple, he should sit alone in a room reading books, telling himself that it holds great significance. Wizards usually nurture their successors through an act called inherit. This tradition has existed since ancient times and continues even to modern time. When general magical education was established, Kid slowly closed the book. That is right. The master of the magic tower is looking for not just a disciple, but also a successor. He recalled that considering an 8th level grand wizard was lingering around, it meant that his talent was something extremely remarkable. The kid touched his chest. After hearing so many compliments, he felt something stirring within. Suddenly, he came to a realization. I get it now. When he was little, Arab once told Den that whenever he wanted to see his sister, he should pour magic into this crystal ball. Den mischievously took out the ball from one side of the shelf. Okay, ask Arabella what she... The call for sister echoed down the hallway. In the library where the students were diligently studying, the sound lingered. Sister Araba. She looked up slightly, her hands that were writing paused. Arabella was delighted to recognize that voice belonged to Den, her younger brother. Arabella was a bit surprised and asked, what is it? Den said, I can cast first level magic. She covered her mouth, one hand to avoid the gaze of those around her. But you do not have a magic circle yet. Den replied casually, true, I do not have one, but I can still cast. Arabella exclaimed in confusion, I know you are a genius, but I did not expect you to be this good. Den voiced his curiosity. The magic circle only serves to purify and circulate mana. Could it be that your mana is already too pure. Arabella pondered. That sounds reasonable. Arabella suddenly remembered something. I have a way to check. Tonight, I will give you the magic stone through the transfer device in your room. You just need to pour a bit of mana into it. The polite boy replied, I understand. Then Laval, feeling an overwhelming happiness. She is really me. Mana has always been something that makes me very curious. The advice of a level 6 mage is incredibly helpful. Arabella reminded me to let her know if I could use magic. She revealed that I would receive a lot of attention at the academy. You have to be scared and complain after hearing that. I do not want to. Arabella casually brushed a few strands of hair. That is unavoidable. Talent is the most attractive thing that draws attention. Remember to tell me if you are bullied at school. I will handle anyone who dares to mess with my brother. Speak up clearly. You do not tell me. I will forget. I heard you broke the nose of that guy flirting with you. He is the second son of the dude. Right, Arabella said sharp, annoyed. Don't mention that jerk again. But it seems her voice was loud enough to attract a few prying eyes. Arabella regained her composure. By the way, even without the magic time, can your mana be any purer? I hesitated a bit. I do not know. I will check it out later. A petite girl hurried over. She called out to Senior Arabella. Professor is looking for you. Arabella quickly told Design. I have to go now. I will call you back later. Zevin cheerfully replied. See you later. Arab reminded. Alright, I will send you the magic stone as soon as I can. The light from the orb disappeared. Ian was excited thinking about experiencing a new horizon. You looked so thrilled that I could not believe my mana was this pure. Could it be that I have the heart of a dragon? In another room of the palace, there is a wailing sound. I might just die here. Sarin Gus is deep in thought. I used mana to probe him. That guy made my situation even worse than before. I had planned to leave here early, but I still can't go. He gritted his teeth when the guy still had not accepted his offer. Siren Gus recalled the scene from before. How wonderful. If you agree to be my apprentice, I will teach you 8th level magic right away. I do not need that. He wondered what he could do to make the guy agree. In his mind, flurry of random thoughts raced. Should he give him some magical artifacts or share the knowledge he is accumulated over the year? That would be too much. If he offered him something and he still refused, I would have to leave empty-handed. Suddenly, a voice called from outside the door. Are you in there? Here. Siren Gus immediately jumped. What does he want here? Did the two of them agree to my offer already? The door flew open as the words come in were spoken. The guy quickly stepped forward, happily saying, Great, you are here. I have something to discuss with you. Siren Gus was puzzled. What do you want? Looking at his expression, an idea suddenly popped into his head. Wait, that kid. Siren Gus chuckled. There is no way you would not want to become the disciple of an 8th level wizard like me. Kid replied blunt. Siren Gus immediately changed to a sharp tone. Then why are you here? Didn't you say you were not interested in magic? Kid smiled. It is not that I am not interested in magic. Siren Gus was suspicious. Then why do not you want to be my disciple? Don't tell me you already have a master. I do not have a master yet. Siren Gus lost all patience, thinking to himself, is this guy joking with yeah? If that is not, then what are you really here for? He pondered that he did not know how to progress to the 2nd level to have the older sister because she was very far away. After all, the best way is to learn from Siren. He still owes me one life. Serious? I do not want to just be an ordinary. Siren Gus was surprised. What? So you want to become a higher mate? That statement was also I will become a sorcerer, a knight, an assassin, a summoner. Siren Gus looked like, what? Does that profession really exist? Siren cheerfully added, and a swordsman too. You took a slow sip, feeling quite ridiculous. That is hard to say. Siren Gus said frankly. Are you still going to refuse me, even when you know this is your only chance? Den replied nonchalant. Siren Gus helplessly rested his chin on his hand, thinking damn it, he was too determined. Thought casually crossed his mind. Perhaps that way will work. Siren Gus slammed his hands down on the table, suggesting if you wanted a letter of recommendation. Den's eyes widened in surprise. A letter of recommendation. Siren Gus excitedly said, I heard you want to go to that academy, right? If I write you a recommendation letter, you will get in directly. Zine carefully set down his teeth, feeling a sense of hesitation rising within him. This condition is really tempting. After thinking it over for a while, Lean responded. Alright, Siren Gus hurriedly said. Great, now let us discuss the details, shall we? Zine pressed. Can I set some conditions? Siren Gus showed clear satisfaction. He is intrigued now. I will seize this opportunity and make sure he can escape. He comfortably accepts. Go ahead. Lean whispered. Can you teach me how the level 2 magic works? Conversation suddenly became much more lively. Of course I can. I understand all kinds of magic in this world. Oh really? Then I will rely on you for every. Siren Gus chuckled. Haha, it is nothing. His gaze never left DS from start to finish. He is still very young. A recommendation letter or the workings of level 2 magic is nothing to me. Siren Gus then requested, let us get started right away. Although I am not feeling very well. It is. Lean also got into position. Alright, let us begin. Siren Gus was extremely delighted. He was completely caught in his web now. Ian also added, by the way, I will consider this my repayment for saving you in the forest. Siren Gus looked clearly puzzled. What are you asking about? When you come home, explain. You owe me a life so I can ask for any from you. What I want. I have already mentioned. Siren Gus, upon hearing this, got angry. What about becoming my disciple? No way. Eyes tightly shut. Siren Gus looked like he was about to collapse. Did I just get tricked by a 14-year-old? He retaliated. Wait, you asked me for 2. I only owe you 1 favor. Den let out a faint grunt. I do not think so. Siren Gus, you, what now? Let me recount. First I saved you from the forest. Second, I also removed the poison from your body. You also mentioned, moreover, I had to carry you back, but I am not counting that. Siren Gus was unable to say anything more. He was frustrated, thinking, how is this kid so clever? My back hurts a bit. About 10 minutes later, the two arrived at the training ground. Siren Gus had to calm himself. He calculated in his head, if he continued to persuade him, perhaps in the future he would change his mind. It would be a waste to overlook a natural talent like this. Siren Gus began to get to the main fact that you condensed the mana core or the magic circle is not worth mentioning. What is important is that you can cast magic even without a magic circle. The 2nd level magical transportation method I am about to discuss is quite complex. He shot a glance as if to issue a warning. Countless people have given up at this stage. So next, please listen carefully. Din smiled back. Alright then. Siren Gus frowned. Evaluating. Look at those sparkling eyes. Cleared his throat a few times. But I won't make it easy for you to achieve your goal. I will show you what manners are. Before really starting the training process, then Gus wanted to explain further that 2nd level mag is a completely different tier compared to 1st level. It is because you have to calculate the amount of mana yourself, the level of mana floating in the air, and even consider your physical condition all at once. Crossed his arms over chest, looking stern like a superior, which is the reason why most people give up learning magic. Manhwa. He thought to himself, what is it? Do you understand what I am saying? Surely the kid will have to try to get me to explain in simpler terms. Siren Gus gestured with his finger. That That is basically it. Do you understand now? Den smiled and politely replied, I understand, not letting the man say anything more. He continued, I have to learn a lot, not just how magic works but also things I do not know yet. Siren Gus was utterly astonished. What? You really understand everything? Then tell me about the laws of magic. Den was jotting down important things in his notebook while replying. First law is coexist. Magic can coexist physical world and other sources of mana. Through this coexist, wizards use their own magic and the surrounding magic cast spells. Den glanced away, starting to remember the second law of conservation, while SSSrank Gus was still in shock, unable to believe that he completely understood the nature of magic. To say that if magic gathers enough physical element, then through conservation, it can cast spells through all different elemental properties. SSSrank Gus was truly bewildered, and he even added his own reasoning. He looked at the young man before him like a strange. Most people would find this boring, but it seems he was not like that. How could someone like him even exist? Tifer set that aside. SSSrank Gus raised his voice. Every time you level up, the magic becomes exponentially more complex. Instead of explaining, I will demonstrate for you. A surge of magical energy erupted from his arm. SSSrank Gus summoned a magical shield, the uniform square. For example, this is first level magic, which can be cast using a simple rule. Person on the opposite side was seriously observing and listening. However, starting from the second level, it will be different. First level is incomplete. Strange symbols continuously appeared on the bars of the square. SSSrank Gus waved his hand to make the turbulent airflow move through the air. This is how second level magic operates. Person was deep in thought, evaluating how they intertwined in a very complex way, feeling that it was harder than the theory. SSSrank Gus arrogantly asked, what do you think? This is the magic creates second level fire magic mist. SSSrank Gus then said, force more of her. You want more? You need to cast the same magic multiple times. And deep down, he concluded that the person must be very surprised. Right. They have never seen how second level magic works. One of his hands carefully touched the flow of power. It looked complex, did not it? SSSrank Gus noted that most people take at least a year after freely casting first level magic before they start using second level magic. SSSrank Gus finished the theoretical part, smiling with a sense of superiority. No matter how intelligent one is, they can only understand part of the magic. The important thing here is the rule. If you can't understand that, then nothing else matters. His plan is that we will observe you for about a week and then gradually teach you the technique. Should I try putting the books in my pocket? I wonder. SSSrank Gus is a bit surprised. And then you still agree? Well, that will be tough, but you can give it a try. Xinjiang spreads his legs in a defensive stance. Alright then, based on the experiences he has gone through, SSSrank Gus suddenly feels something unusual. Closing his eyes tight, streams of power intertwine and envelop around his body. When the time is right, he opens both palms. The aura gathers like soft and beautiful ribbons at his command. He successfully creates a barrier, much to SSSrank Gus's astonishment. This is first level magic, right? He gasps in response, only able to say correct. SSSrank Gus strokes a few strands of white beard, clearly astonished. He can create lines of a certain length and width. Impressive. So it is just simple first level you. Not stopping there. This is what you just showed. SSSrank Gus is pushed back a few steps by the immense pressure coming from the magic. He is completely bewildered. Really? Can he perfectly replicate the workings of second level magic? He understood right after just seeing me perform it once. SSSrank Gus asks hesitant, how did you do that? Black immediately explained. When observing, I memorized the rules and patterns. You looked at him, smiling happily. It is not that hard when shaping magic in your head. SSSrank Gus was taken from one surprise to another, thinking to himself that it is truly beyond imagination. Even a magical genius like me would take some time to cast. Ooh, this kid can materialize it without needing a magical layer. Black quietly said, then I will try a rock. SSSrank Gus exclaimed in shock. What? The barrier began to show slight tremor, and then it lit up. Black shouted loud, breaking through the initial barrier. You focused all your mental strength. 4 bows appearing along with holy flame. It seems if does not it. SSSrank Gus looked on in amazement. He can cast it that easily. Seeing the excited expression on the temp, SSSrank Gus thinking it was incredibly unreasonable. If I had such talent, I could have achieved my level 9 dream already. Black curiously asked, am I doing it right? SSSrank Gus stammered. Yeah, very impressive. You learn everything I teach very quick. Your next words startled him. I am also surprised I could do it on the first try. SSSrank Gus felt scared thinking about a wizard without a magical layer. The world would go crazy if he lost. His purpose also changed because of that. I must hide this talent. All kinds of people would try to approach and bother the kid, at least until you become my apprentice. SSSrank Gus changed the subject. Alright, let us learn a different kind of magic, shall we? We should think about how to write the introduction letter to the academy. At night in the luxurious room, I sighed, realizing that the magic lesson was more enjoyable than I thought. You lay on the bed, thinking you need to study both theory and practice. But since you can use magic, you remember that in your past life, you were forced to give up magic in a situation where you did not even know when you would lose your life. Spending time studying felt like a love. To survive, I had to wield a sword, because magic, up to a certain point, would require prioritizing theory over practical implementation. I remained silent. It made me look forward to this life more. Combining the theory I learned from the teacher with my innate talent, I assessed that I could show explosive development, just basic guide, and also being taught by the former master of the tower. Before falling into a deep sleep, I wondered what magic I would learn tomorrow. Half a month later, there was a voice questioning something in the palace. Do you want to make a magic potion? SSSrank Gus replied serious. Since there are not enough material, I will need to go outside the turret. And grunted. Are you already making a potion? Don't worry about the kid. He has already learned how to operate level 4 magic. I can ask back used. Isn't it usually a month to finish level 1? Information about magic potions is not easily accessible. I can wonder, where did you learn that? I smiled happily. I learned it by reading magic books in the library. They really intrigue me. SSSrank Gus can't stop praising. Truly, a genius indeed. I never thought you would be curious about that magic test. Many people find it very boring. He also added, but for you, just picking materials is already fun. I needs to think for a while and then agree. Alright, this will become a valuable experience for you. You will go out, so also check the territory. Bo polite. Father. The sunlight filters into every corner of the picturesque town. The town's gossip excited when they see the young master arrive. Young master, do not forget to bring snack. That silver hair is fluttering beautifully today. He also smiles friendly and greets. I am sure everyone is doing well. I will come back to get snacks later. SSSrank Gus speculates beside him that Lord Stress is not a bad person. Based on how he treats, that makes sense. He pointed to a stall selling fruits and flowers. In the south, there are many delicious food, mild weather, and friendly people. A scenery very rare in the capital. He slowly continued. It is very warm here. SSSrank Gus suddenly remembers how much longer until we get to the magic item shop. He replied nonchalant. I am not sure either. Haven't I been there before? You called out loud. Please lead us. us here. The young man obediently followed. Young master. 3 horses gallop quickly down the stone-paved road, following Hem's direct. We are not far from here. That is luck. After a few minutes, we arrive at the magic shop. Oh my, is that really the young master? The whispers of admiration are non-stop. His silver hair and emerald eyes are just as stunning as the rumors say. Thank you for having us. I am here to ask the shopkeeper how business has been lately. The shopkeeper smiled in response, but her voice carried a hint of frustration. Still, not many people in the area come to buy magic supplies. I only sell to foreigners or those interested in magic. The shopkeeper said excitedly, adding, I never expected to have the honor of meeting the former master of the tower, Siren, here, so I am quietly assessed. She recognized him with just a glance. After all, not many become masters of the tower in the empire. The shopkeeper then bowed respectfully and said, feel free to browse the shop. If you need anything, just call me. Siren gently spoke to Vine. Since this is your first time at the magic shop, feel free to look around. I will talk to the shop for a bit. En looked around for a while, unconsciously nodding. Inside, the display was arranged with countless jewels and antiques, which made Den marvel. This place has so many interests. He rubbed his chin, looking thought, and felt something strange, a rather deja vu sensation. Ian raised one arm high, and suddenly a magical barrier appeared in front of the display. Ian understood that if he touched the magic supply, he could see their magical reaction. Closed your eyes and get. You must be because my magical sensitivity is quite high. Suddenly, Den sensed something unusual happening around. You glanced around, wondering what that sound was. A strong reaction was coming from over there. What is that? Just as Den was about to look up, the lady nearby suddenly called out, Dear young master, it is just decoration. Den was slightly startled. Really? Siren calmly suggested, why do not you come over and check out some potion-making material? Moonflower is really good too. The lady quick out the material and praised it as a choice. There are at least 50 types of potion containing moonflower that I personally grew, so the quality is really good. Den still could not stop thinking about that unusual feeling. It is really strange. At the same time, the booth behind you emitted a sparkling light. Den hurriedly turned around. The object looked like a shattered piece of glass. Den ran over with an incredulous expression. It has to be it. That stone is vibrating. Looking at you like that makes me very worried. Young master, what is going on? Den explained, confused. I can sense something from this stone. Showed obvious suspicion. It is just decoration. Den gently touched the stone through the magic wall. I am not sure either, but this stone is really strange. When picking up this piece of glass, Den was extremely astonished. Get it? The more magic I channel, the stronger the reaction. You are being pulled in by the light. Could it really only react to my magic? The other two have not noticed at all. Still chatting away. Your eyesight is good. Using it as a sample is just perfect. Then give me those moon roots and some kono berry. Moving on with my question. What is this? The lady looks confused. Where did you get that stone? Siren is also puzzled. What is that stone? That is just some decoration. The small one with decoration. You think to yourself, no way. What kind of decoration reacts to magic? The lady sighs deep. Just thinking about that stone makes me frustrated. Siren seemed curious. What is wrong? Were you tricked by someone? The shopkeeper sadly began to tell. A few years ago, some traveling salesman paid me with a large pack. When I opened it, there was that stone inside. That guy had already left. The shopkeeper cried loud, holding her head. I did not know what it was, so I took it to get a prey. In the end, it was just a stone. Nothing more. Nothing less. I did not know where to put it, so I just left it there. The shopkeeper stood there silent. That is strange. Clearly, this stone is not ordinary. The shopkeeper regained her enthusiasm. Introducing, young master, if you want something better, take a look over here. I own some very special magical art. She gestured. I will show you. Alright, let us go inside. The shopkeeper held the item with both hands. This was a roll of business. While in the boy's mind, flurry of thoughts swirled. Even though this place has a lot of interesting, you look at the stone, but I just want this. The shopkeeper was explaining that if you place it, it will automatically save the information you want, and you just need to call out the name of the other. Their business card will appear with. Before she could finish, you requested to take the roll of business cards into this stone. The shopkeeper was surprised and asked, why do you want that useless stone? You are really set on your judgment. You definitely think you need that stone. Siren questioned, what are you planning to do with it? We did not say anything, just responded to him with a squinty smile. After leaving the store, Siren exclaimed, I never knew you were interested in decorations or art. Or is there something special about that stone? I burst out laughing. Do not you see? Court not. Why would you want to buy a useless stone? He replied seriously. Exactly. This stone is definitely not just a decoration. React to my magic. Siren huffed cold. So what? He whispered. I am not sure what that stone is either, but hearing you say that makes me curious. I suggest there are too many people. Let us go back to the palace to examine it more closely. Siren agreed without thinking much and urged his horse to run off. Back at the palace, the two immediately went to the training ground. Do you know what it is? Are you underestimating my invaluable experimental tool? Siren cleared his throat. With them, we will find out what it is. Siren summoned his power. Although a wizard assessed and said it was nothing special. No matter what he said, how can it compare to what I have? He showed a look of regret. I have burned through all my money on this advance. It can analyze anything you place on it. They exclaimed happily. Awesome. Let us give it a try while it is hot. Siren carefully sets the stone down. Alright, I am pretty excited about this. He orders to place the stone here, and then channel your magic into it. When he touches the the stone immediately reacts with tremendous. The power from it shoots into the sky like a storm. The two of them watch a child who looks utterly astonished, wide-eyed. There is something truly special. Siren, on the other hand, looks very satisfied, finally able to stand tall with pride. The light begins to converge at a point. He suddenly says it is Roman magic. Siren does not deny that state, but it is not just ordinary magic. He is incredibly excited, thinking it is truly amazing. This is a magic containing structural law, a way of movement we have never seen, possibly as complex as level 6 and 7 spells. He then concludes, so the magic hidden in the stone is what reveals that magic. Siren smiles and replies, just as you said, your magic is the key to unlocking that magic. I say that because it only reacts to your magic. He looks at the ancient symbols continuously appearing, wondering, what is it? What kind of magic is inside this stone? Why does it only react to my magic? Siren steps forward a few steps, slowly examining it. The sealing magic inside is a bit unfamiliar to me, but since I was the former master of the tower, I will give it a try. I speculate that if successful, I might understand why my magic is different from everyone else's. Siren sighed. Maybe that is it. Din only has one wish, that it will succeed. In another part of the royal palace, in Arabella's personal laboratory, it is filled with books. The typewriter is neatly placed on the table, and it seems the owner cleans it regularly. Arabella is standing alone in the room, mumbling something to herself. It really is clearly, it differs from ordinary magic. She lightly touched a notice board. There is a special property, a unique property of magic to share with me that even I do not have. Arabella frowned, thinking serious. However, which field of magic does this belong to? In the result, there are no magical regions, magical portals, portal or magical text. If it is not these magic, then what is it? Arabella glanced over each noteboard. To ensure she would not miss any line of text, she deduced that it must correspond with something accidentally flashed through Arabella's mind, and she excitedly shouted out loud, "Oh right, there is a field of magic that has been lost, and the magic of darkness." Without further ado, Arabella hurriedly searched around the room, wondering where she had put it. She frantically rummaged through the pile of books scattered on the floor, and finally, she found it: alchemy, divination, necromancy, spirit magic, and even a primordial spell. Suddenly, an old book fell from behind. This caught Arabella's attention. She glanced suspiciously at the object lying right at her feet. This is on a brown cover labeled Ancient Magic Book. Arabella recalled that there was a magic kingdom long ago, and magic was inherited from Akana. She stared intently at the item in her hand, as it was an ancient spell from 2,000 years ago. No one knew how to use. But then Arabella burst out laughing at her own words. What am I even saying? Ancient magic disappeared 2,000 years ago. The dark magic can't possibly work. Arabella paused for a second. But whatever, I have nothing to lose. She was determined to tell herself to just give it a try. Standing in front of the recording machine, Arabella focused all her energy to summon the magic. A long object with 2 sharp blue ends appeared. Arabella closed her eyes tight, trying to feel as much as possible, and she realized that something was starting to appear. Sheets of paper began to pour out of the machine. Arabella whispered, "What is it? Alchemical divination?" Or Arabella rolled up the long scroll and hoped it was not necromancy. Lines of text raced through Arabella's mind like a film. She almost fell back immediately. Arabella's eyes widened in fear. From outside the room, her scream could easily be heard. "The hell is this?" Outside the training ground, the energy from the stone showed no signs of fading. Siren Gus exclaimed joyfully, "The seal has been broken, so there is something inside." Siren Gus had noticed this from the beginning and replied, "That is right. We will take it out." His hand moved towards the source of the light. When the treasure was finally taken out, the surrounding power gradually dissipated. To his surprise, was it a silver bracelet? Siren Gus expressed his frustration, yelling, "It looks just like one of those bracelets anyone can buy at the market. I thought there would be something special inside this material. There is nothing." Staring intently at the details of the bracelet, Siren Gus quickly reminded, "It is because it only reacts to your magic. You should try wearing it." Den politely agreed, taking the bracelet from the man's hand. Finding that it seemed much larger than his wrist, Den anxiously awaited what would happen to it. Just as predicted, the bracelet began to change. Siren Gus gasped in astonishment. "Indeed, react?" So he was curious. "I see some strange characters. You should take a closer look." "What is this?" "You see?" Den then asked hesitantly. "Do you know what they are?" Siren Gus moved closer. This is where he realized, that is right. These characters are ancient script that no one in this world can read. Den hesitated. The ancient script he mentioned left him unable to finish his question. Siren Gus interrupted. "They are the characters used by the ancient magical kingdom of Akina. So stay silent." "The name Akina. I heard Arabella talk about it when we were kids. She said that was a time when even the smallest items created from magic. But then one day, that era came to an end. The only things that remain are a few relics and the stories passed down along with this magical code." Siren Gus laughed loudly. "Ha, I know your magic is special, but I did not expect to be related to the ancient magical kingdom. Guessing. That must be why I was able to move easily in the forest these past few days." Siren Gus squinted. "It seems so because the magic from that forest originates." Akina. He thought to himself that he had always wanted this kid to be his disciple, so he still had some doubt. "But I do not see anything else in this bracelet." Siren Gus replied coldly, "You can take your time to find out. However, do not go talking about this outside. Just act obedient. I will follow your instructions." Suddenly, a loud noise erupted, startling both. "What is that noise?" Siren Gus jumped up, looking panicked. "Don't tell me this alarm sound means a monster is attacked." But just a second later, he looked much more excited. "Ha, good. My body is almost completely restored now. Let us relax a bit." Siren Gus eagerly anticipated this opportunity. Finally, he could repay the debt. He urged, "What are you still doing over there? Go get something or whatever." Den was about to pull something out of his jacket pocket. Siren Gus widened his eyes and asked in confusion, "What is that?" "It sounded like it was coming from over there." Den explained, "This sound has nothing to do with the monster. I should have mentioned that this sound means my older sister is trying to contact." Siren Gus looked disappointed. "What? You should have said that right from the start." Den forced a smile. "Ha, there is no way a monster would show up in this area. Now, if you will excuse me, I would like to talk to my sister for a moment." While Sen Gus was annoyed and turned his face away, Den hurriedly answered, "Sis, what is it?" Arab eagerly asked, "Why did you take so long to answer me?" "Sorry, sis, did you need some?" She recounted while analyzing the magical code, when Arabella suddenly changed the subject. "Wait, is there someone next to you?" Den replied bluntly, "Don't tell me you realize my magic is ancient magic too." Arabella immediately screamed as if the house would explode. "What? How did you know that?" A clear voice came from the other end. "I see. When you and Siren were analyzing some stone, I guessed it came from the ancient magical kingdom, and I said that stone only reacts to my magic." "Right." Den replied politely, "That is correct." Sirenji was even more surprised now. "Wait, she figured that out just from analyzing the boy's magic. I know the girl is a genius, but she is even more talented than I imagined." Arab Black asked, "Does anyone else know?" Den coldly replied, "Good. Listen to your sister carefully. Sidrain, please listen. You would better keep this a secret. If you reveal this now, you won't be able to handle the concert." The man then spoke up. "Miss Arabella, I have heard quite a bit about you from Den. Siren, I realize I have gone straight to the point without introducing myself. Don't worry too much. I will keep this secret safe." He is worried because if this gets out now, not just Den but the entire Stress family will face major consequences. Arab is impressed. "Truly, you immediately understood the issue at hand." Den wondered if this conversation would be recorded. Arabella chuckled and said no. Once this conversation ends, it will disappear automatically. Siren Gus breathed a sigh of relief. Luckily, no one wants to leave behind random evidence. Besides, plan to return to the magic tower and investigate this matter further. The girl happily thanked him for helping them. Cedrin Gus hurriedly declined. "Miss Arabella, I am doing this out of a wizard's sense of responsibility, so it is nothing." He suddenly remembered. "While we were talking, I heard you were looking for a magic tower to join. Have you decided which magic tower you want to join?" Arabella hesitated for a moment, tightening the ring, and reluctantly replied, "Not yet. However, I am not considering the Nixen magic tower right now. It is not focused on the field I like." Siren Gus thought to himself, feeling frustrated. "Earlier, I was wondering who that kid takes after to be so bold. Seems like it is from his older sister." He chuckled softly to himself. "I get it now. Anyway, you do not necessarily have to go to our magic tower. It is better to stand by and evaluate quietly. You are quite blunt, are not you?" Arabella said the last words before the conversation ended. "I am sure there will be some really talented people joining your magic tower soon. Anyway, shall we discuss the details later?" Zin gently reminded, "You have to be serious." "Okay." Siren Gus casually prayed. Your sister has become quite skilled. Xian completely agreed. This item was also created by her. She said this sleek crystal orb is the trend among young sorcerers today. Siren Gus suddenly snapped. That is impressive, but I do not need an item like that. When someone reaches level 8, contacting others is not what they desire. If there is something important to discuss, they just need to come find me direct. Right? Vin nodded. I understand now. Inside you, thought emerges that he does not have any friend in the room. His voice can be heard. You said it is the magic of the star. That makes me feel worried. The guy quickly reassured. Ha, Dad, do not worry. I'm serious. If anyone targets us, we will make them pay. Lily asked. That sounds good. Then Mom will silence anyone who targets you in her own way. Dantasit curled up like a child. I think they are full of hostility, but with two of them protecting me, I feel safe. Rubs his chin and makes a judgment. This demon is true. It means there is ancient magic hidden in our lineage. Right? I reply serious. That is an interesting question, and we do not know if any of our ancestors had it. I will check on my family's side. Night wonders in her mind. If both sides of the family investigate, what might they discover? It is not really important, but I am curious to know. On the table, there are cakes and hot tea. Anyway, it seems like you have crossed more than one boundary already. Lily gently advises, if you stay here, it will hinder your growth. You should consider moving to the capital to live from now on. Dotting the capital, gently explain, you have to be at least 14 years old, be allowed to apprentice at the academy, and now you are old enough. Actually, I wanted to keep you for another year or two before sending you off, but it seems like there is nothing left for you to learn here. Lai gently touched the young man's hand. Well, if you choose that, Lily smiled kindly. You can leave whenever you want. Den was very surprised. I did not expect they would think that way. I can happily encourage. You will do great. Go and pursue your talent as you wish. Den happily replied. I understand what Mom and Dad are saying. And then he had made his decision to prepare to go to the academy. Akin joyfully praised the choice. That is a good one. Den was very satisfied. Great. It is time for me to level up again. Inside the room, there was lively conversation. Is that your choice? Yep. Sooner than I expect. You made a good choice. Staying here longer would only limit potential. What a waste. Siren Gus said serious. By the way, I have some advice for you. Don't reveal too much about your abilities right away. While the academy is a place that welcomes talent, not everyone thinks that way. Then, I am determined to listen. That is right. Arabella told me before. She faced people who insulted her. Siren Gus. Well, normal kids want to keep up, but the Thummy family is a different story. Den unconsciously remembered. Oh right. Think about it. I told her I would visit if I came to the capital. You ponder. You do not visit. She will be really disappointed. And you should think about what weapon to make. With the seal that Duke the Mayan gave. Siren Gus snorts with his big nose. Let us. You are joining the academy in 3 months. Then you should leave from here in 2 months. That makes sense. Does not it? What about you? Siren Gus said softly. Plan to return to the magic tower. I think I have some things to take care of. Thanks to you, I am no longer overflowing. If I find any clues about ancient magic or anything related, I will let you know. Den showed clear surprise. Really? That is, I would appreciate it a lot. Steve requested. Well, then the remaining issue is your less time is short. We need to speed things up. He reminded. It is really hard to reach level 3. Level 2 is nothing compared to level 3. I am serious. Yep. I will study hard. You reached into your death, and I prepared a gift for you. Siren Gus was surprised. Really? Den took out the box and replied. My sister sent me this using a teleportation spell yesterday. Inside is a shining gemstone. It is a brand new item. This is Siren. Gay excitedly took the treasure while Den explained that this is a sleek crystal orb that has not hit the market yet. Arabella invented this new product. She likes me. So when I asked, she gave it to me. Siren Gus happily exclaimed. It is quite compact and beautiful. Well, I do not really need, but I will be nice and accept the gift prepared for me. Polite. Please use it to contact. Quietly think. I could write my code in here, even though you said you did not need it. He seems pretty excited. Here's how to use Senenji. Right, you do it here. This is really simple and easy to use. You guess he probably won't contact you very often. Right, as night falls, you start wondering. The academy. Yeah. You just took off your robe and made a plan. You need to seriously prepare in the next 2 months. You smile slightly. Your talent is being able to use magic to summon to some extent, and your goal is to officially join the summoning class, receive the summoning mark, and have the chance to participate in the competency assessment exam. Since Professor Clowl is an assistant, you will probably see her often when you enroll. Right. At the same time, you accidentally glance at the egg. I forgot those close friends in magic. When you touch the egg, a fierce reaction immediately erupts. You have been silent for 5 years. You have worked hard to infuse it with magic day and night, but you feel sad. It still has not reacted at all. But anyway, you are still waiting. However, the magic you infused it with does not go anywhere, and your close friend has absorbed. You are sure it will hatch someday. You and Arabella chat together. Right now, the entrance exam system is very simple. There are 2 exams to get. 2 exams. One is a general exam and the other is a specialized exam, so it can only be explained in more detail. Right. Arabella glanced at the scenery outside the window and said softly, the general exam is a kind of preliminary selection to classify candidates. It is an exam on culture, history, and issues related to the empire. You should definitely be able to pass without any problem. She cleared her throat. Of course, the better you do, the more beneficial it is, because it will count towards your admission score. Arabella smiled and explained further. The next exam is the specialized exam. Just as the name suggests, you will choose a major and take the exam on it. The exam content depends on the professor, but I believe you will definitely pass. Moreover, you have a letter of recommendation too. The voice of Ian came from the stone. I remember now. You all passed it easily. Right. Arabella looked smug. That is right. It really is not difficult at all. Outside, 2 young people were carefully observing the sword. However, once a major is chosen, some would summon magic. Arabella warned, you will have to stick to the major you chose in the specialization exam. Arab turned back to the window. Unless you want to switch majors later. Over there, Ian was practicing his sword while still focused on listening. That is right. So you should choose carefully at the beginning. I still hope that our youngest choose the magic specialization. Clearly felt helpless after hearing. She still has not given up. Reluctantly replied, alright, I will think about it. Black had a question. So if after enrolling I want to change my major, I can only switch major. Right. Arabella replied, usually that is the unless you have graduated and want to start over. She added, you can also take classes in other majors. Black decisively swung his sword in a long arc. Starting from the 3rd year, advanced major classes won't allow students from other majors to participate. Black bit his lip, pausing his actions for a moment. After thinking for a long time, he softly lamented, then I will have to choose just one major to study. Arab suddenly remembered something. Oh right, there is a program called the elective major for talented individuals. Black was somewhat surprised. Is that really a thing? That sounds interesting. Arabella, with an expressionless said, but if you do not intend to intentionally fail, no one wants to enroll in that. Black curiously asked why that was. Arabella laughed, because no one has passed that exam exam yet. The voice from the other end suddenly got quieter. So that is how it is. Arabella noticed something unusual and quickly asked, Donnie, tell me you are thinking about trying it. Black immediately denied. No way. Craven is here. I will get back to you later. Arabella walked away in confusion. Am I pushing him too hard? But the magic still comes from behind. A voice called out, Senior Arabella, the professor is looking for you. Okay, I will be right there. Siren handed over the item, saying, here's the recommendation letter I promised. Den was overjoyed. Did you really write it for me? Siren Gus stroked his beard and replied slowly, not only the appearance but also the content has been meticulously crafted. I have written a few recommendation letters before. This is the first time I have put so much effort into it. Consider it an honor. Den looked extremely excited. I will try not to disappoint. Siren Gus turned his face away, sounding annoyed. Yeah, it would be great if you said you wanted to be my student, but even if I accept, I do not think you would respectfully call me T. Den immediately fell silent. How did he know? Siren Gus regained his concerned demeanor. Have you got everything ready yet? Den casually replied, I have. Actually, I do not have much to bring. Moreover, the facilities at the academy dormitory are quite good, so most of the essentials are already provided. Siren Gus put his hands on his hip. The facilities are indeed good, but it is about having the skills to take advantage of it. But you are not the type to back down from those guys, right? I feel a bit worried inside. Hearing him say that, it seems like the academy is just a gathering of no. Siren Gus with a grumpy attitude. Don't forget this, it might be harsh there. If you show contempt, many will immediately reveal their true nature and bear their fame. I guess remembering the past life is no different from a battle, right? You obediently replied, I understand. Siren Gus instruct you need any contact. Okay, and that crystal bridge you mentioned is really useful. We will make good use of it. I asked with a sad look, but why do you talk as if you are leaving soon? Siren asked in surprise. You noted. I am planning to leave tomorrow. Really? Can't stay here forever, can I? Your father offered me the position of magical advisor, but I will think about that later when I have nothing else to do. Sidon placed a hand on my shoulder. You know, I still have a lot to finish when I get back. He softened his tone, thinking he was done with everything, but it turns out there are still many tasks I need to complete. I wonder, is he talking about ancient magic? Helping him is like helping myself. Not bad at all. Siren Gus cheerfully said. Anyway, Thang quickly replied, thank you too. He smiled with narrowed eye. That is right. I am really looking forward to seeing how strong you will be when we meet again. Siren then left with a wave goodbye. Well then, do not see me off. Hey, I would feel awkward otherwise. Please be polite. Could not help feel regret. Perhaps because they had been close for a long time, so it made him a bit sad to see him go. Lily walked into the room with the announced Sirens has left safe, so he said he would depart today, right? He gently replied. The boy said he was all set. Lily was still very worried. Hearing that he would leave soon made her feel at ease, but she hoped he would not run into any trouble on the way. Reassured his wife, we will use the teleportation gate that Arabella prepared. So what could go wrong? Lily felt a weight lift off her shoulder. I really was worrying for nothing. Looked very happy, saying, I think we have raised our kids very well. Meanwhile, kids from other families were busy fighting over the position of the head of the house. Let's continue. We will have to make a clear decision someday, but I won't favor anyone. Just then, there was a figure outside the door. Zin was ready and gently called for his parents. Asi was delighted to see his son. John, you are here. Are you getting ready to leave now? Lily then asked, did you bring the sign I gave you in Nam? Zin squinted and smiled. Lying. Of course, I did. Lily advised a few things. If you really encounter a tough situation, go to the place I mentioned and show the sign. Okay, Zen asked, I remember. Are the people there your old colleagues? Lily looked up, pondering. That is right. They are your mother's very close. Although it has been a while since they last met, I am sure everyone will help you out. A is tense upon realize. Could it be that when we get to our house, we will start the path of a true assassin? Regaining composure. On remind. When you arrive in the cap, be sure to meet Duke Thmine. Before entering the academy, the Duke will help father. The thought of being away from her son makes Lily cry, as he is now old enough to leave us like this. Feels a bit you, not knowing what to do. Send him off with a smile. Madam. Lily sadly urges, come on, we won't go too far. Den tightens the bag strap, feeling suddenly heavy on his feet as they are about to leave. He looks at his parents one last time and says, then I ask for permission to go. Following Den's footsteps toward the palace door, coldly orders his subordinate, Ajola, keep a close watch. Ensure that he reaches the teleportation gate safe, and then report back to me. The young man, covering his, quickly comply. Master. Before Julius leaves the room, Lily suddenly speaks up with a sentence after a long time apart, the shadow of her smiling. You know what to do, right? Pay attention to see if anything unusual happens during the teleportation. Den and M have spotted an object right in front. M excitedly calls out to the young master. Seeing something like this is truly impressive. This is who does not respond, but internally acknowledge it. That is right. This is the teleportation gate that the eldest sister aired in advance. Never stops praising. Lady Arabella seems to be a truly wonderful person, so I completely agree with that. Indeed, I understand why it took a whole year. Pointing at the object, curiously asked, if I step into that, will the teleportation act? With a sly smile, he answered. He wondered how much effort she had put in. Teleportation, like other types of magic, can only be used if the code is arranged correctly. The magic needs to be continuously infused while the code is being rearranged before it can be. He assessed from top to bottom, and the portal Arabella installed was a perfect device meeting all the requirements for teleportation. Slightly bowing his head, his voice carried a hint of concern. Young master, please be careful. Patted his shoulder, looking quite relaxed. Alright, you be careful too. Den is the one who will step into the teleportation portal. Each step he took pressed firmly against the grass, taking only a few seconds to reach the center of the large portal. Den took a deep breath. She said he just needed to channel magic into the portal for it to act. He spread his arms wide to summon the power, the aura lifting Den's body into the air. A strong wind like a storm suddenly blew it, forcing Den to brace himself with his arm. The space around him began to solidify. The teleportation portal then opened. Den squeezed his eyes shut, trying to sense. And when you feel the strange lightness creeping into every fiber of your body, that is when the portal you came through disappeared. The bright sunlight shines down on the bustling streets. This place is just as beautiful and dreamy as Den's land. You are riding on horseback, standing in front of the city gate, feeling excited. This must be it. Den eagerly looks around. This is the entrance to the Imperial City. The sound of hooves stops as a strange voice is heard. I have been waiting for you. A man in a majestic iron armor politely calls out, Sir Den. He respectfully introduces himself. I am Liwik Asma, captain of the first night squad of the Thummin clan. Den nods after hearing that. See now, you are a bit cute. Having the captain of the night personally greet you makes you feel a bit pressured. Liwik solemnly announced, we will escort you from here. As soon as he finishes, he immediately glances back, where his subordinates are ready, waiting for order, guarding carefully. They all shout in unison. Liwik firmly said, we will set off right away. Den smiles happily. I rely on you all. After walking a few steps, a lot of random thoughts filled Den's mind. Now that I have really arrived, arrived. Feels so strange. I never thought I would step into the heart of the Anthean Empire that I once hated. The flag flutters in the summer breeze, and I am here as the best of the best. There are voices of people rushing to see this magic. Come on, this is not an easy opportunity. On the other side, there are welcoming calls. Over here, the ice cream is magically frozen with just a copper crown. It is hard not to be amazed. It is true that there is everything. I did not expect the capital to be so lively. Lee Wick suddenly spoke up to introduce. This is the estate of the Thamine family. He was a bit startled because he was not paying attention. Looking ahead as direct, the magnificence made him gasp in awe. The mansion is truly massive. After a while, he fell completely silent as he sensed something strange. Watching the crowd continuously moving, he subconsciously bit his lip, feeling like someone was watching, or was it just his imagination? 2 rows of people bowed gracefully before him. Welcome, politely responded, thanking them for the warm welcome. Such a simple thing surprised him a little. The standard formation, the ritual, and adherence to rules seemed unnatural, so different from our southern region. The main gate had someone waiting for a long time. He walked up smiling to introduce himself. Greet you, Duke the Min. The man clasped his hands behind his back, embodying the demeanor of a superior. Calmly responding, it has been a while, has nodded. Damn me one. With a gentle asked if he was still well. It must have been a tough journey. Come inside. The Min exclaimed in surprise. Looking closely, he had changed a lot compared to a year ago. The kids your age or even a year or two older. It is hard to compare with you. I am sure C is very proud of you. You are being too kind. The teacher advised a few, this place may not compare to your father's castle, but enjoy your time here while preparing for the academy entrance exam. Also, we will assign a servant to attend to you, so let us know if you need any. The servant cheerfully said, Thank. Is Elvenla doing well? You two must be chatting. She is doing fine. But did you have a fight with her? What do you mean? The ma'am mentioned that lately when Lila hears your name, she seems unhappy and withdrawn. I am not quite sure. Teacher cleared his throat. I understand. It might be due to the pressure from the upcoming exam. Someone like Lila can easily get through it. The servant just smiled to brush it off. I will ask when I see her. What do you think the issue is? Could it be something about age? The teacher agreed. That is right. We will have a chance to talk more later. I am just giving you a heads up. Was there something you wanted to ask? The Min suddenly fell silent, and you will understand soon. The servant was confused, wondering what he was talking about. The Mivern remembered and reminded, you should go to your room and rest. The servant will take you there. The servant respectfully bowed. Well, I wish you a good rest. The servant said. Thank you very much. The door was closed carefully. I guess I will be here for a week until the exam. You looked around, but this living room seems a bit too fancy. The bag down. I told myself I should unpack and head to the training ground. The girl carefully pushed the door open without making a sound. She suggested she would take you to the training ground. I widened my eyes upon recognizing this voice. Lila asked with annoyance. Why did you take so long to get here? She shouted angrily. You made me wait forever. I wonder when I would see you. I was still in a daze. Is it really Lila? You instantly became excited. It has been a while. Has nodded. How have you been? Lila snapped. Yeah, I am doing great. She marched up bold. Don't you have anything to say to me? I replied awkwardly. What do you mean? What do you mean? Lila suddenly yelled loud. Why did not you write to me? At this point, I stood frozen. I was taken aback by her continuous questioning. After a while, I stammered. I meant to reply but forgot. I added. And Lila scoffed in response. Is saying sorry enough? You scratched your head and laughed. I came all the way here. I did not have the spirit to do anything since I had to prepare to leave the capital. Please forgive me this time. I asked myself what I could do for her. I would do anything she wanted to apologize. Lila raised her eyebrow, deep in thought, and after a long while, she did not speak. Den smiled sincerely at first. I need to get out of this situation. But what does she want you to do? Taking a deep breath, Den slowly said, what should I do for you? After thinking for a moment, Lila spoke up again. Okay, how about a light match? Den could not help but raise an eyebrow in doubt. Lila lifted her eyebrows looking at him, happily saying, a match with. He hesitated and said, is that okay? After receiving her shake of the head, he finally agreed. Hearing this, Lila smiled faint. She provocatively raised an eyebrow. Are you confident you won't regret it? Just looking like this, I am already strong enough not compared to before. I am no longer the one who learned how to unleash power from you. Den looked a bit surprised at her confidence. It seems she has matured a lot over the past 7 years. Thinking of that, he spoke up, remembering that last time in his letter, he mentioned winning some competition. Lila nodded and smiled in response. You remember, I won the Royal Cup knitting competition. Den calmly said, that was the competition for teenagers under 18 in the Empire, right? Lila smiled and nodded. That is right. If you had come, you would definitely have faced me in the finals. That is a shame. Den shrugged nonchalantly, saying, that regret can be lifted now. Lila still seemed a bit hesitant. Are you really okay with this? You still have to take the entrance exam. What if you get hurt? He pouted and smiled, thinking to himself, who should be worried about whom? However, he did not say any, calmly waving his hand. Hearing this, Lavina immediately felt happy. Good. It is late today. Let us have a match first thing tomorrow. The next morning at the castle, just as promised, Lala came to find Zine. After hearing Yen's suggestion, Lula could not believe it and exclaimed, are you still using a bladed weapon? He shook his head and explained, this is just a light match. Using practice weapons is fine. No matter how skilled a warrior is, can't handle every situation. Aren't you afraid of getting hurt during the match? Lala sighed and reassured, don't worry, because my sister, the best healer in the Empire, is working for my family. But Zane countered her question. What if something happened and the healer can't treat it? La hesitated, unable to respond. So she looked at him calmly. To wield a bladed weapon, he needed to think that way. She criticized him in dissatisfaction. It is just a match. Why are you so serious? Seeing that she could not persuade him, she sighed and agreed. Fine, using practice weapons is okay then. Immediately after, she ordered the servant to bring the practice weapons to her. Zin watched her intently, feeling in his heart, indeed she has become the proud girl as rumored. Will also say that she will soon catch up with the stronghold of two brothers who are actively serving as knights. Perhaps Duke Lovila has given birth to the first female head of the family. Indeed, at that time, the release of magical power became a significant motivation. At the same time, Lovenla was also remembering the day a few years ago when she received help. She is very grateful for that. Thanks to you, she was able to learn the basics of controlling magical power much faster than her peers. And now she has 2 cores of magical power. She has been waiting for this day for a long time. If she wins, will you be sad? Just then, the servant brought a weapon to Lazala. She reached out to take, casually saying thank you, to receive the spear. You excitedly spun it a few times before nodding in satisfaction. Since it is a practice weapon, it is quite light. You had a bit of hesitation, quickly regained your calm, because on the battle you can use any. So what is there to be afraid of? Right after that, your step came more steady. Pride of a general who has fought on the battlefield for many years returned. You looked at Allah and said, can we start now? La was also ready. Nivima nodded. At this moment, she pointed the spear forward. Her right leg bent down to assume an attacking stance. On the opposite side, Lala was not idle. Gripping her sword tight, her eyes filled with determination. She had faced an opponent with a spear at the Danter Cup, but it was not not the spear has a long reach, but its destructive power diminishes when the distance closes. Thinking of this, she became even more confident in this battle. Immediately, she charged forward. Her momentum was incredibly aggressive, and the sword in her hand began to swing, almost stabbing into Den. Seeing this scene, she became even happy, but the tip of her sword struck nothing but air, because right in front of there was no trace of Den anymore, leaving her speechless in shock. While she was in a daze, a weapon was pressed against her neck. It was the spear in Den's hand. Lele exclaimed in surprise. When did you get? Den retracted his spear, speaking coldly. Good thing this is just a training weapon, or it could have been a serious issue. Hearing this, Lila quickly recovered and shouted, clearly having touched the sword. She simply could not believe that he had such speed. Den slammed the spear down onto the ground, making a sound. Then let us start over, he said. The same method would not work, so she should move carefully. Lila scoffed lightly. It had been a while since they met, so she was a bit tense. This time, she absolutely would not back down. But when she looked up again, she saw a familiar figure standing on the balcony. It was the Duke. He seemed to be observing this battle. He was intently watching Den's back. This moment, Den also sensed his gaze upon him. He had come to check final result. He knew well what his intentions were. After winning the Dan, Lila had worked very hard, so he had been quite worried. Today, he decided to relieve those worries. This moment, Loyola glared at him and said, ready, because my dad is watching too, so I will give it my all. Anything goes. Ian replied indifferent, nodding. Immediately, Lola rushed over. Mana energy continuously appeared in the air, but Zien remained calm as he stood there. He spun the spear in his hand, creating a whirlwind. However, with the mana still swirling in the air, he did not panic, continued to spin the spear. At that moment, Loyola charged in aggressive, her tone cold as she spoke. What is it? Ian, you are not going easy, are you? Zen was still able to hold his ground. He replied calmly, there is still a long way to go, so give it your all. At the same time, someone above silently observed, whispering. The battle between the two remained evenly matched. It was hard to tell how it would go on, yet he felt a sense of unease in his heart. The smile on Ian's face had completely vanished, his demeanor resembling that of a warrior about to go into battle. Below in the training ground, Zen and Alala were still fighting fiercely. Ian continued to defend himself with the long spear in his hand. Lala's powerful strikes coming. The two moved their feet quickly, with Zane stepping back 2 paces to dodge Allah's blade. Seeing this, Lovila bit her lip fierce. Her opportunity had come. With that thought, she thrust forward with all her strength. Ian was a bit surprised by this sudden action, but he just spun the spear around and struck her hand. Lele's eyes widened in shock, her mouth forming an O as the sword in her hand dropped round. Den raised an eyebrow and said with a smile, looks like I have won this time. Up on the balcony, but let out a resigned sigh, thinking to himself that he lost again. He glanced at the person beside him and asked, what do you think, Asma? Do you think this will make Lala a bit less arrogant? Hearing this, Asma immediately flinched. He spoke soft, so you knew about that, but replied casually, of course I knew. It was evident even before the cup match, and after winning the champ, it was completely clear. Meanwhile, the battle below is still ongoing. Watching his daughter struggle against Den, he could not help but sigh. I intended to have a serious talk, but I think it is better if she realizes it herself. Asma nodded slightly. That is a wise decision. Pondered for a long time before asking doubt, how many magic cores do you think that kid had? He squinted down at Den. Asma hesitated a moment before responding, at least 3 cores, but shook his head in disagreement. Think otherwise. He has at least 2 and at most 3. After hearing this, Asma furrowed his brow and asked, why do you think that? Looking close, but did not answer but suggested. Although the speed of Den's spear overwhelmed Lala, it was not just because of his quick, it was due to Lala's lack of experience in action tactics. After a while of fighting below, Lala could not help but shout, can you block all of? At that moment, Den had knocked Lala's sword aside with his spear. He pulled back his spear, raising an eyebrow at her. He calmly said, I can see all your moves. Asma watched this scene with a bit of fusion, wondering if he was a diligent swordsman. The Count nodded slightly. He must be inexperienced in real combat. Can't believe it either. With that, he squinted down below, feeling a bit unsettled. The time when Lala matured the most was after the inspection trip to the south 7 years ago, right after meeting Den. Perhaps this time will be the same. While he was thinking, Asma opened her mouth again, and it was quite interesting. The young lady won the Dan could not use all her strength. Clearly, Count says had trained her very rigorously. You do not understand a can't, but gently shook his head and said, even though he was strict, he was not someone who would train in a harsh manner. Unlike but in Den, there was no need for harsh training. Asma was slightly taken aback and asked in confusion, what do you mean? But replied casually, with a talent so overwhelming that ordinary people would not dare to surpass it. He believed that Den was a genius. At the same time, Den had just knocked Lila's sword away. He guessed Guy did not participate because he was not interested in Dan. Asma seemed a bit unconvinced. How could he not be interested in the Dan, the competition that all the boys and girls of the Empire aspired to? But again spoke casually. No one at that age could compete with his ability. On another note, the battle between Den and Lala had reached climax. Lala had been pushed back. Her face was filled with panic this moment, but wishes that she realizes her shortcomings in this competition. If she lets go of that complacence and focuses more on her sword training, she could completely surpass him. Below the arena, Lala is still kneeling on the ground, lost in thought. Indeed, cannot win against him at all. He is talented, but she never expected the gap between them to be so wide. He squints at her, retracting the sword resting on his shoulder. He calmly says, you are tired. Let us stop. Lila looks at her sword falling on the ground, and after a moment, she sighs and says, all right, you win. He squints at her and quietly breathes a sigh of relief. Duke Lile's wish has been fulfilled. He must have sensed by now that he is not number 1. Lila walks up to him, dissatisfied, and asks, how have you trained? Anyway, cold indifference in just a few words makes Lile even more annoyed, and she yells, is there anyone who does not work hard? He shrugs indifferent, resting his sword on the ground and said, well, let us start over. This makes Lila widen her eyes in shock. He does not care what she calmly walking away. I am going ahead. Lila watches his back, unsatisfied, exclaimed, next time you won't win again. All right, I will wait. He does not turn back, answering nonchalant. Soon after, he lifts his foot and leaves. This is the only child that Lila admires, and at the same time, person she wants to surpass. As long as she is taught and wait, she wants to prove that she is no longer a little girl. But why does he keep getting further ahead? Just wait and see. Next time she will definitely win. A month later, the Royal Academy's entrance exam started. It was like a festival as talents from all over the Empire gathered to take part in the entrance exam, including families and their entourage. Nearly 1,000 gathered in the capital. The number of applicants for the Royal Academy this time is about 6,000. Just paying the exam fee is not enough to qualify for application alone. 2/3 of them did not pass the first exam, so in the end, not many remain. Current after the first preliminary exam, over 2,000 people are preparing for the second specialized exam. In the grand hall of the castle, people were discussing this. One person could not help but ask, how many people do you think will pass this exam? Another person calmly replied, at most 200. Right. They believed that the kids taking this entrance exam were all good, with some being potential talent. This moment, Professor Dynabo, the head head of the magic department hurriedly asked, is the summary of the first exam not finished yet? Head of the education department Ingrid shook her head and replied, it is still being summarized. Who will get the highest score? I wonder. Someone asked if the top swordsman is the daughter of Duke Lala. Another person nodded. That is right. She is the one who won the Dan. The finals were amazing. Duke Lila raised her very well. The head of the swordsmanship department, Heinso, raised an eyebrow and smiled as he asked, it seems the top swordsman is someone to look forward to. The head of swordsmanship, Professor Esterander, nodded in response. What else is there to look forward to? It is almost certain now. While everyone is chatting, only Denabo remains off, seemingly pondering some. A moment later, he let out a sigh. He took out a letter and said in a serious tone, my thoughts are a bit different. Ingrid raised an eyebrow in suspicion and asked, what is it? Denabo slowly explained, this is a letter of introduction from Cedron. It has the seal of the tower containing magical power. As soon as he said this, Ingrid exclaimed in surprise, does that mean Cedron has really introduced someone? Estandersley retorted, no matter who it is, they can't beat the one who won the Dan. People began to discuss this matter. Siren is a famous figure who does not on apprentice, yet he sent a letter of introduction. A newcomer, only 14 years old but already in high school. Black exclaimed in shock, high school? Who is that person? After all, Dambo slowly mentioned a name, Dino Gret. This caused the faces of everyone present to turn pale in shock. Ignoring everyone's reaction, Denabo continued, he is a member of Count Sar. In the blink of an eye, everyone started talking about the Sress family. They have 2 talents in the field of magic and summoning. Even the youngest son was introduced by Siren. After some discussion, Den was the first to speak, saying if it is the Sress family, they are not to be underestimated. Ingrid nodded in agreement. The 2 highest families of the Great Luffy registered at the same time. It must be a hot. But Esterander raised an eyebrow and said with a smile, wait a minute, is not family known for their commerce, but it is a recommendation letter from a wizard. It seems the Sress family has become famous thanks to magic now. Hearing this, Ingrid sighed in dissatisfaction, thinking they would definitely get into the magic department. Denabo shrugged indifferently and casually said, he joins my department. He and Arabella will be really strong. After all, you have to have magic at the Royal Academy. Just then, a voice from outside suddenly broke the atmosphere. Sorry for interrupting, but the conversation had wrapped first exam. Hearing this, everyone immediately got excited, wanting that girl. He announced the results. Soon after the results were announced, the swordsmanship department has 1,367 students. The magic department has 227 students, and the summoning department has 102. The numbers are clearly too different, and the people here were immediately shocked. Indeed, the swordsmanship department has a very large gap. Estander excitedly opened the list to take a look, and then he smiled with satisfaction. Sure enough, Leela's name was at the top, but at that moment, Denabo suddenly looked at his hand kept scrolling through the data board, and after a while, he exclaimed, Denab, I do not see that guy's name. Estander frowned and asked, really? What about Cedran's recommendation letter? Ingrid shook her head slightly. I do not have it either. Someone suspiciously looked at the girl from earlier and asked, is there anyone not on the list? The girl quickly replied, well, there is one candidate who applied for the liberal arts major. As soon as these words were spoken, everyone present was speechless in shock, but it was not over yet. The girl also announced a piece of news that shocked everyone even more, which was that among the 6,000 candidates, Den scored the highest in the first exam. Professors who experienced this could not help gasp in shock. They fundamentally did not believe that Ziyen came in first. On another note, the house where Yen was staying, he had just finished practicing the method, and he had been there for a month. Time really flies. Felt like the fight with Lazala just happened yesterday. First exam had already taken, and they were waiting for the result. The exam was not hard. Just then, Levala ran in from outside, yelling, have you received the results yet? What place did you come in? At the same time, the bracelet Yen was wearing lit up, and the exam result transmitted. Yen happily replied, I came in first. Upon hearing this, Levala immediately got mad and huffed. Of course it is you. I am so frustrated. I missed out on first place. She glared at him and questioned him. How did you study? Anyway, Izen casually replied that it was thanks to the questions his sister sent, but in reality, he had an advantage because he had learned it directly in his previous life. Lila still would not let it go, constantly asked, what does a 14-year-old know about tax strategy and military management? Ian slowly said, I think that is the easiest part. Do not you find it interesting? Lula could not believe what she just heard, exclaiming in shock, are you even normal? Not only military study, there is also art, music, and even the history of the Drini Empire. That is my major. I could not help but smile and said casually, actually, there is a lot you have unconsciously gained while rolling around on the battle. Lila continued to ask, but where are you taking the second exam? Den frowned and mumbled, 3 places in total. I think 3 places. Lila exclaimed in surprise, but are you really applying for the liberal arts major? She aggressively questioned, besides the teaching and summoning department, what else is there? Den chuckled and shook his head, lying, I will let you know later, which will drive Lila crazy. After a moment of reflection, Lila asked, why did you choose the liberal arts major? No matter how I think about it, can't understand. So I calmly replied, because I want it all. Lila's face was startled by this state. The acceptance rate is very low. With a soft laugh, Den confidently said, I heard the liberal arts major allows you to take any classes you want until graduation. Does not require you to choose a specific major until you graduate, and you can even research with specialized professors. Right? Lila asked, is that why no one applied? Could it be that you do not want to study with and are purposely failing? Den shook his head and replied, no way. She frowned slightly and pressed, so you really think you will pass? Besides teaching and summoning, what else do you know? Hurry up and tell me. Looking at her fierce demeanor, he was somewhat at a loss for words. Should I say it? A few days later, in a room in a castle, there was a meeting going on, with 3 professors discussing the liberal arts exam. The summoning magic is so different from the core and the magic circle that it is almost impossible. Den worriedly spoke first. There were people who managed to pass 2 elective majors, but most could not pass even one. Den nodded slightly, either magic or sorcery. It is better to apply for one. Den sighed helplessly. The elective major has been established for about 200 years now. Right? Ingrid took a sip of tea, looking a bit serious, but hardly anyone has passed. It was not that difficult, Din said in a deep, because unlike now, hundreds of years ago, the academy needed talent. That was the time of conquest when they had to recruit all kinds of talent. If anyone had talent, they would be nerfed, but now it is not like that anymore. So the standards are getting higher. Therefore, candidates won't apply for what they are best at. Ingrid asked, doubt, then why let it exist? A department that no one applies for, and where no one can pass is for symbolic reasons. Denabo replied nonchalant, it is a symbol that only the best talents of the empire can pass. Den heard this and curled his lip. It is still important even though it is now a dying major, just to maintain its name. Denabo presented a stack of documents and slowly explained, I researched and found that in the past 100 years, only 2 people have passed this exam. One dropped out, and the other was the previous emperor. In its expression immediately became serious, meaning that if you are not a genius, you can't pass. Den sighed. Even if it is the youngest son of the war hero SSSrank, it is still hard to say, because it is not an ordinary family. She also has high hope. Dan spoke up again. Who knows? He might be just an arrogant, but based on our consideration, we could let him enroll. Dan frowned and began to speak. But as a professor, he could not be careless. Dan took a sip of tea and then sighed. After a moment, he set the teacup down. He spoke in a serious tone, wondering if that kid was confident enough to challenge the symbolism. The next day, the second round of the exam, Dan stood before the three professors and politely greeted. I'm Dino Grant, applying for the liberal arts department of the Royal Academy. Dino squinted at him, smiling as he asked, do you know what it means to apply for the liberal art? He nodded slightly, confidently replying, Core, I understand that all three majors require passing score. Ingrid added, your name is correct, right? It is not too late now. Hearing this, he was taken aback. What does this mean? Ingrid continued, I have great respect for Count Sograt, as he is the best mage in the She expressed that she did not want to see his son get eliminated and go home, and it was then that he understood what they wanted. He calmly said, thank Professor for the compliment, but I came here with the mindset to give my all. Three professors immediately fell into deep thought. That is true. If he were a kid who gives up easily because of those words, he would not have applied. After a long while, Denabo finally spoke up. In that case, there is no other choice. There are 3 tests pending on the major you choose. If you fail any of those tests, you will be automatically eliminated. I understand. D nodded without hesitation and replied. Denabo glanced at Den and suggested they start from the summoning department as they had decided earlier. Shortly after, Den stepped outside to prepare for the test. Den recognized this person, professor from the summoning department. She is the highest level summoner of the Anton Empire, having set a record for summoning level 2 or higher 3. After observing him for a while, Den finally spoke. The testing method of the summoning department is the simple. Just please me in any way related to summoning magic. Hearing this, Den smiled. Just as he predicted, the test was free form with no standards or format. After thinking for a moment, he suggested, if so, could you summon a creature for me? Professor, Den exclaimed in shock. A summoning creature? He calmly nodded. Any summoning creature will do. Not only was she shocked, but the 2 professors behind her were too. Ingrid could not believe it and exclaimed, what is this? Candidate is asking the professor to summon. Denabo's face was filled with astonishment. What kind of scheme is this? Since there had been no sign, it was thought he would only discuss theory. But it seems he wanted to see the summoning creature. Den stared at him for a long time, and finally, she nodded and spoke. Alright, that is quite bold, but very interesting. Really knows how to appreciate the unusual. She told him to open his eyes wide and watch close. He nodded slightly, then observed her action. At that moment, a stream of blue light appeared around her. They kept swirling around her hand, then spread throughout her body. It seemed like she was mumbling a spell in her mouth. Moments later, her eyes suddenly lit up. She shouted loudly, answer the call. In an instant, waves of energy began to dance in the air. They quickly gathered into one spot. The energy they radiated was so strong that it knocked the nearby students off their feet. Seeing this scene, the other 2 professors were also left. What they saw in the energy waves was a large wolf starting to appear, with long, sharp claws and a large tail swaying in the air. By the time it fully formed, the frenzied summoned beast Heir quickly emerged. It let out a roar that frightened everyone here. Den squinted at it, secretly cursed. Its roar was so unpleasant. It is the most ferocious among the level 4 summoned beasts, except for the summoner. It attacks all targets it sees. Since it was the first exam, he did not expect much, but this test would be very interesting. Den squinted at Heir for a long time without making any move. At this moment, Den spoke. I have summoned any beast I wanted. What are you going to do now? He did not answer, just stood there extremely calm. On the contrary, outside discussing the summoned beast. It was the fiercest among level 4. Even many Millie Knight find it hard to handle. Ingrid was scared and shouted out, what were they going to do? After a moment of contemplation, Den finally towards the summoned beast. Seeing this scene, Den was immediately shocked and exclaimed, what are you planning to do? Stop right now if you provoke Heir. Just as she was about to finish her sentence, a Zerk roared and charged forward. Den calmly asked, just to prove it in any way, right? Den frowned slightly, feeling confused as he spoke. That is right, but if proving it means throwing yourself into the fire, then before she could finish her sentence, Den interrupted, that is not going to happen. Everyone, do not worry. As soon as those words came out, Den's expression grew even more panicked. Under her horrified, Heir let out a growl and then fell silent. Meanwhile, Den was mumbling the incantation, and Irki's bloodshot eyes began to soften. As time passed, its ferocity diminished. A moment later, its body suddenly slumped down. It slowly sat on the ground. Helong nodded and calmly said, good job. Seeing the scene, faces of the 2 professors behind changed dramatically. Din could not believe it and exclaimed, what is going on here? Even Den could not believe what he was seeing, not knowing the other's reaction. He reached out to pat Eek's head and gently said, you are much bigger than Jen. It obediently nodded at, regardless of the hand resting on its head. Den's mouth fell open, eyes wide in disbelief. Fierce Ezra flying so easily. But what surprised him even more was that he fell into shock once again. She has seen the magic red connecting with Ezra gradually appearing. It is light color, so it is not submission, but it completely erases Irk's hostility, allowing for a pleasant conversation with Ezra. On the contrary, behind Denabo, she was stunned and exclaimed. Even though she saw it with her own eyes, she still could not believe it. Ingrid was so excited that she stood up. Could it be innate empathy? It is truly amazing. Those standing outside were also speechless in astonishment. Den was lost in his thought, wondering if he had approached Ezra, quickly analyzed the magical thread, then created a similar magical thread and connected it to himself. Since there were no other methods, this might be the most suitable way to tame. That is a power superior, someone who was always praised by the master before. This is such talent. Future is truly promising. Thinking this, Den stepped forward in front of Den. She spoke seriously. Den grabbed, your abilities have been fully recognized. Strong courage, calm judgment, and solid basic skills. There is no doubt you have passed the exam. As soon as these words were spoken, the 2 professors behind also nodded in agreement. Black smiled polite and said thank you. A long day quickly passed and night had fallen. After returning, Black recounted the situation to Lila. She could not believe it and exclaimed, is it really only 30 minutes until the end? Then you are the top student. Zine furrowed her brow in confusion. Why is that? I heard you are also the top student in martial art. Lala shook her head sadly. You are. With a soft laugh, he cheerfully said, cheer up. They opened a celebration for us passing. Right. She shook her head in despair, refusing to eat. You should eat a lot. She sighed helpless, unable to believe it. Shocked by the big, felt like an unstoppable, a natural disaster. That is exactly how it felt. Wee watched all Laz back, feeling a bit unsure of what to do. At that moment, Count Lila had come to intervene. She wants to be alone. Just leave her be. He was still very worried, but the man firmly said, it is Lula will do that. Then he smiled and asked, have you contacted your dad yet? Lord Beatty must be very proud. I nodded slightly and replied nonchalant. Everyone is very happy. He even cheerfully added, if it is a liberal arts major, it is definitely well deserved. Now that the exam is over, just get ready for school. He nodded slightly, grateful to him for helping me through a good time. He declined to give his opinion, nodded and asked, have you thought about the item to commission for the black? He slowly said, I am thinking about a sword, but I do not have any plans yet. But heard this and frowned. Asked, why is that? He slowly replied, my body is still growing. I do not know which sword to make. I will think a bit more since this is a good opportunity. He thought for a moment and nodded. That is true. There is no rush. Just take your time. Just then, a subordinate came in from outside to report, dude, you should go to the Duchess now, but glanced at him and calmly replied, I know, I will go ahead. With that, he turned and left. Den watched his back and could not help but sigh. It seems the Duchess's condition is still ongoing. You have heard Lila talk about it. Her symptoms have not worsened or improved, just like that for several years. This is indeed unfortunate. For someone who has never seen a family member sick, it is a feeling Den can't understand. He was thinking about whether he should go comfort Lila. 2 days later, the Royal Academy's castle. Many people had gathered, came here specific for the party. After a while, a solemn voice rang out. It is a pleasure to meet new students of the Royal Academy. I am Awan Hamid, principal of the Academy. This year, seeing the new students who have overcome fierce competition and stand, I believe that the future of the Empire is very bright. All of you are talented individuals of the Empire, but especially among this year's new students, there are many outstanding talent, including students who passed the liberal arts major, of which only 2 have passed in the last 100 years. The students were approved by all 3 department heads of the education, magic, and summoning department. As soon as these words were spoken, the students below immediately started whispering, mostly in astonishment. Hearing this, Iwan broke into a smile. Soon after, spoke loudly to represent the top new student to step forward. Ian raised his head and stepped forward from the group of students, and as soon as they saw him, people below immediately started whispering. However, Ian did not pay much attention and walked calmly. Those standing above also began to praise him, but went to Asin side and said, you have raised him very well. Asen shyly scratched his head, feeling that compared to him, it was nothing. However, hearing this, Pen immediately sighed. Raising 2 sons brings no benefit. The enrollment ceremony for his sister, and he has not seen either of their faces. The older one has gone off some, and the younger one has run away from home. In contrast, Asin has 2 daughters, which is really nice, and he feels quite jealous. Asen modestly smiled and said, don't you have Lala? In an instant, Pen's face changed, because Elwine Lo was clearly not happy standing in the crowd. He just hoped his wife too. At the same time, someone else was discussing Yin's summoning technique. Zen had asked Cole, who was next to him, with suspicion. You have been close to summoning beasts since you were little. He nodded in response. Yep. Professor, she clarified and nodded. Indeed, it was a social ability that was innate, but inside, she felt that Zen was a monster. This unimpressive kid can do much more than other summoners. At this moment, she hesitantly asked, Professor, the social ability of the monster, can it summon creatures from across the horizon? Beyond the horizon lies another world, where the summoned creatures lost their connection over 100 years ago. Den thought for a long time before speaking. Let us, the summoned creatures over there might choose a mage too. Everyone continued to discuss Den. Below, Principal Iwan approached Den and said, you are the Den sor from the rumor. He handed him a piece of paper, smiling and saying, I hope your talent shines at this academy. Den took it, nodded, and replied, I will remember. Principal and the students in the yard witnessed this scene, their eyes filled with admiration. The nobles in the high platform also looked on. Next will be the representative student's oath-taking ceremony. At this moment, he was very pleased. Finally made it into the academy. It took a lot of time to get here, but he would not waste this new life that has been granted. His eyes were more determined than ever. This was just the beginning. A moment later, in the main lecture hall of the academy, the introduction about the academy finally came to an end. The academy staff told them to take a short break for the next part, so they should eat something and rest comfortably. Right after that, the group of students began to rest in place. The whispering sounds continued to rise. The main character is none other than Den. At the same time, Lila next to Den kept reminding, listen, a lot of people will be targeting you later. If someone suggests something, you must think it through carefully. I have heard there are many strange here, not well educated at home. Over here, the other students were constantly noisy, with some being invited to join the club. The hall instantly became very lively. Seeing this scene, Lila could not help but be surprised. Are the seniors inviting people to join the club during the break? Den had heard this from his older sister. There are a lot of interesting clubs here. The seniors are also looking for new members to invite to their clubs. Many eyes were focused on Den. Lila could not help but shout, everyone is targeting you. What should we do? At this, she immediately grabbed Den's hand and ran off. She spoke as they ran. First, let us get out of. Den asked her suspicious, where are you planning to go? But just after a few steps, they were blocked by some tall. Den's join the body beauty club, where you can show off and train for a beautiful body. Before he could respond, another person ran over. Hey Rook, what do you think of our map exploration research club? If you join now, it will be a new map. Another girl shouted. Our astrology research club gathers the most talented individual. Even the low beside them was targeted by everyone. She was a bit flustered by their enthusiasm and hurriedly shouted as she ran, I am not joining. But then a chase broke out. Den was used to being chased by enemies, but this was the first time he was in a situation like this. The top student turned out to be this tyrant. Meanwhile, in the hallway of a castle, figure was walking slowly. This person was Kentis. As soon as he appeared, everyone began to gossip. I have heard that after the royal knight retired, he became a professor right away. He is a wonderful success, but has one headache. A new student in the liberal arts major joined after several decades. That is a comfortable position since he only occasionally has to write these and achieve just enough result. Now the comfortable life has ended. He has to prepare for a class that will probably be very frustrating. At this moment, Kenneth has arrived at his destination. He aggressively bit his lower lip, looking rather upset. He grumbled that the orientation for new students had ended. This is ridiculous. Why is there a student accepted at this time? He saw a figure standing in front of the classroom door. That person was Ford, who had just been accepted into the liberal arts major. Kentis frowned and asked, you are Den, so right? You are early. Den flinched slightly and turned to look back. Upon seeing who it was, Den politely bowed his head. Hello, Professor. It is nice to meet you, he said seriously. All right, come on in. The two quickly walked into the room. Kenneth frowned as he observed Den sitting in the chair, silently calculating. He had worked hard to earn this position. Came here to rest, not to teach. If it were a map, he would be tired of guiding the knights by now. Thinking of this, he looked up at Den and asked, why do you want to apply for a liberal arts major? Den calmly replied, to do everything I want. He doubted again and asked, don't you intend to switch to a special major? Den casually replied, I do not want to miss this opportunity. Hearing this, Candace immediately felt if it continues like he has to guide him, there is no other way. But he suddenly remembered that Den was not taking the swordsmanship exam, so so the reason for not taking it must be a lack of confidence. With that thought, he spoke again. Do you know anything about swordsmanship? I am not trying to criticize, but since you are studying liberal art as your professor, I should at least know your swordsmanship level. Hearing this, Den frowned. Why was he suddenly asking about swordsmanship? Felt like he was not welcome. After thinking, he replied, it is not that I am not interested in swordsmanship. Kenneth immediately stood up excited. Great, then I will test. Den nodded without hesitation. Sure. He felt secretly pleased. You fell into my trap. Quickly suggested. Then let us go to my training area. He has the right to evaluate the student. He just needs to use the excuse of poor swordsmanship to make Den leave. The two quickly arrived at the training ground. Kenneth casually said, there are many swords here, so pick whichever one you want. Den nodded calmly. He looked at the swords displayed there, unable to help feel emotional. How could the training ground be in a place like this, even without liberal art? This felt a bit excessive. You sighed in frustration. Which one should you choose? Right after that, you reached for a sword in the corner. Kenneth saw this and frowned. Asked, is that enough? Z nodded slightly and replied, this one is enough. Kenneth raised an eyebrow and said with a smile, if you can hit me with that sword, even just once, then you pass. He said it would not be hard, as he would only move too. Hearing this, Vin nodded. I understand. Kenneth frowned, observing, accepting his condition calmly. Was it because you were confident enough? Ian really was confident enough to do that. At that moment, you immediately charged forward. Your gaze was incredibly determined, and the tip of your sword was almost touching Kentus. He was a bit surprised. You were really fast. Was this enough for you to get into the liberal art? But while he was thinking, Ian's sword spinning, Kentus's face immediately turned unpleasant. What was this? Finally, his sword hand started to rise. He stepped back and then swung his hand to block Ian's sword. At this moment, he took a breath. A little later, and it would have been serious, using such an unusual sword technique. Are you an idiot who knows how to use a sword? Over here. Lead also stepped back, resting his sword on the ground, raising an eyebrow at the person in front of him. His eyes darted around, and the atmosphere began to. Kentus's face looked a bit unpleasant at this moment. He looked like a warrior on the battlefield, rather than someone from a noble or knightly background. While he was thinking, Den charged forward again, the tip of his sword dancing in the air. His speed was extremely fast, forcing Kentus into a defensive position. His face looked a bit ridiculous, and his hands holding the sword trembled unconscious. But Den did not give him any time to breathe. He came with a wine-splitting momentum, moving swift, and his swordplay was so skilled that it made Kentus doubt himself. Was he really a level 6 who needed to focus this much? Was he really fighting against a 14-year-old? He did not even need to give ground. Kentus's feet had to keep moving to block the attack. This moment, the knight had fallen behind. Kentus's face did not look good. This appearance seems familiar. Years ago, when he was still a knight, leading his troops into battle, he had seen a valiant warrior. However, that person had no medals or banners symbolizing a knight. Watching that person fight, he was astonished. Wide-eyed. Who was that person? Returning to reality, the swords of the two had pointed towards each other, but it had touched Kentus's body. Kentus was startled by this scene. Why was he thinking of something else? But no matter what, the knight had won. The boy smirked and said, Professor, I think I have met the requirement. Gritting his teeth, he was a bit unwilling, his sword hand trembling tight. Taking a deep breath, he slowly spoke, you have passed. Den sighed in relief. Indeed, if it was the strength of the royal knight, it would not go far. Kentus frowned at the boy, feeling somewhat contemplative. But this kid was truly a genius, a special genius, even with some flaws. He was not inferior to him. He had reached level 6. Now he understood why the boy was not interested in the swordsmanship exam. Thinking of this, he doubted what. With this strength, the boy did not apply to the swordsmanship department. Den calmly replied, because I think my family would be sad. Hearing this, Kentus was taken aback, frowned in deep thought. Den's father is a master of teaching. His two sisters are masters of magic and summoning. So you chose all three to meet your family's expectations. At this moment, Den spoke. Has the professor confirmed everything yet? Kentus has realized he was wrong. Aren't you lacking confidence in your swordsmanship? He nodded slightly and replied, you can go home. I will send you a notice soon. Thank Professor. Den politely bowed. Kentus clearly felt a bit unwilling. He watched as Den's figure walked away. I have really messed up. Do the department heads feel the same way as judges? All his plans to get rid of Den and live comfortably have gone up in smoke. He could not help but let out a helpless sigh. Remembering his past as a knight, he finally recalled who that person was. That valiant general was the heroic. He still vividly remembers walking over those corpses. This moment, he suddenly realized the person he unconsciously thought of in the earlier battle. Den's moves were very similar to those outside the academy's courtyard. After leaving Kentus's office, Den recounted everything to Chloe, who exclaimed in surprise, did you really pass the test? He nodded. Thanks. Cole frowned slightly, expressing doubt. It is strange. Professor Kentus is not someone who easily lets students pass. He only participates in the regular term once a year, but this time the principal called. He really hates troublesome matters. Hearing this, Den nodded in agreement. He really is someone who likes to do things his own way. He sighed and said, that is why I was surprised. Luckily, nothing happened at all. That night, he focused on her smile, feeling a wave of emotion rise within him. She was not really a stranger, just a source of comfort knowing his cousin was safe and sound. That was one of the reasons he liked his older sister. Just then, Arabella came running from a distance, wondering where he was, only to find out he was with Call. She smiled cheerfully. Little one, passed the test. Right. The students saw the three sisters chatting happily and began to whisper among themselves. A moment later, someone approached to introduce himself. I Homo, in charge of all the dormitory affairs. The dormitory is divided into 3 areas based on entrance score, with the highest level called Dan. He also informed him that since he was the top student in his liberal arts major, he would stay in this area, which included a dining hall, training ground, library up to standard, and even a lounge and a magic screening room, plus some secret facility. Hearing this, Den frowned. What do you mean by secret? What is so secret? I might not have to explain it, but depending on your score, there is a chance you might leave this area. Arabella and Claire are also in this area, but only until graduation. After that, he handed him a wrench, provided him with keys as a back. If you lose one, just let me know. Den took the key, nodded slightly in response. I got it. He then reminded, be careful from now on. There are many strange students. They are not bad, but sometimes unexpected things. Check the room, and if you need any, the logistics team know. Den nodded and sighed. Should we go check the room? In the end, he decided to take a look. His first impression was that it was very upscale, but oddly quiet. He walked slowly down the hallway, and after a while, he suddenly stopped. Something felt off. He could not sense any human presence, as if they had vanished. What was going on? He took a deep breath, carrying the suspicion while spreading his aura. He wanted to see what was happening. Closing his eye, the aura gradually spread everywhere. For long, he sensed a faint smell of something slimy, along with the sound of gears softly. Clearly, this was a trap. He could not help but smile slightly. So that is it. It is a debit ceremony. At the same time, a group of people was watching through the screen. Someone suspiciously voiced, why is not he moving anymore? Another carefully asked, Hannah, do you think he knows there is a trap? Person named Anat shook his head slightly, confidently replying, absolutely not. My Julat family is the best hunting clan that has existed for hundreds of years. I am very confident about that. This person is the eldest son of Baron Julat and Julat, third-year student in the archery department. Another person skeptically asked, so is it dangerous? Casually said, of course. I have removed everything that could cause harm. It is just to make him a laughingstock. Another person smiled with excitement. This first launch event is really something to look forward to. We thought you would be a total mess getting here. But some are still worried and asked, are you really okay? That is the stress fan said coldly. So what? We all went through a memorable launch event. Just wait and see. He will probably be scared to death. This female student hesitated and said, but he is the top student in the liberal arts, so this time might be different. His older sister and second sister are both geniuses. If he passes in liberal art, he will be even more of a genius. The speaker was Priscilla Nilly, fourth-year student in the neuroscience part. Hearing this, questioned her with dissatisfaction. What do you mean? Are you saying he won T-fall for my trap? Indifferently shrugging, she said with a cold smile, not really, but it seems like you are not very confident. Don't laugh. That is not going to happen. He scoffed. He did not believe he would recognize his own trap. He had used an invisibility spell, and had also applied grace to muffle the engine noise. While they were still suspicious, Den had started to move back. Seeing this, they immediately got excited. He was moving again. Out in the hallway, Den had already figured out their trap started with a rope trap, and just a light touch would set it off. Then I will use a magic bullet, he casually murmured, then raised his hand. A magic bolt shot straight toward a trap not far away, with a loud bang, and immediately exploded. Water splashed onto the ground, and Den calmly watched, standing just a step away from the trap. But one thing that surprises you is that there is less water than you think. Just at that moment, another trap is triggered. Hatch opens, and a full smell quickly hits your nose. Click your tongue, feeling nostalgic. That smell is really something. Just like kids, you can't help but cover your nose with your hand. Seeing the scene, the group of students could not believe it, and exclaimed, what the heck? He figured it out. Priscilla immediately turned her head towards and, what is going on? You said we would not be discovered at all. How did it end up like this right from the start? And shook his head, saying it was just a coincidence. Hearing this, Priscilla snorted cold. Just a coincidence. He nodded fiercely. Right. I started off a bit soft, which is why I got discovered. Just wait. They will definitely fall into the trap. The others thought for a moment and nodded. Let us try trusting it. Priscilla suddenly looked at it, feeling a bit uneasy. At the same time, outside, ignoring the two traps, Den slowly moved forward. You sighed soft. The second one is also clumsy. Should I just break? After pondering for a moment, Den quietly decided to act, and then he immediately charged forward, gliding past the boxing gloves, and soon came to a halt safe. But it was not over yet. In front of you, sticks were thrusting towards. The result was the same. You avoided them all. Watching this scene, the observing students could not believe it and shouted, indeed, it is the Count's family. I heard his sisters also had a very memorable debut. Right. Another student suspected that he seemed to guess everything that would happen. Did Ament really try to hide it so simple? Aggressively biting his lip, Ament could not accept it and spoke up. It is too early to give up. Can't escape the final trap. Priscilla was astonished and asked, what is the final trap? With a soft laugh, and confidently replied, you will see. Indeed. At that moment, a huge monster suddenly appeared in the hallway, attacking towards the temple. But it was not just one. A whole group showed up. This time it was the summoned beast. Seeing them, Ian immediately scoffed, thinking they were preparing a few strong, but something seemed a bit strange. Right. He furrowed his brow, observing their bodies for a long time. Then he realized something odd. Their bodies were not real. He smirked slightly. It turned out to be an illusion. Just hearing my voice, Henry seemed to think they were quite strong. If it were an ordinary student, they would have run away by now. But he was different. There was no need to dodge or retreat. He just needed to disrupt the flow of magical energy to stop. Thinking that, his eyes became determined, and a large stream of magic appeared in his hands. Seeing the scene, some students questioned, is that kid not running away? He actually looks pretty calm. Another person spoke up. It seems like he is trying to gather magic. A expression immediately dark. Could it be that in just a brief moment, figured out it was an illusion? Unbelievable. How could this be? Priscilla noticed his expression and sighed helpless. Oh my. Outside in the hallway, the magical energy of the night has filled the air. The magic swept over the summoned beast, instantly knocking them back. Their bodies dissipated under the magic. Seeing this, the knight smirked slightly. They are done for. Do you want to see who designed the trap? At that moment, a startled scream erupted from a room. It is, get out of the way. Why is it? Damn it. Do something. The group from and rushed outside, with Eark chasing after them. They fled in fear at an growl. The knight slowly approached, squinting it, and said with a slight smile, so this is where everyone was hiding. Hearing the sound, they immediately turned to look back. A nun exclaimed in surprise. The new student seems to have realized something. A nun quickly chimed in. If it is yours, then do something about it. We are sorry. Please recall it. Lean did not want to scare them. The magic in his hands reappeared. Soon after, the magic began to swirl around Eark. Very body gradually disappeared. Seeing this, the in-group immediately panicked. Is that an illusion too? After the crisis, the students finally returned to normal. One student sighed soft. The debut is ruined. Then he stepped forward to introduce himself to the knight. Hello, I am Droyan Valen, first-year student in the metallurgy department and the sole direct descendant of Marquis Valen. Droyan raised an eyebrow in praise. The figure is quite nice and very handsome. All the girls are beautiful, so that is only natural. Right. Den extended his hand to shake with the guy, politely saying, hello, what does this name even mean? Continued to compliment. You are really good at avoiding trap. I heard you passed the liberal arts major, so trap did not work on you, and Not will be very disappointed. I will also tell you that Not is the heir of the famous Sons Duat crab family. He is the one who designed all these traps. Hearing this, Den turned his eyes toward him, so he is the one who planned it. Droyan glanced at everyone and spoke up. You guys should come and say hi too. Pointed to the only girl he introduced. This is Priscilla, fourth-year neuroscience major. Better to stay away from. She dreams of being a missionary. But before he could finish, Priscilla kindly and beautifully interrupted. I am Priscilla Nilly, the abandoned child of the family. If you have entered the neuroscience program, you can't dream of getting married. Den nodded and said with a smile, please help me more. The moment he shook hands with Priscilla was shocked. Her eyes wide open. She could not believe it and exclaimed, how is your magic so strong? This is not magic that we should have at our age. It is unbelievable. Hearing this, Droyan asked doubt, is it really that amazing? Priscilla nodded slightly. That is right. Even can tell. He could not help frown, using strong magic to stand out. At that moment, another male student walked over and said with a smile, hey Den, a second-year martial arts student, unlike those disgusting kids in the gym club. So do not get me wrong. Hearing this, Den immediately remembered the big guys who blocked his way earlier. Hua continued, muscles are important, but martial arts are not just about showing off muscle. You are interested, just tell me, and I will teach you what it really means. Den refused to comment, glancing at the male student standing across from him. Now there is only one person left. Hua also looked over there and spoke up, introduce yourself or you will be forgotten. Oi pouted and said, are you mad or something? Because of those traps, is that all? That is so petty. Oi aggressively bit his lip, hesitated for a long time, then walked up to Den and greeted, and Den nodded politely and said, I'm Dinograph, looking forward to your help. Perhaps he was upset because all the traps had been destroyed destroyed by Den, which is why he spoke up. Those were indeed good traps. It seems like you know very well about the mechanisms and trigger, but the most prominent issue is Sun. Hearing this, Ano's expression immediately turned astonished. Den slowly explained, next time, instead of 6 break, mix in 3 silvers. With 6 breaks at a 46 ratio, seems it would work better. This level of bright be less noticeable. And Ho thought for a moment and nodded. It made sense. Den continued, besides that, anyone could easily fall into your trap. I had not even had a chance to reply when Squaw cut in, dissatisfied. Who are you to teach a how to set trap? That is too much. It is just that they do not really care. So everyone took you to see the room. They slowly walked down the hallway, chatting happily. En watched them from behind, feeling a bit emotional. They really are interesting. Anyway, the mood is not too bad because you have rent. It is probably going to get even more interesting later. The next morning, Ian went to meet Li La, and after finding out that he had to attend 6 major classes this semester, explained loud, but Zion explained to her that there are only 3 major. Each one requires 2 lecture sessions. Lala was still very upset, and there is also a general education. What should she do? There is no time to sleep at all. Usually, first-year students only have 4 sessions. Think about it. You can skip the first class. Zen stared at her in disbelief, sighed, and spoke up. Can you really say that? That is why military studies have 2 extra sessions added. Upon hearing this, Loss, you are really insensitive. I am very afraid of military study. For the first semester exam, my grades dropped a lot because of military study. She suggested to meet later in the martial arts specialization class. She has to attend the general education lecture. Ian frowned slightly and asked, what is the general education lecture about? With knowledge about cosmetics and skin. Lila smiled and replied. Ian sighed helpless. Typical girl. He shook his head and said, I got to see you later. After leaving, he went to the lecture hall to attend class, and as soon as he arrived, the students began to gossip. Hearing all their chatter, he could not help but sigh. I heard everything. It is just that I do not really care. Just quietly flipping through the book. Today's class, you are listening to an introduction to military science. According to what you read yesterday, there are some topics you know, but also some that are completely contrary to reality. That is true. If theory and practice always align, no country would ever lose a war. The reason military science is taught is that the basic theory is very important. While you were thinking, Professor entered the classroom, and everyone stood up to greet him. Professor stood at the podium, waved his hand. Sit down. Then he slowly spoke. Hello everyone. He introduced himself as Francisco Gabe, who would be responsible for teaching the theory of military science. He said to just call him Professor Gabe. Right after that, he took attendance and started the lesson. You squinted your eye, observing him for a long time, falling into deep thought, looking like he was someone with extensive battlefield experience. You smirked slightly. I really am looking forward to this. This moment, Professor Gabius began teaching. You need to delve deep into military theory to be effective on the battle. Soldiers must always weigh the balance between victory and the lives of their men. After a while, he scanned the students and said, I am really curious. I wonder how many talented students here will become elite. What do you think is the most important thing in war? Crowd of students, but only one hand was raised. Professor Gabius glanced over and slowly spoke up. I invite the student who raised their hand to speak. The one who raised their hand was Ian. Confidently replied, it is the supply chain. Professor Gabius was a bit surprised but quickly regained his composure. He nodded slightly. That is correct. He explained slowly. Victory, triumph, improvement. All of these can only be achieved when the supply chain is secured. He found it very interesting. Right from the start, someone answered correct. He squinted at Ian and continued to ask, do you know the 3 most important things in supply? Ian calmly replied, first is strict management of supplies from the center to the front lines. If just one person has ulterior motive, corruption can easily occur. This will soon lead to the consequence of a lack of supply. In your experience, supply issues are mostly caused by improper individuals in the intermediary. Although initially, the shipments are transported safe. Seeing you quiet, Professor Gabius spoke up again. Exact. What is next? It is standardizing the supply. The knight casually spoke up. Mass production can be achieved. This greatly aids in quick supply. Frontline units will maintain their strategy without losses. Your words put the students here into a state of chaos because what you said is not in the text. Even Professor Gabius was a bit startled. What is this? After hesitating for a long time, finally spoke up, and this time it was also the correct answer. What is it ultimately? The knight casually replied, it is on-site production. The longer the war drags on, the less those 2 things will be followed, and the quality of the supply will decrease further. This requires soldiers on the battlefield to think of ways to be self-sufficient at a minimum. Although the quantity and quality are quite low, it is still enough food for emergency. All of this is what you have witnessed and felt on the battlefield. Instantly, Jiang Dong fell silent. Everyone was astonished into silence. After regaining composure, Gabby also spoke up to praise. Well done. That is an excellent answer. What year are you in? Lion casually replied, I am a freshman. His eyes widened in disbelief. He exclaimed, you are just a freshman. How does a new student know that? After recovering from his shock, Professor Gabius slowly spoke. Strict military management, standardized supply, and finally local production for self-sufficiency. That answer to the practical experiences soldiers and officers faced on the battle. Since he was inexperienced, he wanted to ask how the boy knew. He frowned slightly in hesitation. Finally spoke up. My dad usually tells me these. Professor Gabius asked, so what is your name? Den calmly replied, Den Gre. Unable to contain his surprise, Professor Gabius exclaimed, you are the son of the Green Tornado. That explains it. If you are from the SSS family, then you are the student past the liberal arts major. No wonder your level is different from the other fresh. Thinking of this, he became a bit calmer. You all heard that, right? Completing the military theory portion that we will learn is exactly what the SSS student just answered. Apply the theory to real situations based on textbook knowledge. This is the ultimate goal that military studies aim for. It has been a long time since we have had an outstanding student like you. Professor Gabius could not help look at him a little longer. After observing him, he finally spoke. Let us move on to the next section, shall we? A moment later, class was finally over. Den hurriedly ran out of the lecture hall, as if someone were chasing him. You let out a sigh of relief. You almost got into the graduate school. Before finishing, Professor Gabius called you back and wanted to advise the new students to go to graduate school. It seems the professor is a bit anxious. Paul told you if anyone advises you to go to the Imperial University, just refuse. It looks like he won't give up easily, though. You sighed at night. Your task now is to find a way. You still have not gotten used to the campus map. It is too big. The meeting place with Lila is at the central fountain square. You looked at the map for a moment and then found that the quickest way is go through the foggy garden. The foggy garden is a place where, even if the sky is cloudy, visibility is still limited as if there is fog, making it easy to get lost. And this is a large garden covered in dense fog, so everyone avoids it. Moreover, there are rumors of ghosts appearing at night. At this point, you stepped into the foggy garden. You looked around for a moment and smirked slightly, but this place does not seem like what the eldest sister said. Does it? The weather is nice. So you got here. Just then, a loud scream suddenly rang out. Help! Is anyone there? Is anyone there? Please help. help. You flinch slightly and frown. Is someone there? You slowly walk towards the nearby guard, whispering. Is the sound coming from inside? Hesitating for a moment, you gathered the courage to run. Because your mother taught, if someone is in danger, you should help right away. There is still enough time before the next class, so you can get them out. You went into the woods in a good mood. A little while later, you saved a male student. He was sitting on the ground, panting, and said gratefully, I thought I was going to be stuck in there forever. Z nodded slightly. Are you okay? I'm a bit tired, but I am fine. The student smiled and replied, I am Ernest, freshman in the exploration department. Ian asked in surprise, you study exploration and you got lost. Ernest looked a bit off, saying, I got a little too excited and wandered off without realizing it. Lean found this explanation a bit hard to believe, and suddenly remembered something, asking suspiciously, you are Baron Den. Then that is the family from the west, right? Crest must be a ship and sailor. Ernest replied happily, you know, my family has explored the seas and distant lands for generations. Zine smiled at this, feeling a bit emotional, but it seemed a bit difficult. Ernest then asked, curious, what is your name? It is surprising that you know my family. Zine honestly told him his name. Ernest was astonished. You are the freshman who switched to a liberal arts major after years. Zine nodded slightly and replied, that is immediate. He excitedly exclaimed, I have really wanted to meet you, even just once. You refrained from comment. Looking at him, he said he was not injured. But what about that bruise? There is also a scar. It is very different from an injury you get from exploring. The more you think about it, the more confused you be. Frowning in contemplation. A little later, you suspiciously asked, are you exploring this garden? Ernest nodded slightly. Exploring excites back for me. Not just the garden, but everything new I encounter is an exploration. Saying that, he took out his bag to show you, filled with so many things that you exclaimed in surprise. Is all of this exploration? Ernest nodded slightly, his tone cheerful. My goal is to explore every part of the academy. This foggy garden is definitely one of them. There is definitely something. Isn't it strange that it is cloudy and the fog is so thick? You stared at him in surprise. That is true. So have you figured anything out yet? Not yet. Ernest shook his head. But I am sure there is some force in this garden. So I questioned again. But is not it that no one can clarify? Ernest continued. Right. But what if there is a reason no one thinks to clarify, or has tried, still could not clarify? Hearing this, you could not help but frown. A reason it can't be clarified, Ernest said seriously. Right now it is impossible to know. But suppose it is a force created by factors or entities that are yet to be identified, like the remnants of a long-lost ancient kingdom, or summoning beasts from beyond the horizon. What then? Thinking for a moment, you finally spoke up. It is the remnants of an ancient kingdom. That is really interesting. Just like finding a companion. Ernest was very cheerful. You think so too? Right. I really want to uncover that secret. It is just that right now, the night has shattered his joy. That is right. I am on my way to the lecture. Ernest immediately jumped, packing his things to leave. Unfortunately, before he could leave, it suddenly started to rain. Before long, the rain fell heavy. Ernest panicked and shouted, this is bad. I heard that when it rains here, the fog gets thicker. He furrowed his brow and asked, that is, it would be hard to go outside. Right. Ernest nodded slightly. That is right. We will get lost. Saying that, he took out a compass to check. The compass kept spinning around, unable to point in any direction. His face grew more panicked. He fearfully shouted, and indeed the compass did not work. This means we can't move. He looked at him and asked, can't we solve it with our exploration skill? Nis shook his head slightly. Force was unclear. They were stuck, and his body felt heavier. What should we do now? His face quickly changed, looking worriedly at D. He did not pay attention. Glancing at the fog around, a bit surprised, he strangely felt a surge of power. Ernest, unaware of his thought, was still panicked, sitting on the ground. This rate, D will be in danger. But at that moment, a surge of magical power suddenly struck, making his eyes widen in shock. Surrounding D was an extremely large surge of magical power. Even the fog began to dissipate. Nis raised his hand to shield himself from the approaching magic, trembling and biting his lip. The magic was truly terrifying. At this moment, fog is dissipating from the dark. Panic and shout, what is going on? I do not answer. Calmly replying, Ernest, I think I know the way out. Ernest exclaims in surprise, really? How do you know? The two of them lock eyes, but their expressions are completely opposite. Facing Ernest's panic, you smirk confident. Who knows? Maybe you really can uncover the secret of this place. Although it is still raining, it is no longer an obstacle for you. Wherever you walk, fog gradually clears. Is behind you is a beachlet. This is the mysterious fog that many mages have yet to explore, but you can pass through it as if nothing ever happened. Moreover, fog clears in the places you walk through, and visibility becomes clear. You really are a remarkable guy. While he is thinking, you speak up again. We are almost there, you say, slightly startled, asking really? You found the way? Not long after, they stop, but Ernest's face shows some surprise, because where they stop is the center of the foggy garden. Ernest looked up at what was in front of him, unable to believe it. He exclaimed, is this the magic fountain? Is there something special about it? He explained, students enter the misty garden because of this. Then he glanced at the boy and asked, you do not know the legend of this? The boy's eyes were filled with confusion, and he asked, a legend? Is there really such a thing? Ernest nodded slightly, saying that the legend states, come to this place before the mist dissipates. You will reunite with the person you wish to meet. Just a typical romantic story. Hearing this, Den continued to ask, how does the magic of the fountain still work? Getting here was already hard enough. How does it operate? His words left Eris stunned. You are right. Den observed the magic fountain for a moment before no one continuously pours magic into it. There might be a source of power even greater, so it should not need it. A source of power. Ernest furrowed his brow and thought, that is, then the garden itself could be a giant organism. Den spoke in a deep voice. The layout of this garden does not need to be so complex, convoluted. Maybe you are right. Ernest happily exclaimed upon hearing that. Right. The garden is a large mechanism. Then this magic fountain could be an ancient art, and the mist is related to. Asking for a moment, he raised his hand and placed it on the fountain. A sensation quickly spread through. This feeling must be right. There was something inside him react as if he were meeting an old friend. After a moment, he suddenly opened his eye, and clarity shone in his gaze. This is ancient magic. Sure enough, before long, a line of text appeared. Enister next to him gasped and exclaimed, wait, this is the secret language of the great. Den frowned and looked at asked secret language. Ernest slowly explained, because I could not see clearly. I was sure when I suited, but now that I feel it, I am definitely sure. It is the language used in the lost ancient country. Secret. Den exclaimed in surprise. You know this too? Is confidently said. Core, I am part of the D family. Studying ancient languages is very important for adventure. It would be very frustrating to reach the ruin, but not be able to read what is written there. Core, he has not mastered all the language, but he has been taught this language since he was a child. Then he suggested letting himself try to decipher. Den could not help but chuckle. The explorer's instinct is really kicking in. Not knowing what he was thinking, Ernest was still very excited to explore the writing to see if this word qualified, and the next word was this world. Right after that, he started writing it down. It is just that the more he wrote, the worse his expression, but the rustling sounds on the paper continued to emerge. After a while, he immediately became cheerful. I deciphered it. Den frowned and looked, asked, what does it say? Ernest quickly replied, stating that those who qualify will prove their strength. Den was a bit surprised. What does qualify qualifying and proving mean. Does qualifying mean well? Somehow, closer you get to the center, the more familiar it is. Cheerfully laughed and said, it is really in qualification to be mentioned is ancient magic. There is no way someone like that could exist. Den nodded appreciatively and said, thank. Ernest was shocked and wide-eyed as a stream of magic appeared around Den's hand. Seeing this scene, Ernest exclaimed in surprise, what are you doing? Den did not respond. People say that ancient languages hold power through their form. He narrowed his eyes slightly, contemplating for a long while. If he uses this bracelet, it might react to those inscriptions. Sure enough, bracelet in his hand continuously emitted magic. For long, strange characters appeared on the bracelet. Seeing this, Den smirked slightly. Then, he reached his hand toward the fountain. Two streams of magically touched each other, and the strange characters kept appearing. More and more. After a while, the fountain suddenly made a noise. It suddenly shook violently, and Ernest exclaimed in shock, wondering what was happening. Under their astonished gaze, an object slowly rose up, resembling a large gemstone. Ernest skeptically asked, what exactly did you do? Fountain sank into the ground. This moment, Den was also very pleased. His answer was correct. Soon after, he continued to pour magic into it. Ernest was startled, realizing that the mist had disappeared, was activating ancient ruins this easy. The bracelet of Den continuously radiated magic, and the one who qualified turned out to be Den. Not long after, a sudden light burst forth. Den hurriedly spoke up, looking to see what was glowing in the center. The light slowly began to appear. The two of them stared at it, and after a moment, the object became clearer. Nis suddenly exclaimed, it is so beautiful, like it must be the source of power that operates this fountain. Den nodded slightly in response. Maybe it is the reason behind all the strange phenomena in this garden. Saying that, he glanced back at the central fountain. Now it was time for him to check the ancient magic. With that thought, Den stepped into the center, placed his hand on the object lying there. The moment he touched, he was taken aback. This power was ancient magic, truly similar to his own power. But at that moment, he noticed something appearing. There were some strange characters on it. Akana has existed in Paris. This is the legacy. This is amazing. He could once again understand the ancient language that he could not read before. This is truly the legacy of the magic kingdom of Akana. So now he has absorbed this power. The more you absorb, the more you felt a sharp pain in your heart. You bit your lip hard. Sweat was dripping down your forehead. Something was flowing into your heart. A surge of magic along with something strange was pushing inside, making your heart feel like it wanted to leap out. Then a strange circle appeared. Getting into the circle, their roles clash, making it hard to achieve both. Due to low effectiveness and harm to the body, mages often have to coexist with heart disease. You do not want to create a circle that can only use magic. But do you have to do that? While you were thinking, Ernest suddenly spoke up. Are you okay? Your face has not looked good this whole time. Zine snapped back to reality, smiled faint, and replied, don't worry, I just have some things to think about. Ernest, not knowing what to say, decided to change the subject. You have no idea how surprised I was. But did you absorb that power earlier? The mist and the inscriptions seem to be related to you. Hearing this, not knowing how to respond, he must be very curious since he witnessed everything. But it would be better for both of us. We did not know each other. After thinking, you smiled faintly and said, I am just responding the way she showed me. I do not know the details. Having no doubt, nodded in agreement. If you find out later, you must tell me. Today, I am really excited. He kept talking to Zine about, but Zine did not respond at all. After a while, Ernest glanced at Jin and asked, didn't you say you had class? Zine suddenly remembered, right, you have an appointment with L. Right after that, he patted his shoulder and said, sorry about that, I am leaving now. See you later. Saying that, he lifted his foot and ran off. Nis could not help but smile, looking at your back as you walk away. You are really an interesting guy. If I could explore with you, we would discover great things. It is so exciting. Over here, Den is using his magic to run, but it feels a bit strange. He feels more comfortable moving. Furrows his brow, falling into deep thought. The circle in the core code, but there is no sense of separation. Originally, the magical power of the core would be interfered with by the circle, so the effectiveness is extremely low. But now, no matter how much magic he generates, feels completely normal. His magic has not decreased at all. He smirks slightly. It is the opposite. Feels like the magic being guided by the cycle through the circle and gathered into the core. Moreover, the concentrated magic in the core is even purer than before. He runs off cheerful mood. This is so miraculous. He whispers to himself. He needs to contact his older sister. A moment later, in Hangston District, Den and Leela are strolling around, and Leela is happily chatting nonstop. So this is the Eston District everyone talks about. Den looks over there. The entrance is right there. Den is slightly startled, following the direction of her hand. Leela slowly explains. It is the famous magic curtain over there. Den furrows his brow and the magic. Leela nods slightly. It was created by Eston, a legendary wizard from the academy. This is the curtain that opens once a year for new students with magical talent. Passing through here will show different colors depending on the quality and level of magic. Originally, it was a device to detect dark wizards secretly infiltrating the academy. It seems that after the dark wizards went extinct, it changed for this purpose. At that moment, Den doubted and asked what colors each level would have. Leela slowly replied, if there is no talent, it won't teach. If at an average level, it will be yellow. If somewhat talent, it is. And if overwhelming, it is. Den looked at her in amazement. It seems like you have done a lot of research. She nodded slightly. Because I want to know everything about the academy. She told him that all his sisters were red. Then she suggested that she would go in first. As soon as she finished speaking, she lifted her foot and stepped. Immediately, bright red appeared inside. Leela joyfully exclaimed, making red. Den also nodded in praise. Awesome. You heard it and got excited. I should be like that too. Then I should try as well. Den said with interest. Saying that, he lifted his foot to step. He thought he would also turn red, but suddenly remembered something and stopped. He had absorbed more ancient magic power, so he might be stronger than usual. When he stepped in, the door showed a green color. Den could not help but be stunned. Why was it green? Leela also exclaimed in surprise. What just happened? The level does not have a green color. Saying this, she could not help but express her dissatisfaction. Why are you always so different? Den helplessly chuckled. That is true. But why is it like a moment later? In the magical school lecture hall, whispers of discussion continuously rang out. Did you see his badge? He came from the finance department. Why is a guy who studies finance in this class? Or is he just here for the first session and then leaving? Amid the murmur, a pair of long legs suddenly stepped. Seeing the person, someone suspiciously asked, Senior, why are you here? The guy named at the casually replied, I dropped by because I have some things to deal with after. He scanned around, then suspiciously asked, but has not he arrived yet? The interdisciplinary student Dino Gret, a male student, flinched slightly. He said he would take this class, but I have not seen him at all. He nodded knowingly. Oh really? He must be on his way. When he arrived, please take him to meet. Since he is the younger brother of Senior Arabella, I need to pay special attention. Saying that, he turned to leave, but just as he did, he saw a guy and a girl approaching Zin and Laila. Everyone continued to chatter. Lal also heard it. She winked and joked, that is right. This outstanding student. You seem to be the topic of discussion wherever you go. In contrast, Atho was very happy to see Zain. Finally, he arrived. He walked up to Zain and greeted. Nice to meet you. Zen replied. replied. I saw you on the opening day. You stood out. Zen frowned at him. Who is this guy? He seems to be an upper class, but why is he acting so familiar? After thinking for a moment, he asked in a deep voice, but who are you? Does the magic department not teach basic greetings? You said if he has something to do with, at least he should introduce himself. Right. Your words made Atha grit his teeth in anger. This arrogant jerk. Even the students outside could not help but be taken aback. They did not expect you to talk to a senior like that. Disata said, I came here personally because you are the younger brother of a senior, and I respect that, yet you are acting so arrogant. Have you ever thought that your attitude could affect family's reputation? Ian calmly replied, I never really thought about it, but from what I see, are not you the one who is losing? Gritting his teeth, Athan angrily said, you have no idea who you are standing in front of. After saying that, fell into deep thought. If he ignored this, it would damage his reputation. He believed Arabella would understand. Thinking of this, he scoffed coldly. You seem to need a lesson. Den squinted at the stream of magic in his hand, unable to help but frown. On the contrary, he was extremely confident that he would defend. But at that moment, a deep voice rang out. What is going on? Is there a problem? Athu immediately turned around and, seeing who had arrived, explained, I just stopped by to greet the first-year junior. Person who arrived is the head of the magic Denabo. He asked coldly, is that, if you like socialize, do it after class. His words shattered the atmosphere. Athu looked towards the light, irritatedly mumbling, this time I will let it slide. After saying that, he turned and walked away. Lella watched his back and quietly reminded, be careful, that guy looks really unpleasant. Before leaving, Athu leaned close to the person next to him and advised, take him over there. But the other person hesitated and said, he is Araba's younger brother. Is that okay? He did not care. Coolly replied, I will explain it to the senior. Just take him. At that moment, Professor Denabo was already standing at the lectern, starting his lesson. Since today is just an introduction, I will keep it simple and then we will dismiss class. Because this is a prac combat, we also need to measure mana. This placed his hand on the device in front of him and slowly explained, if you place your hand on the device and channel mana into immediate, a stream of magical power appeared around the device. He scanned the room and asked, will you know how many magical circles you have? Seeing the magical circles appear behind him, the students were instantly astonished and exclaimed, 6 magical circles. Truly a professor. Ignoring the student's reaction, Denabo continued, the number of magical circles may be the same, but the higher the level, the darker the color. Sometimes the circles may not appear at all, but not having magical circles does not mean you lack talent, so do not worry. This made the student's expressions change. That is right. He is not wrong. Some people have not even created magical circles yet. Din continued. Therefore, can't solely rely on checking the magical circle because they chose this. At least they need to know the basic magic. I will use this orb to accurately assess their mana. The light saw this and was a bit surprised. What do these spheres mean? I just saw Dynabo start to manipulate the floating spheres in the air, and he slowly said, using basic sachikinesis magic, you all should demonstrate your ability to control this sphere like this. As soon as Dynabo finished, he raised his hand. A stream of magical power flowed around those spheres. The students watched this scene in astonishment, quickly began to cheer. Amazing. The spell was executed perfect, and the teacher moved very precisely too. Balolo was somewhat surprised by everyone's reaction, muttering soft, what is the big deal? Zen slowly explained, power and accuracy of basic magic also depend on the cast. You have to channel mana into each sphere and then move them. With our current ability, 3 spheres is already a lot. Hearing this, Lovenla regained confidence, thinking maybe he could control more. He refrained from expressing his opinion, not understanding why she was so confident. Just then, Professor Denabo suddenly called Atha. You are just auditing, but can you demonstrate for the junior? Atha did not refuse, sure that he would show Zen a thing or two. Zen also glanced, curious about the source of his error, shortly after up to the podium and placed his hands on the device. 4 magic circles instantly appeared. The students below immediately gasped. Indeed, it was Senior Atha. He had reached level 4 already, and the color of the magic circle was also very impressive. Din nodded and prayed, you have improved again. He received the compliment, but remained very humble. Bowing polite, it is all thanks to the teacher's guidance. Din chuckled softly and got, usually after graduation, you all would reach the 4th level of magic, but your seniors have already done it. This is truly an outstanding talent. He wants them to learn. Who knows? His advice might help. The students below immediately fell silent, their eyes filled with admiration as they looked at Atho on the stage. Atho shot a challenging glance over it, raising an eyebrow, surprised it was still early, so he would show you what the difference between them was. He also did not back down and met his gaze, showing no fear. Right after that, Atho began to use his magical power to control the floating orbs in the air. Seeing this, the students were instantly amazed. The senior controls those orbs so skillfully. He was manipulating so many orbs, could not count them all. His forehead was already covered in cold sweat. He had given it his all, and he wanted to see how it would turn out. Below, the students watched in a daze. After a while, Denabo spoke again. Alright then, let us get started. Step up in order, starting from the first row. As soon as he finished, the students began to line up to step onto the stage. Lila behind was dissatisfied and criticized. This was supposed to be an orientation, but in reality, it was just exposing everyone's abilities in front of the whole class. Din thought so too and reluctantly nodded. That is right. That is what the academy aims. I'm Pat, and a series of students stepped up to place their hands on the device. When someone appears with a magic circle, is joyful, but if someone has nothing, there is a bit of disappointment. When it comes to controlling the orb, some can do it and some can't. Arthur outside is watching this, his eyes filled. It is really a mess. At this moment, the woman next to him suddenly speaks up. It is that guy's turn now. It is time for the assessment on stage. Who squints at you? He will be watching how far your pride can go. He has raised his hand, ready to place it on the device. To be honest, you are also very curious, because after absorbing the ancient magic, something is definitely going to change. In an instant, a surge of magical energy has appeared in the air. Din is also looking forward to you. In the entrance exam, perfectly solved his test. He is eager to see how many magic circles. However, not long after, the expressions of the students immediately turned to shock. The students attending the lecture were left speechless because your magical power was pouring out too strongly. Even you did not expect this. The device was charged with so much magic that it could not take it anymore. Then it began to emit an unmeasurable warning. Black frowned slightly. Why is this happening? Although Lilo was used to you creating mirror, her face could not help but widen in shock. In contrast, Lolo's face looked very bad. Din was also taken aback. This was the first time he had seen this. Students began to whisper, is the machine broken? If he does not have a circle, then he does not have one. But how can it not be measurable? Din basically does not know the reason. You're thinking it is because of the magic artifact. The more I think about it, the more confused I get. This machine has 100% accuracy and can filter out anyone trying to fake their rank. But now it says it can't measure. After hesitating for a long time, finally spoke. It must be overloaded. At least finish the ball test from last night first. The below immediately smirked in triumph. I need nothing surprising. Pen and Bond, after channeling magic power, approached those orbs again, so it really can't be measured. What a pity. But let us try this method and see. I wonder if this will work properly. Thinking about it, he took a deep breath and a stream of magic power appeared in his hand again. They started dancing in the air, and in an instant he had controlled all the orb. The students were immediately shocked. You actually lifted all the orb? No way. The highest achievement until now only touched 5 orb. Even Athos people could not believe it, and exclaimed, all the orb? Is that guy crazy? These face change moment. How could this be possible? Lovelil over here sighed a bit helpless. He is at it again. I am not surprised anymore. She never thought he could lift all of it. He is even more amazing than she thought. It seems after absorbing that magic power, he is even stronger now. At this moment, Ian's hands began to swirl with magic. You smirked slightly and said, alright, let us make this even more impressive. As soon as you finished speaking, a powerful wave of magic spread through the air. At that moment, Denabo was already sweating profusely. What are you seeing now? Are you arranging the spheres precisely to create a picture? You guessed right. I really want it to be like that. For long, they formed a shape. Seeing this, the students gasped in amazement. It was a lion and a snake, family crest of the Sar clan. The more Denabo looked, the more unbelievable it seemed. Even Arbella could not do this. Den was also very happy that you actually managed to pull it off. Lila below muttered with some dissatisfaction. It is my turn now. Calm down. After a moment, Denabo regained his composure. He began to praise. Well done, Dengret. Even Siren, who has never taken a disciple, would be proud to call you his student. Den politely bowed his head and said, thank you. Professor Denabo's words made the crowd below stir once more. You are the disciple of the former Tower Master of Magic. Now I understand why he switched to advanced magic. Over here, the guy next to Atho worriedly exclaimed, what do we do now? That guy is not normal. Atho shouted angrily. Shut up, I am thinking. Grinding his teeth, cursed under his breath. Damn it, the SSS clan is terrifying. Why are they all such monsters? At that level, they need to change their plans. This makes him very frustrated. But if he picks a fight and ends up losing, it would be embarrassed. If he can't defeat you with skill, he will have to win you over in another way. After thinking it, he slowly spoke up. We need to pull him into the student council. Since he set foot in that council, controlling things will be easier. Comes under my command. Hearing this, person next to him immediately exclaimed in surprise. But he is just a fresh. Even we did not think about getting involved in that. The slowly explained. This is unprecedented for a freshman to enter the student council. But who cares? Rules are meant to be broke, right? This only left the two people next to him speechless and shocked. Calmly smiled and said, trust with him. Our magic department's reputation will be known. And of course, his own reputation and career would rise as well. At that moment, Denabo complimented him. He cheerfully said, if I had known this sooner, I would have questioned the other professors to ensure you would participate in the magic department. Ziam casually replied, I will do my best even if I am in a different department. Hearing this, he glanced down at the students below and reminded, did you hear that? Students in the magic department would be more alert. Then he reached out and patted him on the shoulder. He sincerely advised, if you have free time, come see me. Professor Z nodded in response without hesitation. Class ended after. Lula walked out with continuously questioning, how did you get so good at it? But how come you can do such unbelievable? Dai shook his head and laughed, saying, to be honest, I do not know either. Seeing your attitude, Lula huffed in dissatisfaction. Do you think you are that special or something? Diane declined to comment, casually saying, but you did manage to make 5 balls float. Lila pouted and replied, hearing that compliment from you does not make me happy at all. Dean sighed a bit helpless. Why does it sound like you are so? Just then, Atho came in with some, I have admired your skills already. The last time we met, he acted a bit strange. Did not he say the two of you could talk privately for a bit? Dean squinted at him. Did this guy change his attitude completely right after seeing your skills? Soon after, Atho shared his intentions. After hearing it, he exclaimed in shock, the student council. He nodded slightly and replied, the student council of the Royal Academy manages the school's treasure, and the students are quite famous, even having some special privilege. For example, the student council can impose disciplinary punishments on students or approve events for the department. Diane frowned in contemplation. He had heard about this from his sister already. It is a very powerful council, and only a few students get the chance to join. Noticing that he was not responding, Atho spoke up again. What do you think? I am planning to recommend you for that council. You have already surpassed the admission requirement, so there is no need for testing anymore. You become a member of the student council. You will automatically be part of the elite group. Dean looked at him calmly. I am already in that group. Atho pouted and clicked his tongue in response. That is true. But who knows if you can stay in there forever, not to mention the privilege of being exempt from many other things. Hearing this, Zian felt a bit helpless. Just how much authority do they really have? Can they really have so much power? Seeing you hesitate, Atho continued to ask, are you interested in joining the council? But you shook your head and replied, I do not want to. Atho's face immediately changed, and in his heart, he cursed Zen's ancestors for 18 generations. Regardless of his reaction, Zen calmly said, even if I wanted to join, I would only be interested if I got in on my own merit. Being granted privileges usually comes at a very high price. Upon hearing this, the two following behind were shocked. Atho thought to himself, he is really sharp. He figured out Atho's intentions right away. Atho did not. He said in a serious tone, do you realize what you just missed out on? Getting into the student council is a dream for many. You will soon understand how great this offer really is. He wanted you to reconsider how rare that offer is. Lola looked at his expression, thought to herself, why does this guy look so angry? Then she reached out and grabbed Zen's hand, saying, we are late. We will miss out on the pastry. Hurry up. Zen ignored her, pulling him along, and laughed out loud. Right, I almost forgot. Seeing the scene, Atho asked unhappy, where are you guys going? We were just talking. He said with a chuckle, I have something more important to do, so excuse me. In truth, he was very grateful to Lala being so punctual. Yet Atho still did not give up. He looked after the two of them and shouted, I am not giving up yet. I will convince you. As they left, Lila walked away, expressing her dissatisfaction. He is such a nuisance. He really wants to pull you into the student council. If you accept his offer, it will be a great stepping stone for him to turn you into a pawn. Den glanced at her, gratefully saying, thanks for helping me get away. Lila ignored it, feeling a bit angry. Think more importantly, does not he even see me? He did not even bother to ask me a thing. Hearing this, Den could not help but be stunned. He helplessly laughed and said, so that is why you are mad. Lila scoffed, it is probably because your skills are just some silly joke. Today's test proved it all. The two of them chatted happily as they walked. Lila was really looking forward to going to the pancake shop in the Royal Academy. Meanwhile, in a room at the academy, a conversation was taking place. Denabo sat across from Atho, cheerfully asked, have you seen it yet? Maybe compared to Arabella, she has the upper hand. Atho frowned slightly and asked, is he really at that level? He nodded and replied, magic is an ambiguous realm that is hard to define, but when it comes to innate magical talent, it is not impossible. Hearing this, Atho frowned fiercely. You mean Den's talent even surpasses the senior he admired? This moment, Denabo continued, though, just consider half closing your eyes regarding Den. Please take good care of her so she can get into the magic class. Atho silently his tongue in appreciation. Everyone felt the same way. They were all overwhelmed by Den's talent. Performance that day was truly amazing. After thinking for a while, while. The finally spoke. Actually, I met with him after class and suggested he join the student association, but he turned me down. Din was stunned upon hearing this. He suspiciously asked, could it be that he heard something from Arabella's side? His talent is just too amazing. Can't let him slip away. Athu could only sigh reluctantly upon hearing this, and then he suddenly asked, Professor, about the previous letter in sign language. Denebo knew he was asking about that and quickly interrupted that. It seems everything has not gone smoothly. You told him not to rush too much. He still has 2 years, and someone like him will be recommended by the magic board or graduation. Hearing this, Athu felt a bit angry. He said the same thing last year. If he takes away a spot in the magic tower now, does not that mean losing a student could have some fun? I heard he was the one who cut down 2 magic towers that he liked. This moment, Athu suggested, then I will convince him myself. Nivima nodded, and Denabo casually said, alright, it is all on you. Athu felt a bit dissatisfied. His future was already tightly controlled by him, and whether he liked it or not, he had no choice. Follow along. He glared at him, unable to help but curse silently. Meanwhile, Lalo was over here having a great time. Lalo was talking while walking. If a club has too few members, can't prove its activity, it will be disbanded. I frowned slightly and said, serious. This is the first time I have participated in so many events. Lala casually replied, either way, we have already won a ton of awards. 20 mana stone, 10 lunch voucher, 5 meal ticket, 8 convenience store discount voucher, and even a treasure map. Pulled out a roll of fabric from his reward. Lila asked suspiciously, what is this? He slowly explained that the senior host said it was bought from an auction at Anner. Hearing this, Lila's eyes immediately lit up. So this must be really valuable, right? He nodded slightly. His father had said the same. The auction house collects rare and beautiful items from across the empire, and the best appraisers in the country evaluate everything to ensure that only exquisite items are sold. He pointed at the seal and said, look at this. It is still intact. Maybe it is a treasure map of the academy. Lila thought for a moment and then said, I have heard that this academy has many secret and mysterious places. At that moment, he suddenly remembered that he would be very happy to see it in the auditorium waiting. Most of the classes take place today. There is also a class, and he is going to attend history class. Thanks to the butler's guidance before coming here, he feels much more at ease. This moment, Ernest had come over from the opposite side and called out. He glanced at him and asked suspiciously, you are in this class too? Ernest nodded slightly and replied, freshmen have to take this class. I was not sure if you would come to class, so I kept looking around for you. Finally met you. How have you been? Suddenly smiling, he cheerfully said, not much has changed. It is a long story. I will tell you later. Ernest nodded slightly in agreement, then remembered he had something to say and please spoke up. I have something I want to tell you. The two were chatting as they walked, but just a few steps later, they were blocked by a group. The leader raised an eyebrow and laughed. Is that you? The moment Eris saw them, his face then looked a bit surprised. What is going on? His expression changed in an instant, and he was trembling all over, looking very panicked. The leader raised an eyebrow, his tone clearly malicious. I am really glad to see you here. It has been a while. As nodded, his body was shaking intensely, clearly very scared. Den took everything in with his eyes. His eyebrows knitted tight. He looked like a soldier suffering from psychological trauma. After a moment, Ernest spoke, trembling voice. Braun. The guy Braun sneered. You should have told me when you got into the academy. I enrolled first. He walked over, ruffled the head of the guy with a pout, saying, the top mouse. How did you get in? I thought you were going to flunk out. You were really timid back then. Were not you? Den looked at everything from behind. A hint of doubt on his. Braun ignored him, continued to squeeze the head of the guy, saying, just when I was lazily heading to the canteen. Coincidentally, you are here. Go buy me a sandwich. Okay. Ernest was taken aback. Right now? With a snort, Braun coldly asked, you do not want to? His reply, trembling, I am with a friend. So it is a bit off. Hearing this, he finally noticed Den behind him. He suspiciously asked, you have a friend too? You look tough. He raised an eyebrow at his tone full of mockery. Which department are you in? Associating with someone like his probably won't get you anywhere. Den squinted at the guy, internally calculating, unsure of which family he belonged, but the way he flaunted his authority reminded him of the little rats on the battle. Seeing that he did not respond, Braun looked down on him even more. Did a cat eat your tongue or something? Just then, someone from the academy shouted towards, what are you guys doing? Class is about to start. Hurry up. Hearing this, Braun immediately changed his attitude. We are leaving. He then glanced at the two dark, quietly said, see you after class. I still have a lot to say. Ernest instantly scared, body trembling involuntarily. Right after that, Braun left with his crew, laughing triumph, making school life even more interesting. Den watched them go, saying nothing, but he was shaking like a leaf. He hurried over to support him, worriedly asked, are you okay? He apologized, saying, it is my fault, but he did not think that way. He suspiciously asked, who are those guys? You seem to know them. Ernest explained, trembling, they are from a noble family back home. They bullied me all the time when I was there. I know they are studying here too, but this academy is so vast with so many departments. I thought I would not run into, yet here we are. It is a bit unfortunate tonight. So I patted his shoulder to come. Let us just get a class. His face was pale. How badly had they tormented him? Thinking that, I reassured him again. Don't worry, I will go with you. Ernest flinched slightly, shaking his head. No need. I can go by myself. Den frowned at him and asked, you mean you want to endure their insults alone? If you keep doing that, they will just bully you even more. This made Ernest widen his eyes in surprise. He hesitated, wanting to say something, but Den coldly interrupted. You saw my strength before, right? What else is there to worry about? Ernest remembered the situation before. He was indeed very strong, but he still did not want to drag me into this. No matter what, Den was still determined and spoke up. It is decided, we will go together. So after class, Den went with Ernest. Braun scoffed coldly. It is so peaceful here. Is there no nostalgia? Den glared at, are you really his friend? Why pull him out here just to start trouble? Braun coldly said, who the hell are you? Is it annoying to follow behind? I want to ask you the same thing. I did not back down either and spoke cold. This made Braun furious. He ground his teeth and cursed. This Dan just got into the academy and thinks he is so impressive. He asked if I had heard of the family he came. That guy is the heir of the most powerful family in the Western Empire. Hearing that, Den immediately ducked, scoffing in disdain. What? Never heard of it. Eris looked at him in shock, a bit panicked. Even Braun's group looked a little frightened and started cursing. Braun's expression was grim at that moment. Coldly ordered, you guys take him down. His subordinates immediately excitedly smiled. Then they moved forward, laughing mockingly. When choosing friend, you should find someone who can help. It looks like it will take double the beating to remember that. Ernest trembled in fear upon seeing this. Stop. While there is still time, we need to run. No matter how strong you are, they are too dangerous. Especially Braun, who had been called a genius swordsman since he was young. Den snorted light, coldly saying, a genius swordsman. Sounds interesting. He glanced over and said with a smile, I will wait for one for you. Take him down. Nice, exclaimed in surprise. Calmly nodded. Trust. Are you really planning to let them bully you forever? Ernest stared at him. He was truly unpredictable. He had not had time to think carefully, and his expression turned grim. Because at that moment, a guy had rushed towards Den. The guy sneered and said, look at you, so confident. You are dead for sure. After saying this, his eyes were filled with malice. Threw a punch at Den, who did not dodge and let him hit. Ernest panicked and shouted. The guy raised an eyebrow, looking at him provocatively. What is wrong? You dog. Are you done yet? Seeing this scene, Braun smirked with satisfaction. back. You are not finished with me yet. The other guy huffed cold, then threw another. Unfortunately, this time it was blocked. He narrowed his eyes at the guy. No one gets bathed in the same river twice. He spoke in a low voice, saying something confusing. You hit me first. Before the other guy could process what was happening, he continued. That means everything that happens next will be self. Hearing that, the other student immediately got angry and shouted, what did you say, you jerk? Right after that, he swung a punch. But unfortunately, Ron had already ducked to avoid it. He took the opportunity to punch him in the gut, making him let out a soft groan of pain. But that was not all. He took a step back, silently sweeping his leg across the guy. He did not have time to react and ended up getting hit by Braun's move. He immediately fell to the ground. Braun narrowed his eyes at, showing no sympathy at all. Seeing his buddy go down, the other guy rushed, but before he could do anything, Braun punched him hard in the chine. This punch made him stumble back a few steps. This moment, a powerful surge of magic appeared in Braun's hand, and without saying a word, he struck towards the group of students. The surge of magically rushed, and they could not resist it at all, their bodies uncontrollably stumbling back and then hitting the ground hard. Pain quickly, leaving them unable to move as they just stood there watching. Complexion looks a bit off. You withstand. That hit harder than I thought. Is it because of ancient magic? At the same time, Ernest is also speechless in shock. Meanwhile, Braun looks like he has just eaten something terrible, muttering in disbelief. The hell is this? He never imagined he could take down his subordinates so easily. He angrily curses, you idiot. The boys lying on the ground quickly respond to this. Braun, this guy is not ordinary. However, he does not want to listen. He coldly scoffs, feeling humiliated to be struggling against a fresh. You guys are that easy to take down. Zian glances at him and asks, do you still want to continue? You talk a lot but say nothing. What did you just say? Braun grits his teeth and wants to charge it. Person next to him speaks up to stop. Stop. That guy is strong. Just look at how he casts his magic. Unfortunately, he does not listen at all, shoving the boy aside, scoffing in contempt. You coward. Being pathetic in front of these, get out of the way. I am going to make my move. As soon as he finishes, a large amount of magical energy appears in his hand. Before long, a spatial rift appears in front of. Seeing that, Lean is a bit shocked, but then panic, furrowing his brows and mumbling, don't tell me. From inside that rift, pulls out a sword. This moment, magical energy dances around the sword. Braun smirks proud. There is no one around in this remote, so it should be fine. You have made a mistake. You made me draw my sword. The guy is calmly looking at the sword in his hand and commenting on it. That sword looks impressive. On the other hand, the guy next to him is extremely scared, trembling as he said, this is not good. Braun has drawn his sword. This is really bad. Deep down, he feels extremely disdainful at this moment. That guy is just a reckless fool, so he does not care about the Academy's rule. Braun basically does not. He coldly says, do you know that when the sky is cloudy, fog will roll in, and no one will be able to find the missing person? The boy next to him nervously asks, what if we get chased? Hearing this, Braun gives him an unhappy glare. Shut up. Go beat that fool over there and bring him. Alright. After a moment of hesitation, the boy agrees to rush forward with Braun. Ernest is even more afraid. What should I do? If you fight Braun, then I. The guy has not finished speaking yet when he reassures. Don't worry. Those guys are nothing. You can win. Nestle asks back. Really? De nods without hesitation. That is right. You have explored a lot, so your lower body will be really good. So just try your best and land a good hit. Hearing that, Enes reflexively frowns in disbelief. This is the first time someone has evaluated him like that. Over here, Braun and his lackeys have arrived. The boy purses his lips and scoffs. Those guys are definitely dead. As soon as he finishes, the guy has already made a move, but he goes around in a different direction. Seeing this scene, Braun was a bit surprised and exclaimed, you are not gonna let me get close. Turns out you have some real combat experience. Crazy Best smiled slightly, their tone full of provocation. At the same time, Ernest was still battling with himself mentally. That is right. I need to speak the truth. He could not living like this forever. Meanwhile, Braun's henchman slowly stepped in front of Ernest. He scoffed and said, why are you clenching your eyes look fierce too. Friends really are important. He cracked his knuckles, smirking as he said, you seem confident standing next. You think you can just take a few hits and walk away. I will go easy on you. Ernest narrowed his eyes, trying to force himself to stay calm. Don't panic. Think carefully. What would a fool do in a situation like? He recalled the scene earlier when he faced that male. While he was thinking, that guy coldly sneered, first, take a few hits. Right after that, he swung his fist to attack. Just in an instant, his fist was right in front of Ernest. He tried to bend down to dodge, but it was too slow, and he took a punch to the head. But he did not get discouraged. He took a step back and said in a deep voice, person you knew, the brother from the past is no longer. His words left the guy momentarily stunned. In that moment, Ernest seized the opportunity, punched him in the, leaving a bruise on one cheek. This punch was like a release for Ernest. He was very pleased with this action of his. Ernest finally pulled his hand back, panting heavily. Person across from him had a face swollen, pig's head lying on the ground. Ernest's legs were still shaking, and his whole body was trembling. He was not scared. He was excited. He cheerfully shouted, we really did it. Meanwhile, over here, the match between Zen and Braun was still ongoing. Zen raised an eyebrow and said, looks like your last teammate has finally fallen. Hearing this, Braun immediately turned his head back, unable to believe it. He yelled, what? That can't be true. But he really saw his buddy lying limp on the ground, and Braun angrily shouted, you are losing to a pathetic loser like that. While he was busy scolding, Zen noticed something. He saw two brooms lying in the distance. Finally, he found something useful. Right after that, Zen ran over to grab a broom. Seeing the broom head thrown far away, Braun could not help but speak up. You think you can take me on with that? With a slight chuckle, Zen calmly replied, that is enough. This made Braun feel insulted. Gritted his teeth and cursed, you bastard. I am going to crush you today. As soon as he finished speaking, he lifted his foot and charged, mumbling, I won't kill you, so do not worry too much. Braun said he would just leave a small scar on Zen's face, so every time he saw it, he would have to fear him. Saying that, Braun suddenly collapsed, and the sword in his hand began to swing. Unfortunate to Zen, Braun's speed looked turtle crawling. He could easily dodge just by moving a bit. This made Braun furious. Pressed his lips together and said, you bastard. You are stronger than I thought. Chuckling soft, Zen replied casually, your sword moves are too predictable. This poked at Braun's wild rage, and he shouted, what do you dare say about my swordsmanship? Do you think you are the son of Duke Termian or something? Immediately, he accelerated his sword strike, but unfortunately, they were all blocked by Den's staff. Braun frowned in contemplation. Den was channeling magic into his staff, but you won't be able to hold on much longer. Thinking that, he immediately shouted, you are just a little mouse caught in a trap. What can you do with that stupid staff? Braun was extremely confident with the sword in his hand, but he was also unfazed, and at this moment, you started to fight back. The staff in your hand was enveloped by a powerful surge of energy. Den continuously swung his staff at Braun. Your speed was too fast. Could not dodge in time and getting hit. Braun could not believe it. Just a wooden staff had this kind of power. But what if he did not believe he had already fallen in the distance? Ernest just happened to witness this. He was astonished, mouth agape. Amazing. He took down Braun with just one blow. Ernest certainly knew Den was very strong, but he did not think it was to this extent. Over here, Den approached Braun and coldly demanded, get up. If you have drawn your sword, you need to face it until the very end. Chain once said that if you draw your sword for a duel, it means you are ready ready to see everything come to an end. Bron felt pain as he lay on the ground, biting his lip and asked, "Who are you?" Den calmly replied, "I am Denso, the eldest son of the Sogress and a first-year student in the self-study department." As soon as he said this, Bron was taken aback, unable to believe it, and exclaimed, "The Sogress family." He remembered the orientation day for the first-year student. There was a student who had been praised for being accepted into the self-study department year, the youngest genius son of the Sogress, and here he was right in front of him. Den squinted at Bron and spoke in a deep voice. "It seems I have introduced myself a bit late." Bron did not respond. He was still trembling on the ground. Now he understood why Den was so confident. But why would someone like him be hanging out with a jerk like that? At this moment, Den spoke in a serious tone. "So what should I do? You have drawn your sword and threat. Should I just take your life?" As soon as he said this, Bron panicked and shouted, "What are you talking about?" Den said flat, "Based on my intuition, this is not really a fair duel. But since you did draw your sword." Den's words only made Bron more terrified. He felt like Den was really going to kill him. Thinking this, Bron immediately fell to his knees, rushing forward and begging, "I am really sorry. I never thought you would be a Sogress. I will never do something stupid like this again." Upon hearing this, Den immediately scoffed. "You really do not understand, do you?" Bron looked up at Den in confusion as Den pointed into the distance and said, "You are apologizing to the wrong person." Following the direction of the black man's hand, Bron looked back and realized black man was Ernest, standing nearby. At that moment, Bron understood that tears flowing down to Ernest's feet as he begged, "I am really sorry. I sincerely apologize for everything I have done to you. Please forgive me." Ernest stood still, listening to him ramble, confusion appearing in his eye, unsure of what to do. But this only made Bron more terrified. Tears and snot were streaming down his face. Before that, he had always beaten Ernest. In his eye, Ernest was like a dog. But at this moment, Bron was kneeling at Ernest, trembling like a pathetic loser. Truly, life can take you from riches to rags. Little did he know. While Ernest was unsure of what to do, black man spoke, "Annette, you handle it. You can hit him until you are satisfied or accept the apology and just move on. It is up to you." After hearing this, Ernest pursed his lip, hesitating as he stood there. Bron felt like he had found a life, gripping his arm tight, trembling as he mumbled, "Yeah, you can hit me as much as you want. I deserve it." Ernest bit his lip. Honest, he wanted to punch him to feel better, but he did not. Instead, he narrowed his eyes at him and said seriously, "Bron, next time, fight me fairly, and I will forgive you after." This left Bron not understanding at all. Arn does not have an explanation either. Turns and walks away. "Then I will just let this go." Den stands next to him, nodding in satisfaction. "You did great." He smiles softly, and Ernest gratefully said, "Thank." Just then, female student approaches from a distance and speaks up, "I have been waiting for you this whole time and did not see you, so I went looking for you." Den looks up at her, smiling softly as he replies. Lavila looks at his questioning, "What is going on? Did you get into a fight?" Den casually responds, "Someone wanted to challenge." Lala raises an eyebrow and asks, "With who?" Den glances back, and Alila follows his gaze to see Bron behind them. She smiles and says, "Why did you choose him out of everyone?" Bron also notices, and a look of surprise crosses his face. The daughter of Duke Termin is coming over. The group here does not pay attention to him, so he quietly asks Lila. They say, "He is in the martial arts department. Do you know him?" Alila shakes her head slightly and replies, "I do not really care." It is only now she realizes there are other here. She questioned, "But who is this?" Den puts his arm around Ernest's shoulder and introduces, "This is Ernest Dine, first-year student in the exploration department." Ernest happily greets, "Nice to meet." Hearing that of law, feeling a bit dissatisfied, says, "Come on, do not add the miss part. Just treat it like normal friends." Three of them continue chatting as they walk. Lavila glances at her and asks, "So what are you studying in the exploration department?" Ernest hesitates and replies, "Things like ruin, secret location, all kinds of exploration." Hearing that, Lala excitedly exclaims, "Then should not we show you the map we found? I am sure he knows something about it." Ernest looked at her in confusion, questioning, "What map?" Den slowly opened his mouth to explain, "We participated in the club event and received a treasure map." Annette, hearing this, exclaimed in surprise, "I have heard rumors that someone got the treasure map. Is that you?" Lila looked at him with concern, quietly saying, "He seems to have turned into a person." Den awkwardly added, "It must be some sort of obsession with the art of right." Ernest, on the other hand, was still excited, quickly suggested, "All right, let us find a quiet place." Three of them then found a quiet spot. Ernest took the map from him and looked it over, finally saying, "This map quite complicated, does not it? Since it is a treasure map, it is obvious that it can't be understood with just a glance. Instead of showing the whole academy, it seems to point to a more specific location." Just then, Ernest suddenly saw something on the map. He did not know when strange words had appeared, and could read them, could not make sense of who was next to him, frowned and asked, "So what do we do now?" Ernest thought for a moment before speaking. "First, we need to find out who created this map. Knowing its creator will give us a perspective to imagine." After hearing this, Din frowned and muttered, "So decoding it right away will be really difficult." Ernest slowly said, "But one thing is for sure. The location on this map is within the boundaries of this academy. These architectural samples were only used when the academy was built." Hearing that, Din and Lilo immediately cheered up. "So it must be somewhere close. Problem is this architecture uses a very strange secret magic from Afstan." Lovey Land was astonished to hear that name. Hangston. "Is he the founder and a legendary wizard?" Zizian asked, "So that magic can't be used anymore, right?" It seems Stun had no disciple. At this moment, Law sighed, knowing it would be difficult, but not to this extent. Anna still did not give up, tightly holding the map and speaking up, "So the issue is figuring out who made this map. That way, we can find clues to decode the map." Zizian cheerfully chimed in, "Once we finish decoding, it will just be time for treasure hunting." Ernest nodded slightly, excitedly saying, "Lo also agreed. Sounds fun. Before coming to the academy, I was always focused on family, so this is my first time being independent." Seeing the reaction of the two, Ian was a bit at a loss for words. They seemed really eager. After thinking, he slowly said, "But it might take quite a bit of, so let us take it easy." At that moment, he suddenly handed the map back, questioning, "Wouldn't it be better for you to hold on to it during the decoding?" Ernest smiled and replied, "It is. I have got it memorized." This left of an in-law astonished. "No way. How good is your memory?" Ernest replied nonchalant, "For some reason, I am really good at remembering maps and code." Hearing that, Lavila could not help but laugh. "So you have a real talent. That must make the test easy for you, right? If you are crazy, do not talk too much. You take back the map and slowly say, 'If you need help, just call us.'" Nivima nodded and as cheerfully said, "Thank. This is the first time I am looking for something with someone other than my dad, so I am really happy." At that moment, Lavila cheerfully suggests, "Let us go eat now," to celebrate forming the team. Z and Eris also had no objections and nodded in agreement. Three of them went out to eat together. By evening at the student dormitory, Zian was still awake, busy rearranging his things, including books and personal items. Ian held an egg, whispering to himself that he should keep important family items in visible places. But where should this egg go now? They say living beings should not be kept in dark corners. Just then, the egg suddenly emitted energy, startling Zien. "Why is it suddenly like this? This has never happened in the past. Black is suspicious that it is because I transferred to the academy, so So it is like this. Quick, he denied it, even though the academy is a mysterious place. The mana distribution here is not much different from my room, so it could be due to the ancient mana you absorbed in the moon guard. Thinking of this, Black could not help but exclaim. It is really surprising how it immediately activated the egg's reaction. Alright, let us channel all our energy, and right after that, he began summoning energy to envelop the egg in his hand. In just a moment, the egg was filled with energy. It lit up a corner of the dorm, causing Black to speak up. It really absorbs my mana intensely. I have been pouring mana into this for the whole year. Just how much mana does it contain? But after a while, the energy still did not dissipate. Black panicked and shouted, I can't do this here anymore. This room is about to collapse. What should we do? This seems like a once in a thousand years opportunity. In Black's eye, it immediately shifted. Probably thought of a way. A moment later, Black brought the egg to her. Seeing the energy it was emitting, she exclaimed in surprise. It was reacting extremely violently. What did you do? Black slowly explained. It is still vibrating continuously even though I am no longer supplying mana. This made Kul even more surprised. She looked at him in disbelief, but it seems she remembered something. She hurriedly said, isn't it time for the dorm roll call now? Not taking attendance is a bit tiring. You know, I have got that. Den replied casually with a smile. Moment. Footsteps suddenly echoed outside the dormitory. A male student wearing glasses came with another male and a female. He boldly shouted, I am the president of the dormitory. Now I will proceed with the attendance check. So everyone gathered outside the dormitory door waiting for the roll call. All dormitories in the Royal Academy strictly follow the attendance protocol. So everyone is worried because Priscilla and Den have not shown up yet. If you are late for the monthly, you will lose discipline point. If you are absent, you will lose 2 points. Being late more than 3 times in a semester results in immediate disciplinary act and labor punishment. Missing more than twice will get you kicked out of the dormitory. At this moment, Amby shouted loud, everyone be quiet. No talk. The 9th floor of the Danta Hall. Today, you can forget about staying calm. This made him feel alarmed. He did not understand why things were so serious today. He confusedly asked what he meant. Just then, someone spoke up. In the newly installed surveillance footage, there is a clip showing Priscilla sneaking out. After monitoring, we confirmed that she had completely left the dormitory premises just 5 minutes ago. But now it shows Priscilla is currently in her room. Ange did not care what the students outside thought. Quickly stepping inside, pushed open a door to a room and entered. Looking around, and back spoke up. Usually, we do not even check if they are in the room. From now on, the rules will have to change. As soon as he said this, the students in the Danta Hall felt doomed. A storm of penalties was about to hit, so they watched and back anxiously as he went from room to room checking. A moment later, Amby back spoke again. The remaining people are generally over. Priscilla will lose 2 discipline points for unexcused absence. Please inform everyone. The students nodded slightly in response. Yep. Just when it seemed Amby was done, he adjusted his glasses and spoke seriously again. Finally, Dino Gura, the new student. Why was not he present? Don't tell me he missed the first roll call. As soon as that was said, Droyan hurriedly explained. No way. He must still be inside. It seems he is busy sorting his. Hearing this, Ange snorted cold and then went to Dino's room, pushing the door open to step inside. Sure enough, he saw a figure still in the room. Amby frowned and asked, Dino Gress, are you in? Don't you know we are taking attendance? Hearing the sound, Dino immediately turned his head and shyly replied, sorry, I was too busy unpacking and forgot. Amby was a bit usually nodded in understanding. That makes sense. Today is your first day, so this can happen. But actually, that is just an optical illusion. Dino is currently in Gur's lab. Most people would not even notice. His image was projected from the connection station to this generator. After hearing that, she frowned. As far as she knows, this thing is extremely difficult to use because it is remote control. Connection can be unstable, and just a little interruption can reveal everything. But she had anticipated that, so she checked several times. As long as they do not get too close, it will be fine. C felt even more confused after hearing. She sighed and said, you are really brave. Putting that aside, she looked back at the egg and asked, so what is up with the egg today? It is definitely reacting to your mana. That means the chance of it hatching is very high, but there are also quite a few cases like this still do not hatch. Anyway, just the fact that there is a reaction is rare, so that is considered progress. She looked up at her and hesitantly asked, so what do we do next? Should I just keep channeling mana into? She thought for a long time before answering. I do not think we should stop. I just feel like this lab is the best place for it to hatch. Didn't we say that we always set up a mana barrier? They felt that made sense. Nodding in response. That is true. We just leave it. It might hatch anywhere. G was silent for a long moment, then finally spoke up. Alright, let us do it. Your mana is very pure, but I will still install a mana filter just. After a while, they started channeling mana into the egg. The mana was being absorbed more and more, causing him to panic. Is it still hungry? It is absorbing a ton of mana. What exactly is in this egg? Minhwa, who was quietly observing from the outside. This is a spirit beast egg. If you have enough money, anyone can buy one. But hatching it is a different story. No one really knows the conditions for hatching. One thing is certain. The user's mana must match the mana frequency of the spirit beast inside the egg. Whatever it is, it really requires a huge amount of luck. Just how terrifying is Xian's talent? Ji knew he was formidable, but witnessing it firsthand left her speechless. As she was thinking, the shell of the egg began to crack. Panic. Xian shouted, sister, do you see it? Ji flinched slightly and hurriedly replied, it seems like it is about to hatch. Just a little long. Hearing this, Li persistently channeled mana into the egg. Cracks in the shell grew large, and Dian excitedly exclaimed, alright, let us see what creature it is. Right after, poured all his energy into the egg. In an instant, the room was filled with mana, and the egg had completely cracked open. With a loud bang, the mana in the room exploded. Lian was pushed back because exceptionally, she was also affected by this large amount of mana. When the mana dissipated, a strange object appeared where the egg had been. Gur rushed over to Zhang, worriedly asked, are you okay? Zin shook his head slightly and replied, just a little dizzy. More importantly, look over there. Saying this, pointed behind him, glancing back to see a creature staring wide-eyed at him. It had a pair of wings on its back, claws on its limb, although it was still quite small. After closely observing, Ji immediately exclaimed, wait, is that? At that moment, Wyvern happily breathed fire throughout the room, leaving the two in shock. Once they reacted, Cole immediately pushed Zen forward. She urged, don't just stand there, come closer to it. There have been cases where spirit beasts chose their first person as their master. That one is yours, so hurry up. Hearing this, Zen felt a bit flustered, then lifted his foot to approach. After a while, finally spoke, up close. You are actually quite cute. Wyvern looked at him in confusion. It did not understand anything, and smiled sincerely at it. Very nice to meet you. As soon as he finished, he reached out his hand towards Ween. A moment later, the cheerful laughter of Gur echoed in Gur's laboratory. You have already bonded, Loon excitedly said with a laugh. That is right. This girl is super cute. What was currently standing on his hand, making some sounds. Ji slowly approached to come. You are amazing. How do you make it look so easy? You see. Right after that, she started observing Gu on Den's hand. She suddenly gasped. Wait, this? Hearing the sound, Den looked at her in confusion. Even one was staring at Cole without taking his eyes eyes off. Pa's face now showed disbelief. Then she shouted again. It looks like something summoned from the outside world. Hearing this, Den furrowed his brows asking doubtfully, "Are you serious?" Gul nodded seriously, replying, "Only a few summoners can do this. Even she could only summon a half-spirit. She never thought the youngest in the SSS family could summon something like this. Huge." The more he listened, the more anxious he became, worriedly speaking up. "So that means this is not a real summoned creature that exists in this world." Ji slowly explained, "You know all the summoned creatures that can be called normally, even in their pre-adult state, but she does not know which summoned creature has characteristics. This one, the one that resembles it the most, might be Wien. Clearly, the details are somewhat different." He glanced at the spirit beast in his hand, smiled after a while, and said, "It does not look that special. So no one really knows what this is." Gul replied calmly, "We will have to find out from now on. Problem is there is no record of a summoned creature like this." Den frowned slightly and murmured, "A new entity." At that moment, Gul released a flame. Den silently observed it. "How did something like this come to you? Could it be related to the ancient magic you absorbed before?" Just then, Ji spoke up to remind him, "That is right. Keep the eggshells safe. Some species born from egg eat their own shells to ensure nutrition." Den nodded and replied, "I understand. So what should I do?" Gul slowly explained, "Approach it carefully. Try to keep a continuous record of what does this little one like and dislike? How long has it been sleeping? And can it show aggression? How much does it grow each day? Things like that." Den sighed. "That is quite a lot, but it is definitely worth." He focused intently on the one in his, which looked back at him with sparkling eyes. Although unsure of what it was, began to feel the need to protect this little one. While Den was lost in thought, Ji suspiciously asked, "By the way, are you planning to keep it close? People would be shocked if they saw this. Instead, you should not keep it in the lab." Den frowned in thought after hearing that, and nodded after a while, saying, "That is, but we can't hide it forever." But what she worried about was that Wyvern would feel trapped, stuck in the lab too long. After thinking for a while, Green finally spoke, "Then let us use this as an opportunity to create an official mark for you." Den looked at her in confusion, asked, "An official mark? The summoning mark from before?" Damak nodded. Ji replied nonchalant, "That is right. You are still a noob, but your talent is already clear. It will be very difficult to untangle everything. Since you now have a summoned creature, this will be your opportunity." Den thought this made sense, mumbling quiet, "That sounds about right. Then let us get started on it." Ji happily looked at him and said, "You signed up for the summoning class, right? If you show your talent in class, a special approval will come. Usually, it is very hard to meet the requirement, but Den is different. The department will have to recognize that, but call. I am sure you will make it." Den frowned upon hearing that. Special approval sounds interesting. Saying that, Den glanced at the spirit creature on his shoulder. "You do not know what to name this little girl, do you?" After a while, Den returned to the dorm. As soon as he saw Royen worriedly asked, "Where have you been? You were not in your room during roll call." Den replied nonchalant, "I had something urgent to take care of." Royen leaned in close and asked, "How could you skip roll call like that?" Priscilla was caught immediately. The Stress family is always full of surprises. Hearing this, Den was a bit shocked as he exclaimed, "Is my sister the same?" Roya winked and smiled slightly. "Your sisters are legends in the Danum Hall. Just grab any student in the dorm and ask. You will see the reaction you want." This patted Den on the shoulder to reassure him. "Anyway, I am the only one who knows you sneaked out, so do not worry." Den nodded appreciative. The two chatted a bit more before Droyan Yan left. At this point, Ween dared to peek outside. After a chaotic night, Den finally returned to his cozy nest. He sighed in relief. "Thank goodness we are safe." What was Priscilla thinking? Just walked out like that. Just then, he suddenly noticed something. Wyvern rushed into the room, bouncing around everywhere, seemingly very excited, and even breathing fire all over them. Den could not help but feel emotional. This creature is truly special. Remembering what happened earlier, Den had gone to the secret gate, mentioned, but the entrance was closed, so this was the only way out. Just checking for a moment, I immediately discovered the problem. You whispered. They wrapped the entire dormitory with a mana shield. How am I going to get past? After thinking for a while, I decided to feel the mana stream. There must be some weak. Saying that, you placed your hand on the gate in front of you, but at that moment, Wyvern suddenly jumped out and breathed fire at the gate. The mana surrounding the gate instantly dissipated. The flames began to tear. Seeing this scene, I was stunned. After a while, I exclaimed in surprise, "How could you do that?" Returning to reality, I looked at the spirit beast flying above me, smiling with determination. "Is that a temporary fire controlling the mana? This is truly an amazing summon." The next day, as usual, went to class. Eris also knew about my new spirit beast, but when he heard its name, could not help but be surprised. "Happy? Are you serious?" Damak nodded and casually replied, "I think it is quite friendly and easy to call. Otherwise, you try to think of one." Hearing this, Ernest was happy. He observed Wien for a moment and whispered, "Let us." "It is, but the name should carry a bit more weight." Is really focused on thinking of a good name for Wien. Seeing his expression, I could not help but smile. Does it really need to be that serious? Just then, it seemed like his thought of something. Quickly walked over to where I was. He cheerfully shouted, "Kana, what is wrong with calling you Kana?" Hearing this name, Den felt pleased. "That sounds nice. What does it mean?" Ernest calmly explained. "Mysterious. Quite fitting, right?" Den looked down at one in his hand, smiled, and said, "Perfect. From now on your name is Kana." The spirit felt it had a new name, and seemed quite, its eyes sparkling. A moment later, in the Bermuded Hall, named after the scholar Bermuda, the class on summoning was about to begin. The students had started to enter the lecture hall. At that moment, an old enemy of Den was also present. Degran Tyre, the eldest son of Count Mog, and he also recognized that Den was here. He had taken his summoning after the Mogat family lost face at the bank. Family had completely collapsed in public. Family could only try to maintain their noble status in the city. Of all places, why did he have to run into Den here to attend a summoning class? Degran felt a bit regret. Why did he have to study this subject now and not at any other? Thinking this, he felt he should do everything to avoid Den. Just then, a sudden sound from behind startled Degran. "Are you retaking a class again?" Daigon turned his head back, trembling as he murmured. Senior person put their arm around his shoulder. "Chuck, come on, what is the big deal? Everyone has to retake a class at some point." As the students settled into their seat, a professor walked in from outside. He stood at the podium, speaking serious. "This lesson will start with the basic theories of summoning. This knowledge is extremely important for those of you just starting on the path of a summoner. This man is Professor Tamaric Piana." He looked down intently and continued in a deep voice. "This theory will appear on the summoner certification exam, so make sure to study it well." Hearing this, the students below felt like their course was doomed. The professor seemed very and they had heard that the official summoner exam was really difficult. At that moment, Tamaric spoke up again. "You meet the requirement. You can pass the special entrance exam." As soon as he said this, someone raised their hand and asked, "Professor, what are the necessary conditions for that special exam?" "I knew you would ask." Tamaric replied calmly, and then he snapped his finger, causing a screen made of mana to appear. Then, Tamaric slowly explained, "Look here. First, you must summon a level 5 or higher beast with an empty seal. Second, you need to maintain that beast for more than 30 minutes. Upon hearing this, the students immediately erupted in chatter. 5th level, even summoning a basic level 7 beast, the summoning seal is already difficult, and it has to be maintained for 30 minutes too. Hearing the noisy sound, Tamaric immediately frowned and said serious. In the end, you have to show something unique enough. Pass the special entrance exam. Even if they succeed in the first 2 conditions, they will fail if they do not meet the third. Whatever it is, it has to make an impression to be considered special. This statement again stirred up discontent among the students. They kept criticizing, and only Zen remained calm. So simply put, they felt they would pass only if they were satisfied. Regardless of the students' dissatisfaction, Tamaric spoke up. Now you understand why it has been called a special admission season late. But you all need a recommendation letter from at least 2 experts in this field to apply. The students continued to be in shock. Seeing their reaction, Tamaric was extremely pleased. He knew they would be speechless, and no one would dare to try. But at that moment, Tamaric noticed someone in the lecture hall. What if it is that interdisciplinary student? He had heard from Professor Den Pinso about the entrance exam concerning the student's ability to create a level connection with the summoned Orc Class B. But unless he saw it with his own eye, Tamaric could not believe Den could accomplish this. It is possible Den is connect, Count says, and made this up to help him pass. He wanted to verify it himself. That thought, Tamaric continued to speak. Your first goal is to pass the regular assessment, so keep trying. If you can summon, it will be easier to get through. But I do not think first-year students can. This statement left the students below in silence. Even Digern was no exception, looking a bit grim. On the contrary, the student below was silent, probably feeling confused since they had only gone through theoretical testing and compatibility. Seeing the silence below, Tamaric could not help but chuckle. Do none of the first-year students really know how to summon? This year's batch is disappointing. Den could feel his gaze on, and he let out a reluctant sigh. He wanted to test Den's abilities himself, so how could he let him down? After thinking, Den immediately stood up. He spoke clearly. I can't. Excuse Professor. Seeing Den stand up, Tamaric smiled with satisfaction, but still maintained a somewhat awkward demeanor as he asked, really, your major and name? Den calmly introduced himself. First-year interdisciplinary student in it. People began to whisper about him. Tamaric feigned surprise upon hearing his name. I have heard about you from the department head. They say you have exceptional talent. Den replied nonchalant. That is how the department head assessed. This made Tamaric silent as he looked at it. Usually people would either be modest or overly self-satisfied. After thinking, he continued, there are many rumors about you, but that talent is generally quite absurd. That said, can you show your abilities to everyone right here, right now? Den frowned upon hearing that. Now he really laid it all out, but Den did not react, calmly saying, if you want me to, I can do it, no problem. But Den suddenly hesitated for a moment, then declared loud, if I prove myself, can I ask you to write a recommendation letter for my special admission application? This caught Tamaric off guard. The first-year students below were equally confused. Daigen over here could not help but glance at you, his eyes filled with disbelief. By the time he regained his composure, Tamaric had exploded. You want to ask for a recommendation letter for the special admission round, right? You understand what that do not? It means you have to showcase your exceptional talent right here. I am asking you, what if you can't do it? Den responded calmly. I have not even thought about that yet. This only made Tamaric more confused. This is overly confident. Even your sister is not this bold. Thinking about this, Tamaric could not help but say, well then, go ahead. He squinted up, seriously saying, if you really meet the qualification, I would be happy to write a recommendation letter for you, but it is easier said than done. This made the students below explode. Murmurs erupt, and he is not even in the summoning major. After all, he is K's little brother. What is going on with the stress family? Ignoring the reactions below, Tamaric continued, but if you fail, you will have to accept all the consequences, no matter what those consequences are. Do you still want to try? The lecture hall fell silent, stunned by these words, but Dian calmly replied, I will do it. Hilong nodded. Tam raised an eyebrow and said with a smile, good, come down here. What a coincidence. I also have a vacant seal here. Ian stepped down without hesitation. His steps were extremely steady. Without any hesitation, Ian had not planned to do this from the first class. But anyway, let us take everything I can get. With that thought, he immediately placed his hand on the seal, channeling mana inside. In an instant, a powerful energy enveloped the podium. Ian muttered in a deep voice, responding to the call. As soon as he finished, a spirit beast appeared, a large wolf fierce eye. Seeing the scene, the students below were instantly stunned, and in a moment, place erupted. Incredible sounds filled the air. Oh my, it is not that a level 5 summoning beast? How could you do it just blank seal? At that moment, Digern realized that Wolf was his gen. Right then, Den glanced at Tamaric and said, Professor, I have summoned gen. Tamaric's expression was a bit to read. How did you manage that with just a blank seal? Have you made an official pact? Or is it for some other reason? Even so, Den has only just summoned it. There is no way you can maintain the summon for 30 minutes. After thinking it over, Tamaric calmed down, slowly opened his mouth, and confirmed that it was indeed impressive as described. The second condition would not be easy to overcome, so he calmly replied, that is true. Or should I show the professor something else? What do you mean, something else? Tam looked used it, a big question mark appearing in his mind. Den did not answer, just smiled confident. Seeing this smile, the students below became even more confused. What is he planning to do this time? The Stress family is really something. Digrun is also looking forward to the third condition, which is to show something special. In the end, it all depends on the professor's assessment. If that professor is this adamant, he might not accept it. Is he really going to do that? Right now, Mark spoke up in a serious tone. Alright, let us see what you have. Without saying another word, he walked up to Den Fu and reached out to pat its head. In just a moment, a surge of mana appeared once again. Seeing this, Tamaric started to sweat, but unconcerned. He gently closed his eyes and began mumbling the incantation. Immediately, the Genfu focused its gaze on him. It was surrounded by a powerful mana. It slightly opened its mouth, revealing its sharp teeth, but Genfu did nothing. Its body was lifted into the air by Den's mana. After a while, he let it down to the ground. Den smiled with satisfaction as he looked at it. This truly was the power of ancient magic. At that moment, there was an uproar below. Whispers of astonishment filled the lecture hall. Enhancing a summoned beast. Isn't it supposed to take at least 5 years to do that? Besides, he is not even from the summoning academy. Daigen did not expect this at all. Has Genfu really been enhanced? But the truth proves that Genfu has indeed been enhanced by Den. Den raised an eyebrow at Tamaric, said with a smile, is this enough to prove you're unique? At the same time, Genfu slowly walked towards Tamaric. He truly was left speechless. Oh my, they even managed to enhance the connection. So everything they said was true. You have an incredibly hard to believe talent. I really can't believe my eye right now. Seeing his face, can't help but smile. Even the professor seems shocked. Can't blame him. You too. The lecture hall is as quiet as a mouse right now. After a moment, Tamaric finally regained his composure, nodding like chopping wood. Well, this is really special. We will discuss the letter later. I understand. Ding is not in a hurry. Casually nodding. The students below have a different view of the situation. It is really eye-opening. Even Daigen feels the same way. He sees that you have matured a lot compared to before. He feels you are quite a scary kid. After a while of commotion, the class continued. Den always felt Professor's focused gaze on him, but he did not bother to react. While everyone was focused on the lecture, Tamaric awkwardly said, "Wait, I think I already taught this part before." Den can't help but smile. He sometimes looks embarrassed like this. You hear he is very strict. He will probably enjoy hearing this. This part is done. Are you thinking about asking the professor for the remaining part? Class kept going. A moment later, Tamaric spoke up. Alright then, our class ends here for today. The first year students left the lecture hall. It is just that as soon as I arrived, someone called me back. I turned around to look, observing the person who just arrived, and after a while, I became suspicious and spoke up. You are Digran Tyrant, right? The former owner of Gen. Digran heard this, mumbling. You remember me? Din did not react much. You calmly spoke up. So you also study at this academy? Digran chuckled lightly and replied, yeah, I had to retake the course after failing. I silently observed, wondering if he came here for revenge or something. Why is he speaking so gently? At this moment, Dron awkwardly said, actually, I have seen you before and had planned to ignore you for a long time, but I still feel that I did something wrong to Den back then, so I came to apologize. After saying that, Digran even bowed his head low to Den. Hearing this, Den was a bit taken aback and took a while to respond. That was years ago, so do not worry. Digran immediately brightened up and asked, really? So can I continue studying? Din was a bit cute. What did that mean? While he did not understand, Digran continued, I won't cause any trouble or hinder you. This I finally understood. Thinks I would report him to get him expelled or something. Right. After thinking, grabbed Digran's arm and slowly spoke, don't worry, everything is fine now. Digran looked up at me, emotionally saying, if you need my help with any, just let me know. This moment, the front of my shirt suddenly puffed out. I frowned and thought. It seemed Canis had woken up and started to stir. Sure enough, right after that, your shoulder puffed up again. Den chuckled soft. Is this hunger talk? Thinking about it, you looked up at Digran and said, that is right, you are from the summoning department. Right. Perfect timing. I need to grab some supplies from the store. Can you show me the way? Without hesitation, Drone nodded in agreement, and then started explaining that place is called Earth and Boden. I might visit there often. That place was established by 2 alumni after they graduated. It has been over 30 years since then. Listening to him ramble on, I sighed helplessly. He really seemed to feel remorse. No need to show a hostile attitude. With that thought, he looked down at Canis peeking out from his shirt. He quickly reassured, calm down, Canis. A moment later, Digran had led them to the summoning department. He cheerfully asked, so what do you need? Let me find it for you. Just tell me the level of the item you need to summon. I will handle the rest. Den calmly replied, I just need to find food for it. Hearing this, Digran immediately looked happy. That is right up my alley. I used to be in charge of compatibility training, so this is a piece of cake. What type of item are you summoning? Den still replied nonchalantly, it is a Canis does look a bit like a 1, so they probably eat similar. Just that your words startled Drone. Woven is a level 3 summoned item. That big. Den quickly gestured for him to lower his voice and speak soft. Yeah, but it is still small, so please keep it a secret. This gets out, we know who the culprit is. Digran nodded slightly and then started thinking about food for the magical young whip. Then soft food is the best, even though it is still young. It eats a lot. In about a week, it will be eating meat. Zen could not help feel emotional hearing. Truly a specialist. How did this guy fail the exam? Digran did not realize that Zen was still focused on searching for something on the shelf. After a while, he handed Zen 2 paper bags and said with a smile, here you go. This one is made from 17 ingredients, and this is a soft mix with milk. Take both. Zen reached out to take, gratefully saying, thanks a lot. I would not know what to do without your help. Digran looked at Zen in confusion and asked, is that all you need? Anything else? Zen shook his head gently and replied, for now, this is enough. Digran suggested, but since we are here, let us go look around some more. There are many useful things. Zen thought for a bit, then finally said, okay, let us go browse some more. Right after that, the two of them wandered around the store, where many items were displayed on the shelf. Zen stopped at the shelf displaying staff, looked over for a bit, then remarked, this looks pretty cool. Just then, a voice suddenly rang out from behind. Wait, this is not something a newbie should use. The two of them jumped and turned to see a white-haired person approaching, not wearing the academy uniform. He raised an eyebrow seriously and spoke, not fully understand. Do not let the mana curse catch you off guard while summoning to find a weapon. At this moment, the two of them finally read the warning posted on the wall. Digran glanced at Den and spoke up. That is right. The staff usually only lets student or use it. Just touching your mana will drain it. But Den felt that was an overreaction. The more they said not to touch it, the more he wanted to. Seeing Den wanting to touch it, the other person reminded, new student, do not get hurt. Do not touch it. I already told you it is dangerous. Unfortunately, Den did not pay attention and had already placed his hand on the staff on the shelf. At that moment, a surge of mana suddenly burst from the staff. Den smirked. He was really thirsty for mana, thinking that he just let the staff absorb his mana. In just a moment, the staff was surrounded by a large amount of mana. Seeing this, the young man was immediately shocked. What the hell is going on? The staff is absorbing enough mana and stabilizing. Even with enough mana, almost no one can control it. After a while, Den chuckled and said, this is not too bad, is it? Digran beside him also expressed his admiration. I knew you were good, but you really are something else. Just then, the other person approached, aggressively questioning, are you really a first-year student? I have never heard of a student like Drone awkwardly explained. This is Dinograph, the younger brother of Senior Call. Hearing this name, the other person gasped, an outstanding student from the interdisciplinary department. Even Cole in his first year could not handle this staff. I underestimated you. If you had said it earlier, I would have consulted for you. Din was somewhat at a loss for words. The attitude changed 180 degrees. At that moment, the young man continued to ask, are you planning to buy that staff? However, Din shook his head in denial. This made Digran and the young man astonished. He asked in confusion, why not? You know how to use it, so why do not you buy it? Din replied casually, looking troubled but unable to resist much. Hearing this, he exclaimed in shock, that staff is more than enough for a student for 5 years and 6 use. Den said nothing. He felt like pouring the entire well into a teapot. After thinking, Den immediately spoke up, I will buy some food back. The young man sighed and muttered, are all of Count Sess's children like Claire is the same? Den heard this and asked curious, what about my second sister? Thought of it and said discontented. In the 4th year, everyone was excited to hold the staff, but she refused, saying it did not look cool. After hearing this, Den chuckled softly, your sis, I can understand. Thinking for a moment, Den placed the staff back on the shelf and then said, well, if I need it, I will come back later. The young man still would not let it go, hastily wanting to advise, since you have come all the way here. Just as he was about to finish, Den coldly interrupted, Ron, we will take this. Then he brushed past him and left. He watched Den's back, sighing helpless. Why are all geniuses like this? A little while later, after leaving, Den fest, Canis was very happy to stick his head out to eat. Den watched him eat, and the next period was basic class. Lila said there were 5 minutes left until class was over, and he had to hurry back to the dorm. Just then, he suddenly heard something inside the alley. There were noises, and someone was throwing objects outside. Along with that, there were extremely hard to hear curse hung. Bow your head and beat him to a me. That stupid stupid jerk. Just a few punches, and he can't even speak. Hearing that makes me sigh reluctantly. Is there another one trying to show off? After think, he stood up and walked toward the alley. Closer he got, clearer the insults became. Immediate. Wien recognized that voice as somewhat familiar. Inside the alley, a group of students was blocking a male student. The one being blocked was Ish, who was trembling uncontrollably. One of them scoffed and spoke up. Did you hear what he said? He said he is not scared. His mouth says that, but he is shaking like a leaf. Ernest bit his lip, pursed inward. Those bastards. Wait until I am alone to take action. Insults echoed continuously in the alley. Seeing them wanting to take action, quickly warned them. Don't come any closer. His actions made them laugh. They mockingly laughed. This loser dares to throw a punch. Just got lucky once and thinks he is tough. Panic rose in his eyes. Not good. Can I handle it this time? Just then, someone appeared in the alley, accompanied by a low voice. You guys again. Hearing the sound, the group of punks immediately turned to look back. Seeing the newcomer, they panicked. The newcomer was, of course, Ian. You waved your hand to greet. See you. In an instant, felt like it came back to life. Den walked up to the group of rowdy kids, making them scared and stepped back. Right after that, in the narrow alley, the sounds of their shouting and blaming echoed continuously. Den did not care. He just calmly stood there. He was thinking about how to handle, looking around, noticing that there was no one else right. Then he would just show them a little muscle. With that thought, Den summoned magic. In the blink of an eye, arrows infused with magic hovered in the air. Seeing this, the rowdy kids were even more terrified. They started to tremble. Can he use magic too? Isn't the Sagar's family famous for their trading skills? Even they were equally surprised, but they did not care about their thoughts. Still focused on controlling the magic. Den then spoke cold. Alright, choose. Leave quiet, or fight me properly. This made the faces of the rowdy kids turn pale, devoid of blood. A little while later, the narrow alley showed cracks on the wall. Even the ground was in a similar state. The rowdy kids were lying sprawled on the ground, in pain. They were beaten to the point their faces were swollen like a pig's head. But Den did not care, just took them out of the alley. Ernest was very great, constantly not really caring much. He spoke up. From now on, let us start practicing together. This made Ernest a bit cute. He remained calm and said, you said you wanted to beat Braun one day. Only then did Ernest understand, hesitating, not knowing what to say. On the contrary, very calmly, he raised an eyebrow and said, that is why I'm going to help you get strong. His thought for a moment, then nodded in agreement. Alright, I am counting on you. The two continued walking and talking, and Lane asked curiously, by the way, have you joined any clubs yet? Nis shook his head slightly and replied, not yet. There is no exploration or adventure club at all. Hearing this, Lean was a bit surprised and spoke up. I thought for sure there would be. Ernest slowly replied, but in our department, we have a research society that is mandatory in the curriculum. It is different from a club, though. He had also looked into a map analysis club. They only use map analysis as an excuse to avoid work. That is really disappointing. Hearing this, I frowned and muttered, it seems like most people just want to relax. Nivima nodded, and Ernest asked curious, but why are you suddenly asking about club? Are you interested? ZM replied casually. Everyone is really eager to recruit male students. Ernest slowly spoke. They said to choose carefully. Once you join a club, you can't switch to another one for 2 years. Hearing this, Neff could not help his tongue twice. The rules are stricter than I thought. Choosing the wrong one means wasting 2 years. As he said this, your step suddenly stopped. Zin glanced at Hozel. Let us start our own club. Club where we can do whatever we want. Ernest asked doubt. What does that mean? Zin replied casually. I mean like practicing those things. And we can also explore the ruins together. Whenever we get bored, we can gather to eat and drink. Just do whatever we want. Zin asked Ernest how he felt about it. He stared at him as if trying to digest what he just said. He exclaimed excited. It would definitely be fun with, but will a club like that be worth any? Zin thought for a moment before answering. It will be fine. I will take care of everything. With a soft laugh, he happily said, if you say so, I really believe it can succeed. But why did you think of this? Zen helplessly replied, those club invitations are really annoying. I have to decline every time. It is just exhausting because I can't find a club I like. So I thought, why not start one myself? After hearing this, Ernest could not help but smile. Can I learn martial arts or swordsmanship? Zin winked and said, Court, you might even discover some hidden. Ernest became more and more excited as he listened. Awesome. I bet we will learn a lot from each other. But I have heard that you need at least 3 people to start a club. Can take the llama, right? Damak nodded. So he casually replied, I am pretty sure he will join. Is did not know what to say after hearing that. Din, on the other hand, was very determined. He suggests, since we are talking about this, let us go ask her right now. A little while later, at Lila's room, the two of them actually went to find her and shared their plans with her determined personality. Lila immediately agreed. Sounds simple. Let us fill it out. Den smiled after hearing this. She was indeed very much like Lila, as she had even set aside joining the dessert exploration bee, which she did not hesitate at all, happily laughing and saying, club meets regularly to enjoy and critique dessert, and if you want, can do that too. I would love to join. The two of them did not need any persuasion at all. Lila directly agreed right away. After all, she would get to eat no matter which club she joined. A little while later, Den finished filling out the application form. He spoke up, hey, form is done. Let us go register. Soon after, 3 of them went to a professor's office. After seeing their form, the professor informed them that the rules changed. Currently, there are many inactive clubs, and management has become difficult. She also mentioned that starting this year, the system had switched from reporting to approval. This made the 3 of them freeze up, and after hesitating for a long time, they finally asked, if it is an approval system, what do we need to do? Professor replied casually, you need a recommendation letter from a faculty member. Let me give you a sample recommendation form. Hearing this, Din sighed in a bit of helplessness. Everything was complicated right from the start, but you still spoke up to suggest, just give it to me. Right after that, the 3 of them left professor's office. Lila sighed and spoke up. First-year student would not know where to introduce the sword manuscript. Is also nodded in agreement. Yeah, that is true. I have not even met any professors yet. Lila worriedly looked at Den and spoke. We can just ask any professor to sign for us. But Den smirked and said, actually, I already have someone in mind. Lila was surprised and looked, asking skeptic. We are just first-year student. They will definitely think poorly of. Extremely calm. Raised an eyebrow and said, just trust me for now. Lila and the other person looked at his face, not knowing what to say. A moment later, Den found the head of the liberal arts, Professor Kentis. Kentis looked at the person in front of, secretly angry and cursing in his heart. Damn it. He said he would listen to them. But now what? Can't push this to another. Taking a deep breath to suppress his anger, Kentis asked in a deep voice, so what do you all need here? Den slowly replied, dear professor, actually I am planning to establish a club. As soon as he said this, Kentis was taken aback. He frowned and asked, club? That sounds interesting. What kind of club? Den calmly smiled and said, club to practice martial art, explore the academy, and have exciting adventures. But it has gone into the review system now, and now we need a letter of recommendation from a professor. On hearing this, Kentis became even more suspicious, so he slowly explained, so you are looking for a great professor who can recommend you. Kentis calmly took a sip of tea, but his trembling hand betrayed him. Kenta, angry, pursed his lips and said, what? This kid? Where are you going to find a better professor than him? After thinking, Kenta calmly smiled and said, isn't there already a professor right? Why search far and wide? I will recommend you myself. Hearing that, Lean hesitated and spoke up. Professor is always very busy, so I am afraid it might be a hassle. Kenta shook his head and smiled. No matter how busy he is, at least I can do this. So what do we need to do now? Really? Zin looked at him happily. Then please sign here. Professor. He then took out a letter of recommendation. Without hesitation, Kenta signed his name, still smiling and saying, my only student wants to start a club, so I naturally have to support that enthusiastic. Diem looked at him, feeling great, and said, thank you so much, Professor. So he successfully got Professor's signature. After that, he should leave the professor's office and show the recommendation paper to Lilala and the other. Lulala could not believe it and exclaimed, can't believe we got the recommendation so quick. Do you know the professor? Zen casually replied, I just asked about swordsmanship and luckily won his favor. But no matter what, we succeeded. Lalo immediately asked, so are we really going to start a club now? Nivima nodded, and Zane casually said, now we just need to submit the application. Nis happily said, I am so excited. This is going to be fun. Lala also nodded in agreement. I thought this would be difficult, but Zane made it look easy. Putting that aside, Zane seriously said, we need a name to register. What name should we use? This question surprised Choi. He frowned and muttered, a name that represents our image. That is an important issue. Lovela pouted and spoke up, I do not want a name that is too childish or meaningless. So the two started thinking of a name for their club. Looking at the expressions of the two, Vienna could not help but chuckle. These two are really putting some thought into this. At that moment, his sleeve suddenly puffed. The Ian panicked immediately. Canis is out now. Canis has woken up. It is starting to crawl along his body. It did not take long before it crawled up to Zian's chest. He really wanted to scream, not now, Canis, but he just could not. At the same time, Lulai and Ernest were still chattering away about naming, but when Lavila looked at the back of his shirt, she exclaimed in shock, you have got a lump under your shirt. Lian was a bit panicked. He had not introduced it yet. Seeing Yan's expression, Lavila and Ernest grew even more suspicious. They frowned and asked, what are you hiding? Just as Ian was about to respond, front of his shirt puffed up again, and suddenly that thing jumped out. Canis poked its head out from inside, revealing its body in front of Alzenlau and Ernest, causing them to freeze in shock as if the movie was over. Indeed, once they regained their composure, Lala immediately interrogated, what is that? $1 million monster. Why did it come out from your shirt? Don't tell me the egg you got from Cole has hatched. Den shyly explained, yeah, it was just born not long ago. So it is Canis. Hearing its name, Canis looked at both of them with sparkling eyes. Ennis was the first to greet. Canis, long time no see. Lila heard and immediately got angry, questioning, you knew about it already. Three of you were just making noise in the courtyard. A little later, in the professor's office registering the club. Upon seeing their introduction, Professor was bewildered. The Magic Exploration Club for Summoning and Combat. This is the name they came up with earlier. The professor asked again, are you really sure you want to use this name? Den directly nodded in affirmation. Please accept it. Once we get approval, three of us will go outside. Lila walked while angrily saying, you should never name anything again. Den glanced at her. Lee asked, isn't it pretty good? Lila coldly huffed, absolutely not good. Den helplessly chuckled, do not worry too much. We can always change the name later. In another part of Tamarik's room, Dio had come by, sitting across from Tamarik and speaking up, how have you been late? There are a lot of talented students, and with so many candidates, I worry the professors will be overwhelmed, especially since I have heard some students seem to stand out more than others. That is true. Tamik nodded slightly in acknowledgement, but inside, he was panicked. Has the incident in class spread so? Dio narrowed her eyes at, slowly opening her mouth. I heard that something interesting happened in your class. I do not mean to interfere with your class. I am just curious. Tam placed the teacup down on the table, shaking his head in denial. Of course, there is no problem. You are the department head, so it is quite normal. He mentioned there is a student who is very noteworthy, even more outstanding than, which is quite a surprising story. Dio nodded slightly in response. It must be Dino Greg, right? Personally accepted him into the school. She also put her teacup down. She raised her eyebrow and asked with a smile, I heard you promised to write a recommendation for him, right? Because the special admissions requires 2 letters. I think I will write the other one. Tam looked at her in surprise. You are writing it yourself. Department head Dio nodded slightly and replied, he clearly has the capability. How could I just sit back? Hearing this, Tamik felt angry and thought, that cunning snake. She is trying to take everything for herself. Thinking this, his hands under the table clenched. Right, she is always like that, and he had let his guard down. While Tamarik was deep in thought, Dio frowned and asked, are you worried about something? This startled him, and when he reacted, he shook his head to deny it. Dio chuckled soft. Howdy, is that all? When you finish the letter, make sure to let me see it. After all, we should be straightforward with each other about this. Gritting his teeth, Tamarik reluctantly nodded. For having achieved her goal, Dio said, then I will take my leave. She then stood up and left the room. Watching her, Tamarik ground his teeth in anger. He sat there in silence, starting to think, does Dio really think he would just sit back and let things go this way? She is trying to pull him over to her side. But this time Tamik won't let that happen. He has to secure that genius before her. Outside, the academy's class just finished. Today, there is just the history of the establishment of the Empire class. He still has time, so he decides to go grab some snacks or something. Just then, someone approached from behind, calling out to him, which made him jump and turn around, only to see a stranger. Frowned and asked her who she was. That girl slowly introduced herself. Hello, I am the messenger from Professor Del Pinoso's academy, head of the summoning department, calling for you. He frowned at the person in front of him, a hint of doubt rising in his heart. Isn't he that Professor Tamara? After thinking, he suspiciously asked. The girl shook her head slightly and replied, he only mentioned a recommendation letter. He asked you to come right away. How we go? Upon hearing this, he furrowed his brow, thought, the sudden summoning feels off. The Royal Academy, cradle of the nation's his brightest, place where countless academic passions flourish, is known for its fierce competition beyond imagination. Especially the power struggle among professors is varying. The influence of each department determines the funding and resources they receive. The top 3 departments, martial art and summoning magic, receive the most funding. Naturally, the reputation and evaluation of professor also change accordingly, affecting their core responsibility. In the office of the head of the summoning department, he is pondering this issue. Can it keep being stuck in third? He can keep losing to those guys forever. If he joined, the summoning department could easily surpass the magic. Problem lies with Professor Kentis from the interdisciplinary studies, but they also have Dee's older sister Cole, so he would not reject it right away. Dee thought he could pique his interest in summoning. She would have a chance. While she was thinking, there was a knock at the door, accompanied by a sweet voice. Professor, I have brought the document. The visitor was the girl who brought the message to Dee. Den immediately replied, come in. Den quickly entered the room, took a sip of tea, and then spoke. Student life is very busy, is not? Den cautiously responded, I still have a lot to learn, so I am approaching everything with the mindset of a new student. Hearing this, Dio could not help but chuckle. You are too modest. Wanting to learn is a commendable attitude. Are you interested in any particular field? Den calmly smiled and replied, right now, it is hard to choose one. I want to do well in every. Dio squinted at him, carefully spoke up, wanting to do well in every course. That is just the starting. I heard that in Professor Tamarik's class, you summoned Gen, and and even performed a bond enhancement. With skills like that, as the head of the department, how could you just sit still? With the talent level you have, you should take the special assessment. That is why I said that to Merrick, and I agreed to write a recommendation letter for you. Den nodded politely upon hearing, thanking her for such kindness. Noticing his indifferent attitude, Dio continued to smile and said, writing a recommendation letter for an off-campus summoner. This is the first time I have done that. Your talent is that rare. Den did not rush to respond. He felt she was about to get to the main. Sure enough, soon after, Dio suggested, what I mean is, why not take this opportunity to learn more as a summoner? I would like to teach you personally. Upon hearing this, Den fell silent. If the head of the department spoke so directly, then their side must be in a hurry. While Zen was thinking, Zio spoke up again. Oh right, have you joined any clubs yet? If you are interested, the department has a summoning club. It is just that she had not finished, so she awkwardly interrupted about the club. I already started one with a friend. Sorry. This made Du exclaim in surprise. What? Already? The rules have changed. It is not easy to set one up. With a slight laugh, she casually said, yeah, it is not easy, but luckily our advisor, Professor Kenta, recommended. This made Do's expression even worse. That guy who never attends faculty meeting. What is going on? Thinking of this, Zio clenched his fists in anger. She has been played by him. She intended to lead Zen into a club related to summoning. Zio took a deep breath, pursed her lip, and said, well, I guess it is settled. Anyway, congratulations on starting the club. When you have time, come visit my place. There is a lot of interesting stuff there. Now she started to bait him. She even mentioned there was something very rare, an unhatched spirit. This made Zen glance at her a bit more. Thinking the fish had, Dio laughed and said, a hatchling spirit beast egg is worth as much as a castle. It is that rare. So come take a look. But she had no idea that Den was already raising one. Seeing he did not respond, Dio continued, don't worry about the introduction letter. Soon, Professor Tamaric and I will officially announce it. If you have any questions about the examination process, feel free to ask. She added. Den politely nodded and replied, thank you for your kindness. Professor Dio said nothing, took a piece of cake from the table, and then suggested, let us talk while enjoying dessert. The dessert you brought looks delicious. Saying that, she took a bite of the cake, but was secretly calculating in her mind. Maybe Tamaric will try to outdo. She needed to quickly write a letter. I wonder how far their jaws will drop when they see it. The next day, the dormitory. Cole came to find Den and told him that Du had contacted. Den was astonished upon hearing that. I slowly explained. After sending the letter, the Summoners Association got in touch with her today. They are sending someone to the academy right now. Den was even more surprised after hearing this. That is insane. They are openly recruiting you now. While he was asked doubtfully, Professor Del Pinaso seems to think highly of you. What did you do? He asked, shaking his head casually. Who knows? Maybe it is because I am a top student. Her seemed skeptical but continued. Anyway, I am sure you will be taking the exam soon. Back in Sister's time, we had to call all 3 spirit beasts at once, maintain them, and then enhance the connection. Hearing this, Ian exclaimed in shock. 3 at once. That is going to be really tough. Is it true that your older sister passed the exemption test at 16? Nodding in response. This time not knowing what they did not give any advance notice. Just being recommended by teacher Del Pinaso was already above standard. But there is also power struggle within the association. They frowned slightly in suspicion. Power struggle. Cole slowly explained. Professor Del Pinaso has a history of rejecting the association's summoning request, so they won't give her any advantage. After hearing this, he imagined what was going on and continued to ask. So the test might be harder because of that. Cole nodded slightly. That is possible. Saying that, she took Ian's hand, calmly smiled, and said, but I am not worried about you. Honestly, I am just afraid you might get hurt because of the adults' fight. Hearing this, Lei could not help but chuckle. He quickly reassured, don't worry, that won't happen. You do not intend to let them set you up. 2 days later, at a castle of the academy, people arrived, directly welcoming them at the entrance. The leader was the president of the Summoners Association, Elga Pote. He asked in a deep, so how outstanding is this student that you have to work so hard? Dio sighed and replied, President, his talent is just ordinary. I have no other way. Elga frowned upon hearing this. Then you should have accepted the position when the association offered and handled things right. Dio pursed her lips and said, if I take the position in the association, I won't be able to focus on the academy anymore. Thinks she does not realize he wants to pull her to his side for him because of the association's greed. Du has almost died from being pushed into risky missions more than once. Hiding the disgust in her eyes, Dio cheerfully spoke up, then please follow me. Let us talk while we walk. The letter has been sent, so we have to play for now. But Elga did not like this kid. Not all. He asked as they walked. So that is Dino Gret. I heard he summoned a grade gent and even successfully performed a bond in hand. And in the inter-school competition, he even bonded with many of your spirit. Du nodded slightly and acknowledged, and Elga continued. His ability is quite extraordinary. It caused quite a stir in the association. I did not expect the younger sibling to overshadow the older. Does not that put him on par with Gadarin? Hearing this, Dio felt a bit awkward and spoke up. I am not sure if he is on par with Gadarin, but you will understand after witnessing it for yourself. Elga narrowed her eyes at her and said in a serious tone, we will still strictly evaluate the special selection as we always have. I understand. Dio nodded casually. Just then, their group entered the academy. The students panicked as soon as they saw them. Whispers and murmurs immediately erupted. What is going on? The association's masters are here. What to ignore the whisper. The association's group has gone inside. After a while, he was excited to hear the sound. Then, this is where the test is held. Iga heard this and looked up. In front of him was the Kaing Trang building. After a while, he spoke in a deep voice. Let us go. Inside the building was a large training arena, and the lights were already on inside. He immediately introduced himself. I am the youngest son of the Lord of the Southern Region and the head of the SSS family. It is a pleasure to meet. After saying that, politely bowed. Moreover, standing before a figure like the president of the Summoners Association, he showed no signs of nervousness. This made Elga feel a sense of admiration. Impressive. It is hard to believe that he is only 14 years old and has such spirit. Now he understands why they were in such a hurry to send the invitation. Thinking that, he also introduced himself. I am Elga Pote, president of the Summoners Association. I have heard about you. You are highly praised. This test will not be easy. Damak nodded and calmly replied. Irony. He realized that Elga was just pretending friendly, but did not seem very pleased. At that moment, Elga cast a glance at his subordinates and ordered, no need for long speech. Let us start right away. Get ready. Hearing this, Dio hesitated and asked, wondering what the president cared. What a pity. Elga does not care at all. Walking up to him, Den speaks. Whether you pass or fail will be decided by me alone. Any form of cheating will not be tolerated during the exam. Remember that. I understand. Den nods calmly in response. Elga squints at him, speaking sternly. Good. Then I look forward to seeing your unique score. Then the test begins. As soon as he finishes, he raises his hand to the sky. His subordinates outside start to form a formation, and in an instant, this place is enveloped by powerful mana stream. Den falls into deep thought upon seeing the amount of mana appearing is increasing. But those people are not stopping. They continue to summon mana until this place is wrapped in a newly activated magic circle. It is at this moment that Den realized the expression on his face also becomes serious. They have activated a magic circle to protect the hall. That means there is no way out. Right now, Elga has stepped into a magic circle under his feet. A powerful amount of mana begins to surge. Keeps mumbling incantation. When he feels the mana is sufficient, Elga suddenly shouts, "Answer the call." As soon as he finishes, mana erupts toward the sky. When the light gradually fades, a giant body appears in this place. A beast with thick fur emerges and is pushed back a few steps due to the mana explosion. Unable to contain its astonishment. Indeed, the mana of the chairman is overwhelming. You did not expect the test to be on this scale. However, there is something that shocks Den even more, and that is the terrifying spirit beast in front of you right now, with its massive body, fierce cloudy eyes, sharp claw, and surrounded by mana. Even those outside looking at that spirit beast are horrified. There is no way. That is a level 3 summoning, and in her eyes, disbelief has filled her. She never dreamed Elga would summon this fierce spirit beast for the test. Inside the magic circle are 3 people and 1 beast, but they have to confront that spirit beast direct. Den squints at it. Now he understands why Cole is so worried. Just then, Elga speaks up in a serious tone. "Because you are a genius. This level should match your caliber, right? Don't you think so?" He says you can use any weapon you feel comfortable with. Control Antares by any means necessary. This is the mission for the special entry. Hearing this, Den grits his teeth in anger. That old man clearly wants her to fail. He definitely wants to humiliate her. Of course, does not care about her thought. Continues speak, "But with your incredible talent, there is surely nothing to worry about, right? Of course. If you are scared, you can back out right now." But Den coldly replies, "I will do the test as planned." This leaves Elga stunned, not knowing what to do. But he does not care. He quickly calls forth his own spade, then reaches his hand inside. The knight has something suitable for now. Quick pulled out a weapon. He was extremely pleased. This was the gift his father gave him on his 7th birthday. Because the beast in front of him was large, it would have many openings. So he planned to strike and then retreat. Seeing what he held, Elga could not help but be moved. Is he using a spear? Truly worthy of the Count's Lenny. Just as he finished speaking, he noticed something. Tamarek had appeared on the 2nd floor without anyone realizing. His face looked a bit grim as he shouted, "What is this? Isn't it too much to make him fight a level 3 beast like this?" Stu heard and was startled, stammering, "It seems Professor Tamarek has arrived. He will probably Elga calmly spoke, "It is. He seems ready." Saying that, he focused ahead and shouted orders after a moment. "Antares, eliminate the enemy before you." Antares growled in front of, acknowledging the command. Its teeth clenched, making a creaking sound. Its blood-red eyes fixed on the knight, and then it charged forward. The knight stood there without any fear, calm and composed. His face was filled with determination. "All right, charge ahead." Only when the beast appeared before him did he take action, suddenly revealing a surge of mana, followed by a display of dancing mana in the air. He darted like lightning past the large, slow body of Ant. Its speed was too slow. It simply could not outside. Seeing this scene, Elga's face turned as dark as a burnt bottom. Even Du found it hard to believe what was happening. Tamek was no exception. He was worried just a moment ago, but now he was frozen in place. The group of trainees who just ran over were also as stiff as a board. When they finally reacted, expressions of amazement began to echo. "Oh my, what was that movement just now?" But Den did not care much. He still held the stick tightly in his hand, starting to shift his weight onto his right leg, creating an extremely solid defensive stand. Den was very pleased with his recent move. It seemed the special training had been effective. At the same time, the Antares across from him seemed to have been provoked by it. It opened its mouth with sharp teeth towards Den, as if to threaten. Immediately after, Antares charged forward. Its clawed hand also began to swing towards Den. He squinted at it, not daring to let his guard down for a second. The moment Antares struck down with Den quickly dodged. This made its bloodshot eyes show anger. Continued to swing down with another punch. This time too, Den managed to avoid it. Antares kept attacking him furiously. With its powerful momentum, Den was forced to step back. Now he understood why it was a level 3. With that size moving at this speed, it was truly extraordinary. While Den was thinking, the Antares struck again, this time in his hand. A magic appeared, a flame bursting in the air. Then without hesitation, he charged forward. Seeing this scene, did not flinch. He began to summon his own mana. At the same time, Antares' fire grew larger and larger. The blazing flames enveloped Den's entire body. Seeing this, Dio panicked and shouted, "He is taking a direct." Elga quietly felt smug. Even with enhanced mana against Ant, it was completely insane. The inspection ended, as expected. However, within that brilliant flame, Den had not fallen yet. Despite the heat enveloping his body, Den tightened his grip on the spear in his hand, then began to spin in a circle. Not long after, the flames began to weaken. Taking this opportunity, Den also charged forward. In the blink of an eye, he had closed in right in front of Ant. "Alright, it is time to end this." Thinking that, Den summoned mana into the spear again. Quick flow of mana appeared around him. Without a word of warning, he dashed forward like the wind, plunged the spear in without hesitation. At the same time, Antares raised its claw. It immediately slammed down onto Den, but he had used the spear to block. In the finishing blow, Den would use what his father had once shown him. Concentrate mana into the spear to create an explosion. A sudden burst. At that moment, Den charged forward. His spear had pierced into Antares' abdomen. The spear pierced through the belly of the beast, causing it to howl in pain. But Den did not let go. He held onto the spear tight, trying to drive it deeper into Antares' body. At that moment, the mana on the spear was growing stronger. Before long, a mana explosion erupted. Antares' body lost a large chunk because of seeing this. Den smiled with satisfaction. However, Antares did not fall. 2 large flames appeared in its hand. Antares raised its head to the sky, roaring in anger. Watching from outside, had a slightly grim expression. Elga was no exception. He did not think they could hold out for so long. Watching Den's impressive performance, the other students were initially stunned, quickly began to whisper among themselves, "Incredible. The beast's attacks barely hit. And what was that mana?" At that moment, the flames in Antares' hands grew larger, and in the blink of an eye, they spread all over its body. Antares was now extremely furious. Its eyes filled with rage. It bared its sharp teeth at Den, and then began to attack. Faced with Antares' aggressive momentum, Den could only dodge, causing every spot he passed through to be scorched by Antares' flame. Dirt and debris flew everywhere. However, Antares did not stop, frantically attacking with fire. It seemed it was truly angry now. "To not let my guard down. Focus on countering Antares' attack." But at this moment, a bewildering event has occurred. Your spear has been lost. At the same time, outside the building where the survey is happening, Kentis is frantically running this way, muttering to himself, Don't you understand why they chose such a remote location?" Shortly after, Kentis pushed the door open and walked inside, only to be stunned by the scene before him. He saw the barrier in the competition area. His eyes instinctively narrowed, and Kentis gasped, mumbling, "What have they summoned?" As he got closer, he saw the spirit beast roaring with its head held high. Immediately, he recognized it. He incredulously mumbled, "Oh my, a level 3 ant inside the barrier." The spear had been flung away by Ant, although there were still still wounds on Antair's weight. They were not serious. He squinted at it, feeling a surge of emotion, thinking it took the hit and was still fine. Then, regular weapons can't hurt it. That thought, he sighed deep, sincerely apologizing to his father. But in the end, he had to use a sword. Instant, a sword appeared in his hand. He raised an eyebrow at Antair's and said with a smile, "Let us begin the second round." Seeing the sword in his hand, Elga could not help but be surprised. Using a sword again, Elga looked at him off, stammering, "But I guess it makes sense. This is a special test. A bit unusual as normal." Elga just nodded slightly without saying anything. What surprised him was that Den remained unusually calm. "You have no intention of dodging the attack. That stance seems like you have been through countless battles." Dio squinted at Den, finally seeing your true power. At the same time, Antair's charged at Den again. Its claws were also engulfed in brilliant flame. Den showed no fear and calmly swung his sword in response. "Your speed is incredibly fast, hard to see with the naked eye." In an instant, Den revealed the true skills of a swordsman. "You took 2 steps back to gather strength, then charged forward, direct running Antair. But you realized Antair's was not half bad either. After just a few exchanges, it shifted from strength to speed, accurately responding to each of your moves. Moreover, both of Antair's hands were enveloped in flames. Den's sword energy was hard to penetrate. But of course, you were not discouraged. You fought back while thinking of ways to..." At this moment, Antair's threw a punch. Den did not dare to let his guard down and quickly used mana. "Your speed was very fast. In no, you had thrown out several strikes." Den wanted to crush Antair's with ancient magic. Too many people were watching, and it did not give you any time. Charging wild, thinking of this, Den could not help but smirk. Then there is no other way. At the same time, outside, Elga and Du were still observing the battle. His face grew increasingly serious, and she quickly spoke up, "Chairman, this is too dangerous. The student gets hurt. There will be no avoiding punishment." Elga heard but did not respond. Becoming even more anxious, she pressed her lips tightly and spoke, "I will immediately enforce the recall." Then, magic appeared in her hand. Just at that moment, a scream suddenly rang out. "Wait!" Observe it. Dio turned in surprise. Seeing who had arrived, she shouted in panic, "Professor Kenta, when did you get here?" Kentis did not answer, only calmly spoke, "I understand your concern, but it seems Den has already found a way to deal with." At the same time, inside the barrier, Den was now rushing like the wind, swinging the sword in his hand continuously. And suddenly, a surge of magic appeared before him. In an instant, a magical array had materialized. Den charged forward with the sword wrapped in energy along with the magical array. He swiftly darted past Antair, leaving a few cuts on it, especially on its leg. Antair's howled in pain. Its body staggered and collapsed around. It kept trembling, unable to move anymore. Seeing this scene, Elga exclaimed in shock, "Did he just combine swordsmanship and magic in the blink of an eye?" Kenta, beside her, "Maybe you should summon something stronger." Hearing this, Elga clenched his fists in anger. A level 3 spirit beast should have been enough to make Den stumble, but he exceeded all of his expectations. Below, after Lo got up, Antair's continued to summon flames to attack Den, but he smirked. A final struggle, stubborn until the very end. After thinking, a spark of magic appeared in your hand. "But actually, you did not want to use this." At that moment, a flurry of magical arrows suddenly appeared above your head. With a confident smile, "It is time to end this." Antair, on the opposite side, unaware of the impending danger, was still frantically summoning, and without hesitation, it attacked with fire. But at that moment, a magical beam suddenly pierced through Antair's body. Along with the arrow, they struck without warning. A surge of intense pain hit Antair, causing it to suffer. By the time the magic faded, several large holes had appeared in its body. Fire surrounding its body dissipated. Antair's was knocked back. Its eyes showed a look of unwillingness. But no matter what, this battle had come to an end with a victor. You gathered the mana in your hand, a satisfied smile on your lip. At the same time, outside, you could not help but speak up at this scene. "Chairman, this exam seems a bit excessive." Elga said coldly. "It is too much." "What are you talking about?" Dio said unhappily. "No matter how talented he is, forcing a first-year student to control a third-rate summoned beast. Do you really think that is reasonable?" Hearing this, Elga could only smile off, but the result was still good, right? Hearing this, became even more dissatisfied. She yelled angrily, "It is indeed a good result. Good enough to be recorded in the Empire's history. A first-year student used a spear, a sword, magic, and even a forced bond to control a third-rate summoned beast." While they were continuously exclaiming, the Black One leisurely retrieved his weapon and stored it away. That last moment was truly shocking. Both Elga and Kenneth saw it clearly. When Antair's fell, he calmly took action. He had established a link that defeated Antair, and then proceeded to establish a force link to prevent hostility. Taking both strategy and result, it was a perfect ending for the Black One. At this moment, he wore an uncomfortable expression. Today's event got out. People would say this was an unfair test aimed at deliberately targeting. Hearing this, Elga rebutted, "Professor DePinzo, I have clearly established safety measures." He scoffed, "And yet you still sat idly by when it came to facing it direct." She said she was a professor. She could not just turn a blind eye to this. Those words made Elga's face dark, and she began to curse internally. "Damn it, how did it come to this? The entire plan is a bust." Kenneth stood listening to the two argue without saying a word. He was intently observing the Black One in the distance. Although he knew the boy was a genius, this was beyond surprising. From the very beginning, he seemed more like a seasoned knight than a student. Kentis decided he had to take the Black One as his student. At the same time, Du was also considering this. She had to bring this genius under her wing. After a while of commotion, Elga had no choice but to bring a gold badge to the Black One and Dinette. "Having passed the special exam, we officially confer upon you the title of summoner along with this badge." Even though he was reluctant, he still followed the procedure. "I hope you continue to showcase your talent as the Empire's summoner. Take it." He reached out to receive the badge, nodding politely. Looking at the badge in his hand, he could not help smile. This golden badge is only given to those who pass the special exam. So cool. Right after that, it tightly in his hand and began to channel mana into it. He suddenly shouted, "Respond to my call." As soon as he finished, the golden badge suddenly lit up. Mana enveloped a corner of the yard. This is the summoning formation that he just created. In an instant, a creature appeared from within the formation. Seeing the scene, everyone outside immediately widened their eyes in astonishment. Even Kentis was no exception. He gasped and muttered, "What?" In the light of the magic circle, a pair of long ears emerged, and beneath them was a short, stubby foot. It was a rabbit named Ant, a level 4 enhanced summoning, capable of significantly boosting the summoner's physical ability. Upon seeing it, his eyes lit up with joy and praise. "Isn't it adorable?" He smiled at it, nodding in greeting. "Nice to see you again." The atmosphere suddenly fell silent. Glancing back at Kentis behind him, everyone was stunned. Thinking of this, she looked at him in the yard below. With so many witnesses, the entire academy would surely be in an uproar. Sure enough, a few days later, whispers about Den began to circulate throughout the academy. Pulse's gazes at Den also started to change. Ernest, walking next to Den, murmured softly, "Lila, I really can't understand. Can this actually be happening?" Lila pouted and replied, "Don't try to understand. Just accept it, and you will get used to it." After hearing this, Ernest could only sigh, suddenly remembering something and spoke up, "Right, I am almost done decoding the map." Den immediately replied, "Then when it is done, let us have our first club club meeting. Hearing this, the lionesses both became excited. Seeing their reaction, Den could not help but smile. In fact, he was quite curious about it too. Three of them chatted for a while longer. Then Den said goodbye to the two. Professor Kentis called for me. I have to go. A moment later, Kentis is off. As soon as Den arrived, he began to ruminate. Antares is a terrifying summoned beast. There was once a summoner from the Rank Empire who summoned two of them, and it was a real knight. Just those two managed to take down 3 knights and dozens of soldiers. Hearing this made him remember something. It was said that Professor Kentis was also present in that battle. Seeing that Den did not respond, Kentis continued, "Yet you managed to take down that creature without a scratch." Den stared at, shaking his head and replied, "I was just lucky." Hearing this, Kentis began to lecture. Being overly humble can be a double-edged sword. Just like now. As I see it, your swordsmanship was the decisive fact, right? Den looked at Kentis in surprise, thinking to himself, he is not an ordinary person at all. While you were thinking, Kentis suddenly lifted his foot and walked away. He was talking as he walked, just 14 years old, but his skill and confidence in swordsmanship far surpassed his actual age. At this point, he suddenly paused, and after a long moment, continued, "So I want to ask you this. Do you want to officially learn swordsmanship from me?" Finishing his sentence, focused on you, waiting for your answer.